The god of time gave him one incredibly simple test: destroy a cicada. For a ruthless assassin, that is easy work. But stick with me, this is where it gets wild. The god wanted him to suffer, and suddenly everything went completely pitch black. His taste, his weight, his hearing, his sight, every single sense completely gone. He could only feel his hands gripping that spear. A normal guy would drop dead, begging for mercy. But him, he grabbed the weapon and just started swinging blindly in the void. He attacked and hit absolutely nothing. Swing again. Nothing. For a whole 100 years, he desperately chased a sound that did not even exist anymore. When his vision finally snapped back, that cicada was already crushed in his hand. He killed it 3 lifetimes ago and did not even realize it. The god of time just stared and called him the first human to not lose his mind. For that, he gets the ultimate reward he spent his life hunting for. But first, check out this young kid who just face-planted right into a totally brand new world. This super helpful adventurer is breaking it down for him, explaining the city, the system, and all the magic. Meanwhile, the poor kid just stares blankly, completely overwhelmed by the massive info dump. Guy flashes a warm smile, telling the classless newbie to just tag along with him for safety. He even offers some food since the kid is starving. The boy says thanks, follows him down a sketchy alleyway, and gets handed a perfectly normal, totally not poisoned drink. Now, watch closely, is he really drinking it? Nope. He aggressively spits it right in the dude's eyes, casually dropping that his cheap goblin paralytic poison literally always smells the exact same. Sure, it stings your mouth, but it burns the eyes like crazy. This creepy scammer starts panicking, totally baffled how a fresh rookie knew the trick. But our boy, he just delivers a brutal knee straight to the groin. He grabs the dagger hidden under the guy's coat and finishes the job fast. Then he drops the hardest quote, "Rule 1 trust. Absolutely nobody in this trash world." Yeah, brutal is an understatement. He is actually a regressor, but his past life, just a garbage C-rank mercenary, literally eating scraps off the floor. Desperate for one big payday, he randomly wandered into a dark dungeon. He found a weird artifact left by that exact god of time. It forcefully ripped his soul back to day 1 of being summoned here, but honestly, it felt totally useless since he still has the exact same issue as before. 0 class. Literally classless. After decades of pure suffering, all he got was a trash-tier bone buff talent. I know what you are thinking. Another Sung Jin Woo clone? Not quite. But trust me, this pale emo boy is about to make everyone completely tremble, and obviously the girls in this world are absolute top tier, so no complaints here. Jumping back to his disappointment, he realized nothing magically changed. His stats were identically trash, making the whole time travel thing feel like a scam. Still, he kept every single memory from the 13 brutal years he suffered in Area. Walking through town, he hits up the bone clinic. He knows this is exactly where his huge comeback story starts. Area summons all types of people. Mages, martial artists, but the most common drop, the absolute bottom of the barrel, the classless rookies. Sure, they can learn anything, but they are paper thin, mostly dying way before getting strong enough to actually survive. That was his old life. 13 long years as a C-rank scrub taking constant defeats, dying broke and completely forgotten. Now an old doctor intensely studies the kid asking for a bone remodeling procedure. Knowing the exact cheat codes, he missed Sungmin vows to rewrite history and get seriously overpowered. The gamble pays off. He secures the martial skeleton and that sweet celestial cultivation technique. 0 talent, 0 cash, but Lee feels his whole body leveling up walking outside. He just locked in the first of 3 epic chances to fix his fate. The skeleton literally rewired his body, making martial arts training an absolute breeze. He became the absolute first patient of this legendary acupuncturist who crafts artificial bones. The massive catch, you gotta be totally classless with 0 skills learned. Lee got locked out of this epic quest because he already learned a trash skill. But this time, he is in. Plus, the doctor is basically on his deathbed, meaning almost nobody else gets this insane buff. Huge bonus, he grabbed the true celestial technique, the ultimate cheat code for building up internal energy for cultivation. Sungmin also tracked down a first-rate martial technique hiding in a dusty Xenoverse library. The clueless owner practically gave it away for pocket change. Just like that, on day 1, he secured 2 of the 3 legendary opportunities. The final chance, winning the Coliseum tournament opening exactly 1 year from now. And luckily it is strictly an exclusive bloodbath for classless fighters only. He has exactly 1 year to train. Trust me, you and I need to see what comes next. Let's dive right into this wild manhwa. First up, our guy needs cash for a room, so monster hunting it is. The exhausted shopkeeper barely even noticed him. A bunch of guys were checking out the displayed armor. Eyes practically glowing, Sungmin marched up and said he wanted to buy some gear. The merchant raised an eyebrow. Could he actually pay? Buying the whole set would cost him at least 300,000 Eri. He actually tried begging for credit, failed miserably, and got tossed out. Still, the vendor couldn't ignore the sheer determination in his eyes. So Sungmin offered his clothes instead. He hyped them up as high-quality gear from an advanced world, but the vendor just burst out laughing. This commotion started annoying the other guys around them. The merchant flat out refused to lower the price just because the kid was completely classless. He thought the brat was totally shameless. Even so, brushing off the dirty clothes, he surprisingly agreed to sell to him on credit. Honestly, the vendor respected his guts. Fighting this desperately despite just being a kid, he figured the boy wouldn't die immediately and might actually become a regular. Fully geared up now, Sungmin stared down the dark, creepy forest. Going into debt for armor was 100% the right move. He felt super grateful and lucky that this new life was already changing course. He stayed absolutely on guard every single step. Stepping into the hunting zone, memories hit him. 13 years ago, he walked in here as a totally helpless kid with 0 skills and 0 armor. Back then, he was just pathetic. Now his system listed several gains, stuff like lightning step, martial skeleton, and destruction palm. The sun started setting. Now watch closely because something fast suddenly moved in the shadows. A goblin tried to ambush him from the trees, but Lee Sungmin was already firing off his soul, chasing spear technique. Bam! One strike pierced straight through the goblin's face. A beautifully clean 1 shot, 1 kill. The monster couldn't even put up a fight. Catching his breath, Sungmin suddenly felt sharp pain shooting through his body. Looking down at his hand, he instantly realized the problem. That 1-shot technique required his left hand for throwing support, and his weak, untrained palm got totally burned by the friction. He just smiled, vowing to toughen up those hands. Even if this regression felt a bit clunky, it was a totally fresh start. Meanwhile, in a dark alley, red smoke started rising. A mysterious young guy sat on the ground, casually activating his strange powers. Magic swirled around him as he sensed something weird nearby. Cut back to Sungmin finally returning to the cheap inn he used in Genevis. Pushing the doors open, he got a warm smile. Jack, the middle-aged innkeeper, was right there waiting for his favorite guest. Sungmin casually handed over the daily room fee using a shiny new dimensional pouch. Jack thought it was super weird for a classless kid to own something so rare, but Sungmin just played it off as a lucky bargain. Used to crazy daily events, the old guy didn't push it. Instead, he inspected the goblin teeth and fluids Sungmin brought. Jack let him crash for 2 extra days, accepting the monster parts as payment. Still, he was absolutely blown away by Sungmin's grind. He saw serious potential in this kid who rolled into Genevis with 0 class and 0 skills. 2 whole weeks later, he was still breathing hunting monsters daily and always dragging back enough loot to cover his rent. Jack noted that most classless newbies die trying. He even teased that Sungmin might become a massive legend like Zen. Wrapping up the chat, our boy turned around and headed upstairs. He muttered he desperately needed sleep after a crazy day. Safely in his room, he replayed Jack's praise. He wasn't some genius, just stubborn, completely desperate, and somehow still kicking. You and I both know the regression cheat code, right? Opening his status window, he confirmed he kept all his past life's martial arts knowledge. Sure, he could perfectly reuse those old techniques from memory, but honestly, the ones he previously mastered were basically trashed here. No matter how hard he grinded those basic skills, they'd never let him surpass the true monsters. Only his celestial cultivation technique felt like a real trump card. Mediocre on its own, but matched with elite martial arts, it could take him to the top, so he made the call to level up that specific technique first. Bright and early next morning, Luda, the innkeeper's daughter, blocked his path. Looking worried, she demanded to know why he kept risking his neck in the woods. She insisted he could easily take a safe, boring job nearby, but Sungmin's mind was completely locked in. Being dragged from another world hunting was his only real moneymaker. Luda still called him an idiot and begged him to get a normal gig. Super anxious, she even offered him shifts at the inn since her dad liked him. But honestly, cooking and scrubbing floors just wasn't his vibe. She just couldn't wrap her head around why he'd choose death over washing dishes. Sungmin just stayed silent, reflecting on this crazy second chance. Turning his back, he simply promised he'd return before dinner. Last life, he only survived by acting like a coward. He refused to repeat that pathetic cycle. This time, he swore to the heavens he'd grab everything he deserved. To pull that off, he was ready for absolute hell. He demanded a better life. Marching toward the hunt, the massive afternoon bell of Genevis suddenly rang out. That sound meant a new player just spawned. Instantly, he felt that familiar energy wave. It was a kid exactly his age from the first timeline. Trust me, we're going to want to see how he handles this helpless summon. Let us dive into an absolutely hilarious manhwa where scammers offer an easy mark poison bottles. He thought about helping the kid, but decided against it. Then he turned around and bumped right into someone. The guy was massive. Instantly, he got dragged into a ridiculous setup, completely falsely accused of snapping a bandit's collarbone. Furious, the giant punched him right in the face, knocking him flat before he could speak, drawing a massive crowd. Playing the victim, the huge attacker yelled that our boy snapped his bone and demanded he suffer the exact same injury. The confused townspeople totally ignored it and walked away. So the thug moved in to shatter the kid's collarbone. Furious, Lee Sungmin figured out this was one big scam. This thug was basically a third-rate martial artist. The idiot could not even tell a rib from a collarbone. Fighters are ranked by skill, and third class is barely passing. Honestly, Lee Sungmin had not even hit that level yet. He needed backup, but nobody in this town would help. Realizing the poor child would be sold as a slave, he finally stepped up and warned the kid to dodge the poison. The little kid looked totally confused, but stopped drinking immediately. Lee Sungmin prayed this kid knew martial arts and belonged to the Muram world. Then splash, the drink spilled everywhere. The massive thug stepped up, laughing that our boy would sell perfectly to rich nobles with seriously messed up tastes. Now watch closely, you will absolutely love this part. Lee Sungmin refused to back down, using lightning step to instantly close the gap on his enemy. And he followed up with exoskeleton steel break, catching the massive thug off guard. He kicked him right in the ribs. His partners just watched from afar. Destruction palm landed cleanly, but this giant man was just absurdly tough to beat. The two paused for breath. Despite having experience, Lee Sungmin still could not quite handle much stronger martial artists yet. The thug, not scared at all. He knew the smaller boy would exhaust himself first, while a henchman warned about incoming guards. Absolutely determined, Lee Sungmin rushed in again while the child watched closely. Realizing simple fists were useless, Lee Sungmin grabbed his spear without hesitation. Suddenly, the kid appeared right beside him, asking him to repeat his warning. Completely confused, Lee Sungmin told him to wait a second. He tried blocking the next strike, but the little kid stopped the giant's hand with a single touch. Boom! He blasted the thug away, shouting that he could not believe his own insects treated his savior so rudely. The bandit crashed into a pile of bodies. That palm strike had internal energy way beyond first or second class. You and I both know an overpowered twist when we see one. This kid was actually a peak martial artist. He realized this was Ouija Hoyan, the little celestial demon. The demon cult worships raw absolute power above absolutely everything else. The absolute strongest member becomes the celestial demon, making his son the untouchable young master. Yes, the kid was Ouija Hoyan. Even though they were the exact same age, the power gap between them was totally massive. Lee Sungmin knew he was facing an absolute legend in area. But Ouija Hoyan smiled and properly introduced himself anyway. Later on, the two chilled in a room together, and Lee Sungmin finally introduced himself. The boy dropped a huge truth bomb. Area was a completely different world with zero demon cults in sight. Ouija Hoyan laughed, clearly loving the vibe but with slight concern. He asked what Lee Sungmin had actually yelled back at the square. Shrugging it off, Lee Sungmin explained he was just warning him about the deadly goblin paralytic poison. The little celestial demon absolutely hated being talked to so casually. Lee Sungmin quickly bowed and apologized to the young master. Inside, he could not believe he was bowing to a 13-year-old. Ouija Hoyan smiled, totally thrilled. Pointing directly at Lee Sungmin, the kid mentioned his earlier martial arts, straight up calling his fighting techniques absolute trash. He called his fighting style a ridiculous joke, and asked where he learned such a complete mess. Lee Sungmin had zero clue where this conversation was going. But instead of mocking him, the overpowered boy actually offered to teach him. Lee Sungmin just stood there completely stunned in silence. Brimming with total confidence, the demon said. Lee Sungmin would level up crazy fast under him, but there was one strict condition. Shocked, our hero braced himself. Ouija Hoyan just wanted to be friends. Cold sweat dripped down Lee Sungmin's back completely and utterly, throwing him off. Since he was little, the demon heir just wanted a buddy. His dad never got it, but Ouija Hoyan read that friends help you overcome absolutely anything. His father coldly told him friendship was for normal people, not for him. Celestial demon insisted his son would rule all demons alone. So Ouija Hoyan grew up under non-stop brutal training. You and I can agree his dad was brutal, treating any human connection like absolute weakness. Let's dive into a crazy manhwa, where a 10-year-old kid casually massacres 50 people during training. But being Wu Wang's son, that's just a normal Tuesday. The kid didn't even blink. But his one wish for a buddy actually comes true when he meets Lee Sungmin, our main guy who totally regressed from the future. Being the heir of his sect, the pressure was insane from day one, forcing him into brutal, non-stop training. Thanks to that awful childhood, making friends was impossible. Yet somehow in this weird situation, these two actually promised to be best bros. Ouija Hoyan is absolutely glowing. He just can't hide his joy over his new pal Sungmin. So yeah, a 28-year-old regressor is now hanging with a 13-year-old. Ouija kicks things off by teaching Sungmin the mystic arts of the Violet Dawn. It's an epic demonic cult move, famous for its glowing purple energy, leaving Sungmin totally baffled. Expected straight-up demonic arts. But, since they're boys now, the little celestial demon insists he drop the formalities and just talk normally. When Sungmin finally speaks casually, the kid looks incredibly smug. Turns out, the true demonic arts are strictly locked to the cult leader and his heir, so Sungmin has to settle for different skills. Strolling through the thick woods, he suddenly realizes a whole lot of time has slipped by. Ouija trained him in the Violet Dawn arts for an entire month straight. Now he can completely obliterate multiple monsters without breaking a sweat, but he is still starving for more power. He is officially leveled up, hitting somewhere between 3rd and 2nd class. That's a massive upgrade from his past life. But despite the gains, Ouija constantly roasts his sloppy moves, pushing him to absolute breaking limits. Deep in the forest, Seungmin plans on looting his kills. Suddenly, a massive beast violently crashes through the tree line. Watch closely here, this lethal monster lunges right at him. One slow dodge and it's game over. Squinting through the dust, he spots an ugly orc. He glances right then left. Yep, he is completely on his own for this one. Solo fight it is. He violently shoves his spear right into the beast's thick chest, tearing a massive bloody hole straight through its entire body. He jumps back and wraps up the battle. It felt way too easy until Ouija's annoyingly harsh voice echoed in his head, ruining the vibe. Regardless, he inspects the weird-looking orc, knowing these things definitely don't belong here. Suddenly, a random voice starts clapping for him. The guy praises his insane strength at such a young age, slowly stepping out of the shadows. Enter Mun Hyung, a legendary fighter known as the Orchid-Destroying Sword of the Central District. Seungmin is totally on edge, wondering what this guy wants. Pointing to the fresh corpse, Mun Hyung explains he is hunting a rogue orc causing chaos. Cut to the city, a little monkey dude named Dangriang is having some serious doubts. He complains the kid standing there looks way too young for danger. But Mun Hyung quickly shuts it down, saying he witnessed the boy's raw power himself. He finds the kid's skills super intriguing. Wang Pei, the famous Black Rain Dagger, accepts the veteran's judgment and casually introduces himself too. Next up, a mage named Rainier chimes in proudly, saying she is from Vela's elite magic academy. Leaning in, she asks if our guy even knows what crazy mission they are taking on. Turns out a whole squad of orcs just built a hidden village nearby. These beasts are raiding towns and slaughtering innocent adventurers. Because of that, the guild dropped a massive 20 million Aerie bounty to annihilate their entire camp. If they survive, they split the massive payout 5 ways. Seungmin does the math instantly, realizing his own cut hits around 7 million Aerie. I know what you're thinking, easy money, right? But Seungmin still seriously doubts these guys, making Mun Hyung wait for his final answer. After a tense pause, he finally agrees. The veteran smiles, swearing the brutal mission will be way easier with him around. Seungmin appreciates the hype, but still feels uneasy. He points to the 2 random guys sitting quietly in the back. Turns out they are literally just pack mules with 0 combat class. Hearing our new guy is a Muram warrior, they instantly bow down in pure respect. Their only job is hauling heavy gear for whatever leftover scraps they get paid. Rainier tosses them some shiny coins, so they run off to buy apples. Rainier happily munches on apples during the whole trek. Soon the crew hits the disgusting orc village, estimating a massive horde of 50 monsters inside. They figure only 30 will actually charge out. Dangriang smirks, convinced these beasts are just slow and totally brainless. His plan, slaughter them all fast and snatch that fat reward, splitting the party into 2 groups. Seungmin is ordered to stick right by the veteran swordsman. The second team will bait the monsters out, divide them, and pick them off one by one. Rainier uses her wind magic to push human scent forward. Why? Because orcs are insanely territorial. After that, they just hide in the shadows, wait for the perfect opening, and let the mage charge her massive spell. Then the tiny monkey warrior and Mun Hyung will launch a bright signal, dragging the remaining monsters straight into the open. Boom. Plan set. Sounds almost too simple, right? Seungmin thinks it is a solid strategy for a tiny squad, even if laying down deadly traps would have been much safer. Mun Hyung signals that they have finally crossed into enemy territory. From this second forward, one mistake means death, so everyone better stay sharp. The vanguard pushes forward while the classless nobody struggles under a mountain of heavy gear. Stepping into the death zone, Seungmin seriously pities how brutal this porter gig is. It is a total nightmare for classless guys. Looking at the tired carrier's face, Seungmin immediately remembers his own pathetic past. He suddenly stops and asks the trembling man for his name. The carrier quietly mutters Brass. Nobody else thinks poor Brass will even survive the crossfire, so he makes him choose run or stay. Let's see what he decides. He knew the leader didn't give a damn. Guy was completely ignoring him. Panting heavily, Brass wheezed out that his legs were done. Let's dive in. Guild punishment for ditching unknown. Meaning our guy is totally on his own here. Spotting the village, one gave the kid the nod. Dodging patrols, they noticed nasty wooden stakes hidden in the tree line. Perfect moment for the signal flare, right? Nope. The kid calls a timeout and starts digging wildly through his magical dimensional pouch. The leader was totally lost. But then our boy dumps out water, ordering everyone to cake themselves in gross mud to mask their human scent. Slapping on the grime, he casually mentioned his master taught him this trick. He told one Young to get muddy too. Surprisingly, one obeyed and flopped into the dirt. The kid even helped out Brass before finally launching that flare. The orc spotted the strange fire. Then the leader casually suggested using the human carrier as bait. Toss him out, distract the monsters, and ambush. Hearing this, poor Brass absolutely freaked. He wasn't ready to die today, but one swore he'd survive, though he smoothly added that disobeying orders might get him killed anyway. He laughed it off like a joke while the squad waited. But our young warrior boldly stepped up to go first, showing absolute guts. Seeing his crazy confidence, the commander nodded. And hey, the plan worked perfectly, luring 13 angry orcs out and dropping them effortlessly one by one. Mid-battle, the kid was putting on a spear clinic. He landed brutally clean strikes while a wave of fresh orcs charged right at them. Slashing away, he suddenly thought, why am I even doing this? Snapping back to reality, he knew he had to save the defenseless carrier. Pure pity, maybe. But he decided to protect the guy even though they weren't friends. He just saw his own pathetic past in the desperate man. The orc circled waiting, trusting his brutal training, his spear thrust forward. Despite his master's strict voice echoing in his head, his grip stayed rock solid. Ouija Hoyan's lesson hit him. Real spear users strike from a distance. Channeling that energy, he unleashed the soul-chasing spear third form, lightning split strike. That single epic move absolutely shredded the mob of orcs they lured out. Right beside him, one Huoryong was swinging hard. Meanwhile, a massive orc targeted poor Brass, who was literally just standing there helpless. Guy just closed his eyes to die. Bam, our boy pierced the beast, saving him instantly. He smiled, genuinely glad he saved the normal guy. Soon the entire field was basically just dead orcs. The leader immediately started hacking off ears to keep score. Gross, but it proved their kills, assuming the second team didn't totally mess up. One tossed his heavy bag at Brass, barking at him to pack up the loot. Time to regroup. Brass looked completely starstruck, endlessly thanking the kid for saving his life before scurrying off for luggage duty. The kid quietly noticed how genuine that gratitude felt. Meanwhile, the squad waited for the trio. They were caked in gross mud but practically glowing with relief. Phase 1 worked perfectly, and the boss credited the young warrior for the speedrun. Watch closely. The real nightmare starts right here. Out of nowhere, something flies at them. A dagger slams straight into Renner's chest. She was clueless while the party mage suddenly started blasting her own teammates. Everyone panicked and drew their weapons. The kid instantly blocked the attacker with his spear. Boom, a memory from his past life hit him hard. He pictured himself dragging a massive sack just to earn pennies. A huge crowd was cheering nearby. His first ever public execution. The guy on the chopping block, a flashy mercenary from Morum, his crime, slashing his entire party in the back to steal the loot before getting caught. Past him stared at that guy's head on a spike. Present him staring at that exact same traitor who looks totally stunned by the block. I know what you're thinking. A wild coincidence, hardly. He literally watched this traitor die in his past life. 13 years later, that memory was crystal clear. The traitor actually admitted the kid was pretty tough for his age after that whole orc fight. This guy was a second-rate fighter. He taunted the young warrior, laughing that the kid was still way too weak. Knowing this clash was going to be brutal, Sungmin just glared back completely fearless. Despite being lower level, the kid's movement was flawless. He predicted every single swing, keeping the traitor away with crazy sharp spear thrusts. Reading the combat flow like a book, he scored a solid hit. Past life trauma plus Ouija Hoyan's hellish training officially made him a total monster. Watching from the sidelines, one was blown away. But he also realized the kid's stamina would eventually run out. Our MC is always 5 steps ahead. He'd laced that camouflage mud with poison, and guess what? It absorbs right through the skin. The poison instantly wrecked the traitor's balance and strength. With the fight slipping away, the desperate guy suddenly switched up his strategy. The villain threw himself to the side in a total panic. Lee Sungmin realized immediately this was a super risky play. Hands violently shaking, the coward grabs the luggage carrier hostage. One strike and the guy dies. So what do we think happens next? Stick with me here, this gets intense. Sungmin tensed up. Huoryong thought Brass was the perfect hostage, but our boy, he froze, never backing down. Still, using Brass as a human shield was a terrible mistake. He only helped Brass because the guy reminded him of his past life. Now pure rage. But worse, he could literally feel the poison spreading. Sungmin crushed his rising emotions, fatigue and doubt, forcing total calmness. In this brutal state, getting careless meant death. He absolutely had to save his strength. One missed strike, game over. But if he waited even a second too long, Brass was dead. Then Brass did the unthinkable. He smashed the guy's legs, buckling his knees. Seeing a classless man pull off something this insanely brave, absolute madness. Brass completely tackled Huoryong with his full body weight, but the enemy instantly stabbed him deep. Brass screamed. The villain smirked. But a split second later, our young warrior arrived. Panic hit the enemy's face, begging for mercy, but he was instantly killed. Meanwhile, the little demon finally crushed the mage, Wanpei. The fight was over, but the cost was brutal. Brass was dead. Sungmin just stood there, his spear completely piercing the enemy. After wiping them out, they dumped the bodies at the mercenary guild to cash in that sweet 35 million reward. Ouija Hoyan was actually relieved he survived, totally grilling him about being late. Completely drained, our protagonist crashed onto his bed. But losing brass, that weight still crushed him. Just a tiny bit more strength could have saved him. Sitting alone in his room, the guilt of everything he had done totally stained his mind. Now watch closely here. Ouija suddenly asked if he killed someone straight up smelling human blood on him. Sungmin totally played it off, explaining a second-rate martial artist attacked him, so he obviously fought back. But the little demon knew he was lying. The real question gnawing at her, what massive secret was he keeping hidden? Hearing her suspicion, he just stood up. He awkwardly admitted he didn't even know what he was hiding, totally feeling her doubt. He asked if beating a second-rate fighter was really that weird for him. But Ouija completely dodged the question. Looking into his eyes, she knew he wasn't normal. While wandering the city lately, Ouija had been studying how this crazy world worked. She saw the harsh reality of exactly how the classless actually survived. Most were starving and miserable. Think about it, killing bugs is super easy, but slaughtering an animal takes serious guts. During all their brutal training, Hoyan kept analyzing the boys' every move. Day one of being summoned, Sungmin ran straight into the forest to hunt monsters. For him, pure survival absolutely demanded it. You and I both know other classless couldn't do that. They probably knew they should, but risking their lives to kill, no way. His friend just couldn't grasp how a 14-year-old classless kid pulled off all that madness in 24 hours. Admitting he adapted suspiciously fast, she dropped her second doubt. Ouija basically said he had zero talent, teach him 10 things, he learns 3, yet somehow after only 2 months, his spear skills were way beyond a normal beginner. Zero rookie mistakes and his control over internal energy, ridiculously polished for a total newbie. That is exactly why she found it super sketchy that a talentless guy leveled up martial arts this quickly. Hoyan's expert instincts screamed that his calm face was a mask. Sungmin froze, panicking, so Hoyan straight up declared she absolutely hated liars. Dead silence. Sungmin mumbled that everyone has secrets they desperately want to protect. Forcing them out isn't something real friends do. She couldn't argue, only admitting she had a huge secret too. Like a classic Manhwa trope, she offered to trade secrets, but he completely rejected it. Still, she tempted him with a legendary martial art, but with zero talent and terrible internal energy, he knew he couldn't even use it. Completely stumped, she tried one last crazy gamble. She offered him 20% of her internal energy. That completely shook our protagonist. Deep down, she was just burning with curiosity about his secret. Being his only friend, she wanted to know everything. Staring into his eyes, she declared that's what true friendship meant to her. Sitting on his bed, Sungmin made her swear a promise. If he confessed the truth, she absolutely couldn't kill him. Ouija swore she'd never murder a friend. Then letting her hair fall, boom, she revealed she was actually a girl. Sungmin's jaw hit the floor. She explained her father hid it from the sect, forcing her to live as a boy to follow her path. This twist was so massive, Sungmin went totally silent. Even after coming to this world, she kept the disguise just out of pure habit. That was the insane secret she hid from everyone, and now she was fully trusting him with it. Recovering from the shock, Sungmin nervously joked they'd need separate rooms now. The mood was heavy, he realized he had to come clean too. And that's where we leave it, he finally just confessed he was a regressor. Stick with me here. Ouija Hoyan's eyes go wide. He just dropped the ultimate bomb, he died, went back in time and kept all his past life memories. Suddenly his crazy skills made total sense even if it sounded completely insane. But in this world, honestly, anything goes. Curious, she tilted her head, asking why she'd ever want to kill him over a secret. He might look like a 14-year-old kid, but mentally, he was 27. Guilt hit him hard for hiding his real age identity and his entire past. Hoyan literally did not care. She was the one who walked up to him, pushed him to learn martial arts, and chose him as her friend. He never tricked her. He just took the hand she offered. He had zero reason to end things. Over those 2 months, he became a genuine friend to her, and one crazy regression secret wasn't ruining that. To her, that's what true loyalty means. Her expression totally softened, thanking him for actually trusting her. Their bond was solid now, total trust and respect. Then she playfully poked fun at Sungmin. Even with a second life, his current stats were basically trash. She had endless questions, but whatever. Right now, she was seriously going to transfer her own internal energy to him. Our guy was completely stunned, she meant it. Internal energy is the ultimate battery martial artists build inside their bodies. It's how they pull off those superhuman moves. There are zero shortcuts here. You only get it through hardcore cultivation, which is why people spend lifetimes grinding for power. Now watch closely here. Starting the transfer, she realizes his blood vessels are completely clogged up with impurities. Still, she knew he could absorb at least a fraction of her power. He just needed the Violet Dawn arts to lock down 20%. Slapping her palm right onto his back, she initiated the heavy transfer as he gritted his teeth. Raw energy flooded his entire system. Totally exhausted after the push, Hoyan flashed a smile asking how the power-up felt. The pure heat and intense pressure blasting through his meridians left him violently trembling. That 20% alone dwarfed his entire past life's energy. He successfully locked in half of it, and his physical body completely evolved. The leftover energy would settle into his meridians, and with more Violet Dawn arts grinding, he'd finally master that massive power. Brained Hoyan literally face planted onto the bed. Sitting nearby, our boy deeply wondered why she was going. Let's dive right in. When he asked why, Ouija Hoyan just smiled. The reason, they're friends. Helping Sungmin was totally her choice, not some boring duty. Resting there, she felt completely satisfied with that. Hoyan decides to teach him one more epic martial art. The legendary Supreme Spear technique of the 9 heavens, straight from the Spear King. Even knowing Sungmin's trash tier limits, she wanted to give him absolutely everything to master it. And just like always, she claimed it was strictly for her own personal satisfaction. After all, he's her first actual friend in 13 long years. She refuses to let him die pointlessly like he did in his previous life. Our boy is totally moved by this. Holding his face, she straight up tells him to never, ever bow his head to a friend. Touching his bruised cheek, she just couldn't believe someone actually punched him. Then she slowly pulls him closer. Watch closely here. Smiling, she asks for juicier stories, sharing these crazy past secrets. Their bond instantly levels up. She's dying to know exactly what she was like in his past life. But Sungmin only knew the wild rumors. That she ruled the absolute peak of area with godlike power. After getting summoned, she left the city fast, then totally vanished for 3 years. Thinking it over, she figures she must have traveled quite a bit back then. She always craved real freedom. Back in her cult, any tiny bit of freedom was completely controlled by the leader. That's exactly why being summoned here, making a real friend, made her so happy. Finally, she drops the bomb. She's leaving in exactly 1 month. Dreaming of total freedom, she wants to explore the world for herself. After passing down the supreme technique, she's hitting the road just like before. Now she wants to hear his big master plan. How does he want to live this time? I know what you're thinking. Does he have a plan? Honestly, no idea. Remembering his trash past life and all that pain, he only knew one thing. He never wants to repeat it. He just wants a decent life this time. But to her, that's way too vague. She is absolutely determined to dig out Lee Sungmin's actual end goal. Resting his head on the bed, he admits he still isn't sure. She smiles, saying she'll gladly wait until he finally figures it all out. She also wants every single detail about his past life. Embarrassed, our guy admits he really doesn't have much to tell, but thinking about it, Sungmin suddenly realizes he has never had anyone to genuinely call a friend in any lifetime. Hoyan was his absolute first. A month flies by fast. Now trust me, you'll want to stick around for this. She's testing his new skills before leaving. Let's jump into it. It was their final sparring session and he had to go all out. He had to show off everything he'd learned. Hoyan just smirked. Okay, beating her was still a stretch. Alright, you and I are jumping straight into this crazy showdown. Sungmin raises his spear, super suspicious when she offers 20 free strikes. He hesitates, mapping out his opening move. Then he remembers the upgraded Supreme Spear of the 9 Heavens she custom made for him. Hoyan actually named the technique after him. That wasn't just a basic skill upgrade, it meant she truly saw him as someone special. It perfectly fused the 9 Heavens technique with the absolutely deadly soul-chasing spear. Modified totally for Sungmin, the spar kicks off. Gripping his weapon, he unleashes his new technique, immediately chaining it into the soul-chasing strike. Hoyan just waits calmly. With one tiny step, she dodges the whole thing. But he keeps pushing faster, sharper, fiercely controlled. Stance 2, lightning-splitting pursuit. That nervous kid who could barely hold a weapon, yeah, he is totally gone now. He mastered raw force, redirecting enemy attacks and locking down momentum. Throw in some sneaky precise thrusts designed to shatter any guard and he is lethal. Sure, those are basic fundamentals he taught himself, but to hit true peak performance, he is going to need daily practice to master them. This spar with Hoyan puts all that epic growth on display. Still, he cannot go all out against her just yet. Getting frustrated, he packs explosive aura into every single hit. Hoyan actually smiles, glad he took her advice. But as his stamina drops, the massive power gap becomes painfully obvious. Now watch closely because this is wild. Even at second-rate tier, she effortlessly stops him using just one hand. Facing a true master, totally blocked, he still charges in again. She deflects every heavy blow like it is nothing. 19 brutal attacks, all completely shut down by her right hand alone. Realizing he lost, he throws a sneaky final strike, snapping the blade inches from her face. He smirks, fully convinced he finally scored a point. Boom, she vanishes. Before he even blinks, she appears right behind him. Game over. Even so, Hoyan hypes him up, acknowledging his insane talent. With his new internal energy, he is a natural. He instinctively sensed her hidden presence first, a rare skill only true geniuses ever unlock. She is confident in his potential, declaring his spear arts will become legendary. She talks like she can literally see 10 years into the future. The fight was basically a warm-up for her, but she is thrilled he blew past her expectations. Then she drops a promise they will reunite in 10 years. A month ago, she asked his life goal and he still drew a blank, so she makes it simple. Make beating her the ultimate goal. Without ambition, you are just existing. Come back in 10 years and defeat me. Sungmin freezes, doubting he could ever catch up. He argues he lacks talent, unlike Hoyan, a literal genius pumped full of epic elixirs. Their starting lines are not even on the same planet. You and I both know that old past life trauma still drags him completely down. She absolutely despises that weak mindset, her harsh words igniting pure fury in his eyes. He snaps back that he spawned in area with literally nothing. He fought boars in the dirt and survived like absolute garbage until he died. Hoyan claps back. He mastered mystical techniques and hit second-rate tier in just 3 months. Even with a second life, he refuses to dream bigger. She desperately tries giving him a wake-up call, but he just gets more defensive. Seeing his intense rage, she finally backs off. Sungmin cannot believe a 13-year-old is lecturing him. Eventually, he accepts the insane challenge. He makes her his goal awkwardly, threatening to pierce her heart, which completely freaks Hoyan out. Not her intention. Real friends don't murder each other. With the tension gone, he agrees immediately, getting super embarrassed. She relentlessly teases him, leaving him totally flustered. Wrapping things up, they lock in their 10-year promise. Smiling, she says she will anticipate his spear skills. He pauses. That sounded kind of weird, right? Even young, she loves messing with him. Sure, the age gap was huge, but she just teased him about it, stepping closer and keeping the pressure high. She joked that in 10 years, she'd be fully grown, leaving him zero room to complain. After that, Sungmin locked in 3 massive goals. First, survive. Second, squeeze every single advantage out of his past memories. As Hoyan packed her bags, he finally said his goodbyes. He promised her they would definitely cross paths in exactly 10 years. His final and absolute biggest goal, do not die before that reunion. He swore to Hoyan he'd survive. Why? Because now he actually had a reason to live. And just like that, they split up. Back in Genovs, Lee Sungmin scored 3 massive jackpots: the martial skeleton, the true celestial cultivation technique, and the tournament of the classless. Only fighters with literally 0 class could enter it. 10 months after Hoyan left, Genovese hosted the tournament again. By now, Sungmin had hit first-rate martial skill, winning absolute child's play. Stick with me here, his prize was a secret energy-boosting elixir. He chugged it down instantly. Sure, compared to Hoyan's stuff, it was pretty weak sauce, but Sungmin knew he had finally squeezed every last drop of value out of Genevis. Time to pack up. Heading out, he bumped right into Hans, that trusty local street vendor. Hans totally hyped him up, asking what he was buying. But the mood shifted fast once Sungmin dropped the sudden goodbye news. Hans nodded. He smiled, looking proud but definitely a bit sad. He backed this classless kid from day one, truly believing he'd survive out there for a long time. And before Sungmin could walk away, Hans handed over a special gift, a used dimensional bag with 50% more space. Sungmin was totally baffled. Why would he just give away something this insanely valuable? Hans laughed it off. Just accept the gift, kid. Besides, resale value was basically 0 anyway. Think of it as an investment. Once Sungmin hit the big leagues, he could pay him back 100-fold. Just don't forget the humble vendor who helped you out early on. Seriously touched by this, Sungmin thanked him deeply. Before skipping town, he swung by his old inn one last time. But Lula, the innkeeper's daughter, immediately blocked his path. She instantly knew what was up. The room was completely spotless, a dead giveaway he was checking out for good. Pouting, she muttered that cleaning was actually her job. Honestly, looking at her, Sungmin realized how incredibly grateful he felt for his time here. Lula knew guys like him always moved on eventually, and she was used to it. Still, hearing him say it out loud, her face totally fell. Now, pay attention. She hated this sudden goodbye so much before he left, she actually blurted out, hoping he'd die horribly somewhere far away. Then she angrily stomped right off. Jack, the innkeeper, saw the whole tantrum. Totally clueless about women, he just scratched his head and apologized, blaming her sudden outburst on her young age. Sungmin just smiled calmly, showing off some real inner maturity. Then Jack handed over an old cloak from his own glory days. It looked plain but packed heat retention and sword magic. Talk about a super useful hidden gem. Sungmin thanked him, though Jack noted he'd need it resized. Honestly, he then proudly called Sungmin the absolute best classless guest this inn had ever seen. Holding back tears, Jack told him to stay incredibly safe. Wearing his new cloak, Sungmin finally left but suddenly paused, hearing rapid footsteps sprinting right toward him. Just as he was leaving, Lula screamed his name and ran straight at him. He spun around. There she was completely out of breath from running so insanely hard to catch up. Catching her breath, she slowly looked down and totally took back all those angry words she'd yelled earlier. Dripping with sweat, she confessed she actually wanted him to live a long, happy life instead. Sungmin was completely stunned. She ran all this way just to say that. Coming straight from the heart, Lula wished him well, adding that if he ever got tired, he should just come right back here. Deeply touched, he smiled and thanked her warmly. Then she nervously admitted that her feelings had actually started changing, seeing him completely differently lately. She didn't fully get it herself, but yeah, she definitely liked him. Total silence fell. Then Sungmin just smiled. He already knew. She was absolutely terrified he'd die out there, but he gently promised he'd be totally fine. Saying a real goodbye, Lula instantly burst into tears. You know, back in his past life, Genevis actually took him 3 whole years to finish. You see the difference, right? This time just 1 year, and instead of 0 good memories, he was finally leaving with moments he truly wanted to keep. Glancing back, he honestly wondered if he'd ever see Arya again. Carrying just one single promise survive, Lee Sungmin finally arrived at Mount Mush while still super young. Next up, choosing a prohibition. If he wanted to live through this, he had to endure pure hell. He suddenly remembered Hoyan needing a meetup spot since her map skills totally sucked. So needing a solid central hub, he locked in Behar. That promise was 9 whole years away, so now came the big question: where to first? Rushing straight to Behar made 0 sense right now. Mercenary work definitely crossed his mind, but that just meant repeating his tragic past life. He desperately needed a brand new path. Time to level up, so he aimed for Mount Mush area's legendary land of the god of divine trials. Rumor had it training there was hundreds of times faster and way more effective. Plus, it was super close. Decision made. Finding the mountain, he jumped right into brutal training under a priest's crazy strict prohibitions. He got slapped with 2 curses. First up, the weight prohibition. His body, his clothes, and even his bag instantly felt like absolute anvils. Even plain bread felt like pure lead. But the second curse, way worse. The second he bit into food, he felt violently sick. Food tasted so incredibly awful that he basically threw up instantly. That was the second prohibition, completely twisting his entire sense of taste. He didn't lose his taste though. Instead, everything became beyond disgusting. We're talking flavor texture, just an absolute nightmare. Felt like chewing a live wriggling bug. Trust me, you'll definitely want to see how he survives without eating, because he was seriously shaken up. Stick with me, we're watching his breaking point. He actually thought about quitting this trial. Becoming a mercenary for Bahadur would get him to rank B so fast. Honestly, that alone was way better than his pathetic old life. But then Weiji Hoyan crossed his mind. Remembering her pushed him to bite into the bread even though it tasted like literal garbage. Still, he kept pushing. Cursing Mush for this brutal curse, he chose to just suck it up. Close by, the goddess murmured about him being an arrogant human. Suddenly, pure energy rushed right through his veins. He spun around. Nobody there. Just his imagination maybe. Then a whole week passed. The weather was turning into an absolute nightmare, but he still went hunting. Spotting a deer, he grabbed his spear, hid, and waited to strike. But getting up close, the deer looked so innocent that he just couldn't do it. He froze, letting his dinner completely escape. Lee Sungmin's mountain survival was becoming a total disaster. He seriously doubted how much longer he could survive. Completely wiped out, he dropped his spear. Surviving on just cursed bread and water was wrecking his body. Up here, he had to secure his own food, shelter, and clothes, all while bearing those insane limits. Extreme weather swings, crazy fast beasts. His weighted body made hunting a nightmare, and even if he won, that taste curse made eating absolute torture. His original plan was to train here for 2 years. At 1 week in, he was basically done. But watch closely here, because suddenly a weird presence approached him. A strange woman walked up. He had absolutely no clue who she was. Luckily, the mountain's rules stopped fighters from actually killing each other. Plus, this mysterious girl clearly had a curse that completely muted her voice. Hand gestures only. Sungmin figured out her silence penalty almost instantly. Then boom, that exact same deer from earlier dropped dead in front of him. Using a stick, she wrote out words. She'd been creeping on him for days, realizing he was absolutely going to starve to death. So she stepped in, thankful but totally paranoid. He asked about her price. Her answer, nothing. She was genuinely just trying to be helpful. This weird lady seriously carried his survival. Calling herself a kind soul, she magically appeared whenever he was about to collapse. Eventually, he asked for her name. The answer completely blew his mind. Bake Sogo. The lightning. A literal legend from his past life known worldwide for moving faster than a flash of light. I know what you're thinking. A legendary master, awesome. Except he remembered that in 8 years the little celestial demon kills her. On Mount, Mush fighters got hit with a brutal new curse every 6 months, but violence was strictly banned. Sungmin racked his brain trying to figure out how someone that strong could die in a random dungeon. Right beside him, she stared intensely. When she suddenly moved, he totally flinched out of pure panic. Tracing words on a rock, she checked up on him, clearly worried the guy was starving again. Even with all her crazy martial arts skills, her penalty blocked her from using sound transmission too. Looking closer, he spotted another massive problem. After 18 months up here, her latest curse completely killed the feeling in her left arm. Just like him, she was surviving on impossible hard mode. Sogo felt bad for him, mainly about his ruined taste buds. Curious, he asked about everyone else's curses, so she decided to introduce him to the veterans. Before he could even blink, she vanished like a literal bolt of lightning. Startled out of his mind, he wondered how anyone could ever match that speed. Even without extra gravity, he couldn't move like that. Lugging his heavy body around, he knew his movement skills needed major work. Hyped up, he practically begged her for lessons, then awkwardly pretended it was just a joke. Instead, she grabbed him one-handed and hoisted him up. He was way too slow, so she just piggybacked him. Freaking out, he begged for a timeout to process this, but she ignored him and bolted. Reaching camp, a disgusting smell hit them. Scarlet, a future Grand Mage, suffered a curse blocking her from showering or changing clothes. Doko Jun, the future Phantom Sword, was completely blind. Meanwhile, Sogo had lost her voice, her left eye, and her left arm. Sungmin quickly realized he was chilling with some seriously famous names right now. Down the road, they'd become the biggest powerhouses around. But today, just nobodies. Scarlet asked him about his penalties. Hearing he actually started with 2, she totally doubted him, betting he wouldn't last a single week. But the old man argued 2 curses made perfect sense for real power. He saw the kid was ready to smash his limits whatever the cost. Sungmin agreed completely. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what's next. Alright, let's dive right back in. Doc Beijun explained, lots of fighters visited this mountain but only 4 survived the last 6 months. The old man said he would watch what our boy did next. He also mentioned Bake Sogo started with exactly 2 prohibitions just like him. Once the quick introductions wrapped up, they headed back. But wait, she mentioned 4 people trained here for over a year and a half. That meant a mysterious 5th person was around, a guy named Flam. Just hearing his name made everyone super nervous. Doc Beijun flat out warned them that Flam was dangerous and should totally be avoided. Sungmin was confused about why everyone feared this guy, but he shrugged it off. 4 brutal months passed, and honestly, our guy got insanely strong. The prohibitions got way worse. Crazy extra weight and skipping meals felt like absolute hell. Still, his progress was totally crazy. After 4 months, his Violet Dawn mystic art hit 3 stars. His strikes became incredibly sharp and completely devastating. Mount Mush was absolute torture, but the massive gains, totally worth it. During the day, he grinded the Supreme Ring of the 9 Heavens spear style. At night, he leveled up his Violet Dawn mystic art. He basically ate the pain for breakfast even when his bones screamed. He chose this crazy grind, and he was absolutely sticking to it. His whole body completely transformed, and his old clothes got way too tight for him. Now pay attention, this is where everything changes. A new kid his age appeared completely fascinated by the epic spear technique he just watched. Chilling nearby, the newcomer smirked and said he rarely saw kids his age on the mountain. He casually dropped his name, Flam. Yep, the terrifying guy everyone dreaded. Super curious, he asked for the name of the kid with such mad skills. Meanwhile, Scarlet practiced her magic, deeply pondering what true genius meant. Doc Beijun had said Flam was so brokenly overpowered that he literally just laughed at everyone else. He literally told Sungmin that meeting this freak would cause absolute despair. Sweating buckets over the old man's warning, he nervously introduced himself as Lee Sungmin. Flam smirked, totally knowing his scary reputation had arrived first. Then our guy turned away, saying he had to grind his spear skills, not gossip. Sungmin seriously doubted this annoying kid was a prodigy. As Flam left, Sungmin swore not to waste energy on him. But the obnoxious kid just kept annoying him, rapid-firing questions like an absolute stalker. Just as Lee Sungmin turned to start his training, his beloved spear vanished. He snapped his head around. Flam was holding it, smiling like an absolute creep to get a reaction. Getting your weapon stolen is basically a massive slap in the face. But honestly, Sungmin was mostly just super confused at first. Flam totally shrugged, claiming he was just borrowing it. And then he randomly started mimicking Sungmin's signature moves. Tapping into the supreme balance of the 9 Heavens spear style, he launched an attack. Are you seeing this? He perfectly mirrored the tree-cutting strike. With smooth, thunderous hits, Flam effortlessly stole the exact spear technique Sungmin had grinded for months. Looking at the crazy damage, Flam admitted it was an awesome art. Lee Sungmin was absolutely stunned. He literally mastered a technique just by looking at it once. Flam stood there, giggling, loving the fact that he was totally superior. Sungmin completely boiled with embarrassment. Flam literally mocked everyone for coming here to suffer, especially since he could wipe the floor with them so easily. But he casually added that none of them compared to him. Sungmin listened totally baffled. Flam called Beck Sogo, Scarlet, and Doc Beijun total weirdos. He bragged about copying anyone, perfectly admitting he had absolutely zero idea why he was so broken. In Sungmin's eyes, this guy was practically a shining god. How could a normal dude like him ever close the gap against a literal monster? This felt way worse than dealing with Hoyon. She hid her insane skills and acted normal instead of flexing her massive superiority. Flam randomly asked what Sungmin's prohibition was, and he bragged about surviving 4 prohibitions, totally laughing at the humility rule, making Sungmin nervously step back. Flam offered the spear back, but Sungmin violently rejected it. Overwhelmed by sheer anger, embarrassment, and feeling totally useless, he completely rejected Flam's annoying presence. Flam just blinked at the anger. He brutally told Sungmin to pack up and quit the mountain if he was going to cry about being weak. Attacking another trainee here was totally against the rules. So when Sungmin finally lunged, Flam just kept laughing. He basically called Sungmin a coward, saying he only attacked because Goddess Mush's magic prevented any real injuries. Baek Sogo suddenly materialized like a ghost, witnessing the entire mess. Flam casually played the victim, whining that Sungmin was totally overreacting over a borrowed weapon. He confidently added that the spear skill was top tier, but Sungmin was simply too weak to master it. Elite martial arts require insane mastery, meaning our boy Sungmin still had miles to go on this crazy mountain. Basically, harsher limits meant better rewards from Mush. So what do you and I learn here? Push yourself to the absolute edge. But before Flam could brag more, his prohibition magically zipped his mouth shut. Behind him, Baek Sogo looked genuinely shocked by his crazy confidence. But it was way too late. Someone already knew exactly what his next move had to be. Pumped full of emotion, he bolted toward the temple. Baek Sogo tried screaming his name, but her own prohibition literally gagged her. That word talent kept echoing in her head, totally crushing her pride. Meanwhile, our guy was practically screaming for Goddess Mush. His insecurity skyrocketed until pure frustration morphed right into despair. Hearing her own name dropped, Mush manifested to check out this noisy human. Now watch this. Closely gripping his spear, he demanded a brand new prohibition. Boom. Sungmin suddenly dropped into a wild divine space. The absolute unit he had summoned was right there. Mush, goddess of prohibitions, standing squarely in her own divine domain. He double-checked if she was actually Mush. Yep, 100%. The literal goddess had answered his direct call. Super curious, she asked if he really wanted another penalty. He already carried taste and weight, both absolute torture. Even so, he was ready to tank one more. Mush was heavily skeptical about his motives. Why? Because his soul carried the glaring mark of a regressor, someone who rewinded time itself. Gods can read a mortal's karma perfectly. Everyone is born fated to die. Breaking that golden rule completely shatters fate. People who crush their destined limits are called transcendental beings. Newsflash, he was not one. He still defied all logic and bounced back after death. Every single existence is bound by cause and effect. Cheating death was a massive glitch, demanding an insanely heavy karmic price. Now I know what you're thinking. What's the catch? While alive, nothing. But after death, he'd suffer for millions of hours. The real cost of cheating fate. But our guy literally couldn't care less about death right now. Meanwhile, Baek Sogo looked absolutely sick to her stomach over his crazy choice. She realized he actually took on another curse, despite already carrying 2 brutal ones. Shaking, he realized he actually made her panic. Her face was pure shock. Then she finally managed to ask what insane prohibition he picked this time. Brace yourself. He took the prohibitions of heat and dreams. Abstract curses tied to the mind are vastly more brutal. The first one wiped all physical warmth. Fire and sunlight, completely utterly useless now. The second turned every sleep into pure nightmare fuel, looping his darkest memories. Childhood trauma, pure panic, his parents, every horrible thing constantly attacking his mind. Sleep was practically torture now, and Baek Sogo realized this guy was actually crazy. Was totally suicidal. Even if it leveled him up fast, the toll was sickening. While she snapped at him, he just stared back with this totally heartbreaking sad smile. He admitted he had 0 talent. His leveling was painfully slow for a guy juggling so many heavy curses. That massive gap between raw effort and 0 talent made Baek Sogo question who he truly was. Lee Sungmin picked a goal miles above his own pay grade, and Flam had shown him exactly what the grind required. If he wanted to stand next to absolute geniuses, he had to do something equally insane. Boom. In that exact moment, she totally understood his madness. Total silence, not a single word dropped. Then she just smiled, realizing how impossibly massive his ambition was. Sogo also wanted to be the strongest in the entire world, so she got it. Sungmin just listened, completely lost. He remembered asking her to teach him movement skills way back. Even though she laughed it off before, she was dead serious about teaching him now. She handed him a top-tier secret manual called Shadowless Soulflight. It was a movement and mystic art crammed with everything she knew about speed. Skimming the pages, he immediately realized just how incredibly broken this skill really was. So what do you and I take from this? She gave him priceless knowledge just because he would never quit. From now on, she was officially his senior sister. Smiling softly, she admitted she actually caught feelings and deeply cared about him. Plus, she liked viewing herself as someone who buffs others. The main character started grinding again, keeping Ouija Hoyon's memory locked in. You ready? He swapped between the Supreme Spear of the Nine Heavens and Soul Pursuit. By stance, 5 pure deadly lightning crackled. Inside his head, he vividly pictured the absolute physical devastation his body would suffer just facing Hoyon. Over 10 grueling years of non-stop training, and he still couldn't scratch the little heavenly demon. Brutal truth, Hoyon called, teaching him a total mistake. She completely gave up on him. The surge of power, she ripped back everything. Her strike shattered his dantian, erasing his ability to ever use martial arts again. She just walked away. Sungmin screamed for his friend every single agonizing step, pushing his broken body past its absolute limit, drowning in terror. Lee Sungmin violently gasped awake. That horrific nightmare of Ouija Hoyon left him dripping sweat, heart hammering. Just a dream. He exhaled a shaky breath, desperately trying to steady his trembling hands right before noticing a mysterious girl silently staring at him. Startled, he locked eyes with Scarlet. She had been creeping on him the whole time. Immediately questioned his insane routine, specifically stacking even more strict prohibitions. Let's dive right in. Her smell was literally eye-watering. Up close, she sarcastically mocked his pathetic choices, roasted his big dreams, and flat out told him he was definitely going to die. He was literally gagging from her stench when Doko-jun arrived. Believe it or not, they actually showed up just to help him. Totally confused, he had no idea why they randomly appeared. Scarlet made it clear they were here for Lee Sungmin. That mute woman sent them packing some seriously handy magical tools. Knowing Baek Sogo was pulling the strings, it all clicked. Scarlet had brought magical scrolls, so he could actually learn real spells. Those scrolls made casting magic a total breeze. Meanwhile, Doko-jun offered a rougher kind of help, beating his body into shape to endure the insane pain of his physical limiters. Fired up, our guy was ready to give it his absolute all. Right then and there, the duo started prepping him for pure combat. Scarlet slapped him with 4 types of magic. First up, mental cleansing. Basically a scrub down for his brain to wash away all those terrible nightmares. The second spell was an easy buff to rapidly boost his physical strength. Super helpful for carrying those crazy weight penalties. While getting smacked around by Doko-jun, he spammed the third spell just to restore his drained energy. It basically acted like an energy drink for stamina. But chugging too much would literally drain his lifespan and it could totally misfire. Still, to survive this absolute hell of a training camp, he had no other choice. Now watch closely because even with all those buffs, his fight against the blind old man was embarrassing, barely lasting 100 seconds. Still, Sungmin promised to do better. Suddenly, that insane heat penalty violently rippled through his entire body. Doko-jun immediately stepped in, poking key pressure points to help him manage the wild temperature shifts. And hey, pretty soon the kid actually started feeling somewhat normal again. The swordmaster hit his blood vessels, cranking his metabolism up to 11 so he wouldn't completely collapse from the penalty. Job done, the grumpy old man just silently wandered off casually, mentioning how impossible it was to find a decent sparring partner up here. Lee Sungmin felt insanely grateful. Without their random rescue, he'd be totally dead by now. Ever since he traveled back in time, everyone was being weirdly nice to him. Honestly, it felt super suspicious and strange. The world usually sucked. But this time around, people were actually treating him way better than anything he remembered from his miserable past life. Walking away, Scarlet yelled out to the old guy who instantly complained about her horrible stench from halfway across the yard. She got ridiculously mad over being judged for skipping a few baths. Stink aside, the two started gossiping about Lee Sungmin and the crazy amount of help they were offering. For a battle maniac obsessed with martial arts, this grumpy grandpa was actually babysitting the kid with genuine concern. Same went for Scarlet, wasting time crafting magic scrolls by hand. Honestly, even they had no clue why they were carrying this newbie so hard. I know what you're thinking, why all the sudden charity? Well, Sungmin wondered too, but ultimately just decided not to overthink his own good luck. In this second life, he was just happy to catch a break. Fast forward 6 whole months, and our warrior is white-knuckling his weapon like a madman. Alone deep in the woods, he kept grinding away his face, looking completely and utterly dead inside. Yet he refused to tap out. Meanwhile, some annoying guy nearby literally called him a helpless larva. Surprisingly, even the heckler was impressed he survived this long without quitting. But our warrior just stayed frozen on his knees, completely ignoring the guy. He had been ghosting this dude since day one. Or maybe he just took the silencing penalty at the 6-month mark just to shut everyone out. Running his mouth nonstop, the guy claimed he expected Sungmin to pick far more brutal penalties. Without warning, our MC dropped his heavy weapon into the dirt. The annoying watcher paid close attention. This guy was miles past who he was 6 months ago. His dodging crisp. Balance and movement absolutely flawless and steady. Those moves he stole from Baek Sogo fit like a glove. The stalker smirked, realizing even a pathetic bug evolves if it just keeps crawling. Laughing out loud, he mocked that crawling was Sungmin's peak. Rocking 5 different limiters, our guy just blocked out the haters and kept swinging. Suddenly curious, the annoying guy watched with wide, shocked eyes. Finally, Sungmin snatched his weapon back up. Guy angrily demanded to know why he was still getting ghosted, bragging he could easily read Sungmin's body language anyway. Exhausted, our hero genuinely wondered if this loser had an actual life. Sure, the dude was dangerous, but the mountain's strict no-killing rule meant he was basically harmless right now. Rule or not, the jerk still smacked him down. Sungmin collapsed, totally failing to even see the hit coming. Laughing like a villain, the guy called it pathetic watching him writhe around. He'd actually found a tricky loophole to inflict pain indirectly. Flexing his blade, he bragged that Sungmin could never pull off a move like this. Yep, a literal glowing chi sword. He rubbed it in, claiming Sungmin would never taste this kind of power. While peasants had to bleed for an inch, geniuses like him reached the top effortlessly. But despite all the mocking and limiters, our MC just kept pushing forward, totally shocking the arrogant jerk. The guy thought endless despair was the only end for someone untalented. Honestly, maybe the grind was pointless, but Sungmin was gonna fight on his own terms regardless. Trust me on this, no matter how long it takes, he'll keep crawling right to the top. Let that guy stay arrogant. Someday, Sungmin would run his spear right through that proud body. Despite the flashy taunts, the boy stayed completely silent. He viciously jammed his spear into the tree. The other guy completely understood his wordless, violent message. Standing there like an absolute boss, he simply replied that if Sungmin actually believed he could win, he would gladly wait for that showdown. You and I know our guy. He was never quitting halfway. 1 month passes. Marking his full year on this brutal mountain, it was time for another deadly penalty. He boldly chose the prohibition of hearing, absolute pure torture. His ears constantly rang with a maddening, horrible noise he could never ignore. Rocking 6 lethal prohibitions, he practically lived at death's door, yet swung his spear flawlessly. Every single movement let him dodge, plant his feet, and strike super cleanly. He trained the supreme spear of the 9 heavens, Violet Dawn, Mystic Arts, and Shadowless Soulflight. Sparring sessions with Dako Jun and intense training alongside Baek Sogo massively boosted his skills. Scarlet, however, was basically entirely useless. Even as his power spiked, the drawbacks hit hard. His body felt like lead food tasted awful, and nightmares intensified. The freezing chills worsened, and that endless deafening noise constantly blasted his ears. But honestly, it was great for drowning out Flam's annoying trash talk whenever he showed up. So slowly, crawling like a larva, our hero just kept getting stronger. Meeting Mush again, he was totally confused. Why call him now when his next brutal prohibition was still weeks away? She just smiled, congratulating him on passing the test. He stood there completely lost until Flam randomly popped out of nowhere. Startled out of his mind, he listened as Mush dropped the bomb. Flam was the test. Suddenly, every single piece clicked. Sogo, Scarlet, and June were famous legends in area, but Flam never heard of him. A guy packing that much raw power couldn't just be a random nobody. The crazy truth, Flam literally did not exist. Smirking, Flam explained he existed purely to use his massive power to crush practitioners into absolute despair. Watch this. Even the ultimate geniuses would see this guy totally lose their minds and run away screaming. Our boy built different. Zero talent, yet he dove headfirst into an insanely harder trial and made Flam his ultimate target. Sure, it was wildly reckless, but Flam literally couldn't break his spirit. That insane stubbornness totally worked in his favor. Mush gave a strict warning, never leak Flam's true identity to the others, or he would face pure, divine wrath. Regardless, our guy was staying on this hellish mountain to train. His massive reward would unlock the second he finally left. Mush straight up offered him power beating 100 years of intense training if he traded his soul. He instantly rejected it. He'd much rather drag himself through the dirt and earn his strength the hard way. That instantly made him question his true potential. He absolutely despised the word effort. No matter how hard he worked, he could never catch those geniuses. But having god-tier talent didn't mean they were skipping leg day either. He hated anyone who ignored real talent gaps by claiming everything was just effort. Yet, ironically, since his past life, he'd used that exact excuse as a pathetic shield for his own defeatism, but not this time. He had received way too many miraculous second chances to keep crying about unfair starting lines. That comfy little shelter was burnt down. The only option left was charging straight ahead. The very first time he was putting real effort into this grind. He swore he could endure the pain simply because he loved it. Mush's face totally lit up seeing his iron resolve. Turning away, she randomly asked if she could just talk out loud to herself. She muttered that absolute zero coincidences exist in Area. Everything happens for a specific reason. Area dragged in random travelers from completely different dimensions, handing out crazy abilities as a bonus, but nobody actually knew the real reason why. So what do we take from this? She wasn't just mumbling to herself, she was secretly feeding him the ultimate lore drop. Let's dive right in together. The girl went dead silent. If our guy came back, something massive was definitely coming. He had to be completely ready. worthy of this second chance. She capped off that heavy thought with a smile, but her eyes pure worry. Raising one hand, she claimed this territory, warning someone to leave right now or get totally destroyed. A fragment began shattering with huge cracks tearing into holes. Totally confused, our guy just stood there. But Mush ordered him back immediately. He had to finish his hardcore training. Zero time to waste. Before he even spoke, she sent him away. Could Lee Sungmin actually stop the upcoming disaster? She doubted it. He had to grasp his ultimate destiny. Days later, his sixth chosen prohibition was smell. I know what you are thinking, gross. Scarlet's head stench kept blasting his nose. Maybe picking smell was a huge mistake. A weird woman popped up beside him. But hey, harsher prohibitions equaled way more power, so despite the intense nausea and puking, he tanked it. Alright, stick with me here. Baek Sogo just lost her taste and hearing, and honestly the pain was way worse than before. This sense-blocking curse was absolutely brutal, but our boy still paid close attention when she had something to say. She basically dropped the bomb that she was leaving the mountain soon. Cue the awkward, quiet staring contest. Seriously, she didn't even need to suffer this much. She was already a certified genius. 2 years on this mountain and she basically cleared her entire to-do list. Our main guy asked if she was really bailing and she just nodded, but he was sticking around. You could see the heartbreak in her eyes knowing they had to split up. Still, she promised they would definitely reunite. She just quietly stared at the guy she had been trapped on this mountain with. A weak little kid had turned into a total beast. But she worried if she left, he'd push himself too hard with curses and literally die. So she actually debated staying just to finish teaching him the shadowless soul flight technique. But Lee Sungmin told her not to sweat it. Thanks to her, he survived the pain and could finally carry his own dead weight. He thanked her straight up, knowing she literally saved his life. Her face totally lit up with the warmest smile. She stepped right in and hugged him. Naturally, our guy panicked and felt super awkward. But then he finally chilled out, softened up, and hugged her right back. Pulling away, she called him the absolute toughest person she knew. Unlike all the other desperate losers here, he was built totally different. He totally disagreed, saying he hit rock bottom constantly but just refused to stay down. Super impressed, she called him amazing and admitted she gave up, facing the flames completely. Looking right into his soul, she begged him not to die, and he hit her back with a solid promise he'd survive. Now watch closely because this hits hard. Dak Baejun, Scarlet, and Baek Sogo all left, and for the first time he felt completely alone. In his past life, zero trust. Pure paranoia. But now he realized you actually need friends because without them he'd be totally dead by now. He just stood there staring at the sky. Something snapped inside him, and those massive emotional walls finally came tumbling down. For one split second, no smell, no gravity, zero noise. That tiny taste of freedom, incredible. Even his boring old surroundings looked totally different now. He changed and the world did too. Summer hit with those loud cicadas. In exactly 7 years, Baek Sogo was fated to die fighting Ouija Hoyon to repay her kindness. He swore to cancel that future. He tried kicking a bug, but the little guy dodged it. Cicadas hide underground for 10 whole years. He only had 7 to stop this disaster. 7 years to either get insanely overpowered or fail completely. He was changing it, period. His martial arts leveled up daily, but honestly, still nowhere near enough. He craved more power, grinded non-stop, and basically quit sleeping. Moving while totally blind wasn't some magical trick. To beat the vision ban, he just maxed out his other senses and memorized the map. You and I both know how wild this is, pitch black, using only touch. But in just 1 week, he started moving, guided entirely by sound. Soon enough, all that noise just sounded like cicadas singing. Listening closely, he kept swinging his spear, completely losing track of time. His body basically went on autopilot, mastering the moves. Just like a bug waiting to hatch, he wanted to evolve. But nah, he wanted even more. He was super confused. What was his actual goal? Why did he even regress in the first place? Seasons swapped out, wind hitting his skin. But his daily routine exactly the same. Just endless hours spinning that spear. He eventually got used to the pitch black. Then Mush randomly showed up. He really just wanted this awful trial over. Days later, boom, major system update. Mush finally gave his senses back, his vision returned, and those disgusting smells and noises totally vanished. He felt super light, the nasty chills faded, and Mush just stared. She was trying to figure out his reward. 3 whole years on this mountain, tanking every single curse like an absolute champ. Usually people push too hard and literally die or quit. So she was pumped. A guy like him actually survived and deserved some premium loot. Mush casually asked what he wanted. Super hyped, he blurted out he wanted Bruce Lee's fighting skills. But wait, no, that wasn't right. Taking a second to think, he tried to figure out his true end goal. The clock was ticking, and he desperately needed a major power-up. Fired up, he straight up demanded way more power, even if he didn't know how that worked. He asked Mush if she could actually hook him up. She told him straight what he actually needed was more time. He was totally mind-blown, realizing she could literally grant that. She marked his body for Denir and Drammer. Denir's the god of time, and trust me, you and I won't want to miss this test. Stick with me here as a friendly warning, she told him to stay sharp. Denir's trials were way harsher. Everything depended on him now, with a wildly dangerous fate still waiting ahead. But our guy, he just smiled and said he loved it this way. With that settled time for the epic reward for surviving 3 whole years on the mountain, he happily praised Mush as one seriously generous goddess, and for his big reward she summoned a guy rocking a clean suit. Meet Neville, a smooth negotiator from Araba. He was thrilled to meet the main character, asking Mush if this was her highly recommended new guild member. Still, he seriously doubted this kid had the skills to join. But Mush just smirked and told Neville to look closer. The second he did, Neville panicked and apologized. The kid was way overqualified. He had totally misjudged him just by looking at his raw martial arts level. Reaching that tier at his age demanded pure respect anywhere. Then they finally started discussing the legendary Araba guild. They handled major deals, requests, auctions, and intel. They could literally source anything. Curious, he asked if they sold rare elixirs and martial arts manuals. Neville smiled. Yep. They even stocked Shaolin's great healing elixir and the legendary Manhwa plum blossom sword technique. Sourcing insanely rare items was exactly Arabrisa's main specialty. Mush wasn't an official member, but she still bought stuff from them. Honestly, a brokerage guild having a literal god as a client is wild. Neville confidently held out his hand, offering him a spot. Having absolutely zero to lose, he accepted. Handing over a contract, Neville told him to sign the bottom. And boom, just like that, he was officially an Araba guild member. Neville snapped his fingers, dropping a slick joining gift. Our guy's whole vibe instantly upgraded, looking way more presentable with fresh clothes and a much cleaner haircut. Saying goodbye, Neville told him to reach out whenever he needed a favor. Mush asked if he liked the shiny new gear, and Lee Sungmin nodded, totally satisfied. Joining Araba was a massive win. He wanted to hit Behanger first, but watch closely here, the goddess warned him to never forget his true real goal. Pretending to just mumble to herself, she warned him to remember her exact words. Walking away, he replayed her hint. There was a specific reason for his time regression. He was so zoned out he completely missed the fierce beasts creeping up. Staring down deadly monsters, he didn't even flinch. His brain was stuck on the fact that nothing here was a coincidence. Mid-battle, he just kept wondering who actually set all these crazy events in motion. Then he charged forward, shoving those heavy thoughts aside for now. After 3 grueling years on that mountain, he had finally reached the absolute peak of martial arts. Hitting that level at 18, literally unbelievable. People might call him a total prodigy, but he knew this took godly blessings and brutal, endless agony. His mission was dead simple. Keep grinding and growing stronger through every chance fate offered. Crushing his enemies, he marched toward Behanger with rock-solid resolve. Smirking, he decided to become a mercenary. The legendary Devnark magic armor was actually hidden inside the Black Mage dungeon near Behanger. In his past timeline, some random C-rank mercenary stumbled on it. That armor was completely busted. You and I know how insane this sounds. It could boost a weak C rank straight to peak martial artist level. For a peak expert, absolute supreme tier power. Even though he could have farmed more mountain time, skipping this epic loot was not an option. That dungeon would naturally get cleared in 18 months. Before then, he had to build a rock-solid reputation in Behanger as a tough mercenary. Walking right into the Behanger guild, the kid made his big request. The confused bartender had zero clue why this boy was rambling to him. If he wanted to join up, he was supposed to go upstairs and bother the actual receptionist. Meanwhile, some random customer eating nearby just laughed out loud at his mercenary dreams. In a flash, the fork vanished from the guy's hand. Suddenly, our boy was casually holding it while the dumbfounded customer frantically looked around. Seeing that insane speed, the bartender instantly realized this kid was a peak martial artist. He quickly apologized, offering him a VIP seat while a curious crowd formed. They sat down, and the bartender finally introduced himself as Mage Baron, the actual boss of this Behanger guild branch. The main character wasn't exactly impressed when Baron bragged about working the first floor bar just for fun. Funny enough, in his previous life, Behanger was the very first place he worked as a mercenary. Skimming the paperwork, Baron noted that a peak martial artist usually gets an instant S-rank title. But he also saw a young, inexperienced kid who only fought trees on a mountain. They needed real muscle, so the boy still had to properly prove his worth. Baron handpicked a tricky test mission, casually mentioning that another S-rank veteran would tag along. Clear the job, get the shiny S-rank title. The mission kicked off the very next morning. It didn't take long to meet his new mercenary partner, who instantly found our guy super annoying for barely speaking. That guy thought this was just the funny kid who stole a fork. He was totally wrong. Zero reaction from our boy. Trust me, you and I are gonna want to see this mission. Alright, stick with me here. The kid was teaming up with Lud, a completely overpowered S-rank mercenary. Had never actually met, but our main character totally recognized his name from his past life. Lud was his new partner, probably just tagging along to grade his skills. Curious, the veteran asked if he had ever actually fought an ogre before. Our boy answered honestly, nope, not even once. Ogres were absolute beasts around here. High magic resistance, steel-hard skin, basically walking tanks. Their mission: hunt down one of these giants spotted in the nearby village forest. Lud casually mentioned 2 S ranks could easily body one. But man, something about this forest just felt completely wrong. It seemed way too small for a giant ogre. Our guy asked him to explain. Lud explained ogres were 3 to 5 meters tall. A monster that big naturally needs a completely insane amount of food. This tiny forest definitely couldn't feed a beast like that. Suddenly our boy signaled Lud to stop. The mercenary tensed up, asking what he saw. A deer was shredded on the ground. An ogre could totally cause that brutal damage, but weirdly, it didn't even try to eat the body. Lud couldn't smell a thing either, making it way weirder. Now you and I need to watch this part. A weird noise echoed, and something massive rushed them, forcing them to ready up. They shared one intense look, fully prepared to fight. Weapons drawn, they charged right back. A massive beast burst through, just absolutely smashing the environment. They both froze for a split second, completely confused by what they were seeing. Lud freaked out. This wasn't in the mission report. Running was the only logical option here. This absolute unit had giant claws and a ridiculously stacked body. Seriously, it was a modified chimera ogre. Chimeras are twisted magical beasts created to be the ultimate perfect life forms. Mixing wild species together let them easily shatter the limits of any normal monster. A chimera built from a basic goblin is still a solid B-rank threat. But an ogre as the base, yeah, that changed the entire game. S-rank mercenaries couldn't solo this nightmare. Even our guy felt a serious chill as the giant beast violently shredded its way through the dense trees. Debris exploded everywhere, but retreating wasn't an option. Suddenly, the monster lunged right at him. That massive fist was literally inches from his face. Lud sprinted backwards, screaming a frantic warning. Lee Sungmin totally locked in, dodging the fatal smash using his shadowless soulflight and untraceable steps techniques. Hiding behind a tree, Lud watched that insane dodge, completely mind-blown by the kid's ridiculous speed. They weren't on Mush's mountain anymore. With those brutal physical limiters finally gone, he actually believed he could clap this monster. Combining shadowless soulflight with shadow dance, he became a total blur. He literally ran up the beast's body before it reacted. Closing the gap, he unleashed the supreme spear of the 9 heavens. The soul chasing kill blow connected, but Lee Sungmin instantly felt how bad this was. That mutated hide was basically armor. A clean direct hit did absolutely 0 damage. You and I both knew that was bad. Not one mark. Lud realized normal ogre bounty money was absolutely not worth dying for right now. But running was off the table, so he reluctantly stepped up. Suddenly a telepathic voice hit his head, ordering him back. Recognizing the sound transmission, he froze. Our MC knew this beast was lethal, and benched Lud immediately. Through the message, he actually reminded the veteran he was a total ogre rookie. Despite the danger, he fully grasped the level here, even if he couldn't figure out why his spear bounced right off. Lee Sungmin was confident he could drop this chimera. Gripping his weapon, he fused the supreme spear of the 9 heavens with lightning-splitting strike. The massive blow landed beautifully, but after he pulled back, that titan didn't even flinch. Watching that 0 damage impact made Lud panic even more. Mercenary knew his own attacks were pointless, but Lee Sungmin fiercely stood his ground. Meanwhile, the monster's eyes flared with angry impatience. Closing the gap again, he launched himself high above the beast. His target, the eyes, literally the only soft spot on that armored tank. His heavy spear pierced an eye with absolute perfection. Faking it out with a red thread, he absolutely nailed the weak point. Kid or not, his combat IQ was genius. The beast desperately clawed its own bleeding face. Seeing the spear blade actually bite deep, he pushed his attack. But then madness happened. This should have been the turning point. Nope. That ruined, shredded eyeball just aggressively healed itself right back to perfect condition. And there was the terrifying realization: regeneration. This chimera was spliced with a troll's broken healing factor. Win condition, basically 0 now. Lee Sungmin stayed frosty, looking for any opening, but the massive freak was already prepping another deadly charge. Lud panicked. What would you and I even do right now? Stick with me here, thinking of Beck Sogo. He knows he absolutely cannot die in this place. Those 3 basics of spear fighting, he grinded them every single day until they were literal muscle memory. With the beast closing in, Weiji Hoyun's brutal training flashed through his mind. Pointing his spear right at the monster's giant hands, he knew it was time to unleash absolutely everything he had learned. Needing pure strength to spin and deflect that massive incoming strike, he moved without hesitation. The chimera still looked completely terrifying. With 0 scratches on it, he sprinted straight forward, spear raised high. He locked onto the absolute perfect target. Total control was needed to twist past the enemy's brutal assault. With one light step, he slid right past those massive claws. Boom, he had the exact control to finish this move while Lude watched every single motion in pure shock. A crazy precise hit totally threw the creature off balance. Gripping his weapon tight, he chained right into slicing attacks. As the monster scrambled to catch its balance, Lee Sungmin slammed his spear into its leg. This time, a guaranteed critical hit. The chimera shrieked through its creepy stitched mouth exactly like he planned. Now watch closely, its joints were the weak point. When it lunged, he was already perfectly positioned. Totally confused, the beast tried a careful smash. It swung a giant hand to crush him, but he just dodged again, wondering how long that busted joint would take to heal. No time to stand around checking, so he swung again. The insane impact literally snapped his spear in half, but it dropped the monster to one knee, the broken blade blocking its super annoying regeneration. Seeing his crazy plan actually work, Lee Sungmin grinned. Gripping the broken handle, he smashed it right into its arm. Now the chimera couldn't even use its legs or right arm properly. It had to hold itself up with just one hand, screaming in pure agony. He knew he just needed one more solid hit. So he unleashed Lee Sungmin's style of the Supreme Spear of the Nine Heavens with lightning-splitting strike. The attack landed with absolute deadly precision. This overgrown chimera was way too mangled to stand. Desperate, it used its one good arm to swipe those giant claws at him, but it was way too sluggish to even scratch him. Freed from the mountain's insane gravity, he finally realized his true speed. Then he heard the cicadas exactly like back on Mount Mush. Closing in on the beast, he swore to himself he wouldn't stay a helpless cicada forever. Back on that mountain, he was basically just a larva. He definitely didn't survive all that hellish training just to stay weak, even if his future was still a total mystery. Then he smashed the chimera's eyes, bringing it crashing down. You and I both know he refuses to live with past life regrets. He's charging straight ahead toward whatever wild destiny is waiting. Lude was left completely speechless by this crazy display. Roaring loud, our guy buried his weapon deep into the monster. Still frozen in absolute shock, Lude wondered who this insane kid actually was. Meanwhile, the boy looked totally dead on his feet. He stared down at his torn-up rough hands. Even he couldn't answer what he'd become, but one thing was dead obvious: he wasn't a larva anymore. Lude had zero clue what that meant, but it just made the kid seem cooler. Right nearby, a single cicada lay dead on the dirt. Noticing the bug's song was finally over, our young warrior cracked a soft smile. Cut to the guild, the bartender was beyond confused. Inspecting the massive chimera carcass, Lude explained the whole wild story. Taking down a chimera ogre is straight up an SS rank achievement. They couldn't hand him that rank instantly, but honestly, he was totally cool with it. The bounty for bagging this beast, 27 million Erie, and a shiny S rank badge. Selling the body to the mercenary guild for research added another sweet 20 million Erie. Lude handed the whole stack over, saying the real winner gets the loot. A massive 47 million Erie in total. Strolling through the streets, he felt like an absolute king. For him, this was a mind-blowing pile of cash. In his previous life, he risked his neck daily and never broke 1 million Erie. Holding this fortune, he was completely clueless on how to spend it until a genius idea suddenly hit him. Staring at his totally busted weapon, the perfect plan clicked. Meanwhile, back at the tavern, the gossip was heating up. The bartender demanded to hear the epic tale firsthand, eagerly tapping his head with the staff. Through magic, he witnessed the entire insane forest battle they missed, looking completely shocked and totally impressed. Lude admitted the kid absolutely deserved SS rank, and since he couldn't just grant it, he'd officially recommend him. A classless kid hitting that level is guaranteed to catch Xion's eye. Cut back to our hero chilling in a dark room. He called out for Neville, who popped up instantly like a proper summon, asking what the boss needed this time. Historically, our guy never cared much about fancy weapons. He usually just grabbed whatever pointy object worked best. But honestly, you and I both saw how much he struggled against that ogre. A top-tier weapon changes absolutely everything, and he refuses to face that kind of regret ever again. So, time for a massive upgrade. Neville just grinned, asking what kind of weapon he wanted and how deep his pockets were. Alright, stick with me here. Sungmin offered 47 million arrows for a custom weapon, but get this, it still wasn't nearly enough. The Araba blacksmiths charged insane prices. Neville even suggested using his very own soul as collateral, warning the interest would be absolutely brutal. Sungmin shot that down immediately and demanded another option. Thinking it over, Neville knew someone who could help. When our warrior agreed, Neville just pointed straight up, and dark light shot from his finger. Something materialized right in front of Sungmin. Neville struck it hard, saying he would leave the two of them alone to talk. Totally confused by what just happened, Sungmin stared at Neville's crazy power to literally tear space open. From the other side, a voice called him just a kid. Introducing himself as Celos, he had no idea how often they'd meet. He told the boy to stop spacing out and step inside. Looking closer, Sungmin realized the crazy truth. This guy was a dark elf. Stepping into the rift, he gave his name and ordered a custom spear. He handed over his old weapon, asking for an exact match. The elf checked it out. It was a spear built for balanced fighting. Then he demanded to see Sungmin's techniques. Our guy was confused. Showing off secret martial arts moves to strangers was a massive taboo, but the elf insisted it was necessary. Without actually seeing his fighting style, he couldn't forge the perfect spear. The design totally depended on his movements. Losing patience, the elf took a breath, remembering he was arguing with a literal child. He was 400 years old, absolutely obsessed with smithing. He had worked the blazing forge for over 350 years. All of that without a single ounce of natural talent. Sungmin looked hesitant, but Sellers claimed his skills rivaled any legendary dwarf. Those words sparked a sudden memory for our warrior. They were actually alike. After blurting all of that out, the elf suddenly wondered why he was dumping his life story on a kid. Annoyed, he told Sungmin to go bother the dwarves instead for his weapon, but Sungmin stubbornly insisted on showing his martial moves. The elf was shocked he hadn't left. Sungmin firmly stated he trusted those 350 years of pure, hard experience. The dark elf was left completely speechless. Laughing out loud, he called the boy way too trusting. Even so, Sungmin didn't flinch or look intimidated at all. Turning around, the elf admitted the kid had a silver tongue. His expression suddenly shifted to pure excitement while the boy just waited quietly. Usually cold and calculating, the elf decided to forge a masterpiece way above his budget simply because he liked his attitude. Grinning, he figured this kid would become a regular customer. The weapon would take months to craft, so all Sungmin could do was wait. Back on his bed, he sat to meditate. Now watch closely here. That chimera ogre was his first real fight at the martial peak, and he had to analyze every single thing he learned. Ouija Hoyan had called his spatial awareness a true talent. After years isolated in the mountains, it evolved into a literal sixth sense. During combat, that instinct moved his body before his brain even processed the threat. Pure, unadulterated sixth sense. It was powerful, but relying on it alone was highly dangerous. The mountains sharpened his touch and instincts, yet his other skills heavily lagged behind. If he didn't level up his other senses, he'd be dead meat. He had a terrible gut feeling that an unfixable disaster was coming. Over at the mercenary guild, things were totally quiet. Hoarding bottles, the bartender asked if Sungmin was already picking up another job. Instead, our MC seriously asked what happened to the chimera ogre's massive corpse. Since it was a chimera, somebody had to have crafted it. The bartender said the mage guild was investigating that exact issue separately. No chimera ogre existed in his past life. That meant either nobody took the mission or the entire mercenary guild had been totally wiped out. Judging the timeline, it was exactly 6 months post-creation. Maybe in his original life he would have stumbled right into it himself. See the twist here, killing it completely changed the timeline. Over at the Behar Mage Guild, someone greets the young man super warmly. The guy was effortlessly casting multiple spells. While Sungmin watched, he boldly introduced himself as the dark mage Kim Jong-un. He was the one investigating the chimera. Sungmin stepped up and admitted he was the guy who killed it. Noticing the boy was Korean, Jong-un excitedly asked if his homeworld had suffered through a massive portal crisis. He quickly explained how portals let dimensional monsters invade. Then he just dropped it, absolutely thrilled to meet a fellow Korean from another world. But when they got back to serious business, his expression darkened. He was actually happy for another hidden reason, but kept it a total secret. Meanwhile, Sungmin seriously demanded to see the chimera's mangled corpse. Needing clues for the demonic armor, Sungmin listened as the mage shared his intel. Surprisingly, the monster wasn't fully dead, making a complete autopsy absolutely impossible. Even still, the crazy dark mage who crafted it had to be at least archmage rank. Its mouth was completely sewn shut. It was created using a savage hunter just to test out the chimera's raw, violent power. So what do we take from this? Remembering the split corpse, Sungmin completely understood. But the mage realized right away, our boy just didn't care about artificial monsters. Our guy stood totally frozen. So Lee Sungmin finally brought up what the mage said earlier about being happy for another reason. Stick with me, Kim. Jong-hyun confidently declared the protagonist's timeline was a total broken mess. After all, a dark mage could literally crack open and read souls. Stepping closer, he gave some chilling advice. If he were in Sungmin's shoes, he would have totally lost his mind or fallen into pure despair. Then he asked if the boy even grasped what that meant. Sungmin just kept it blunt. After dying, he was doomed to suffer forever. Mage pressed him why was his fate so twisted, but Sungmin didn't trust him and stayed quiet. To win him over, Jong-hyun offered a binding mana oath to keep it secret. As the dark mage set it up, Sungmin started seriously second-guessing this. Still, if this guy was going that far, maybe it was worth it. Finally, he confessed the wild truth: he was a regressor who died and jumped back in time. By breaking the literal laws of the universe and stacking massive karma, his fate had become completely mangled. Hearing that the mage decided to drop one more massive revelation, Sungmin waited, his anxiety spiking. Jong-hyun started by calling him bizarre, not just because his timeline was tangled, but because he himself was genuinely strange. Now watch closely. Before he could finish, reality shook, and piercing pain stabbed Sungmin's ears. The mage suddenly realized he physically couldn't say it. Telling this kid the truth was straight up impossible. Sungmin was totally lost. If Jongyun kept talking, the system would literally kill him. Blood gushed down the mage's face just from forcing those syllables out. He realized then this boy's life wasn't his own anymore. Completely rattled, Sungmin had absolutely zero words. Coughing up blood, the mage apologized for failing to explain and told him to visit again later. Head spinning with confusion, Sungmin walked out. Then a sudden flashback hit him what happened earlier with Mush. She had tried obliterating anyone entering her zone. He turned to bounce, but a random voice called his name. Looking back, he spotted a woman approaching. Striding up, she claimed she totally remembered him from the mountain of mush. He still drew a complete blank. Visibly annoyed, she finally introduced herself as Scarlet. That made him squint. She looked wildly different now. After some quick banter, Sungmin just told her to quit nagging him. Furious, she clocked him with max power. Only after eating that punch did he finally recognize Scarlet. She then asked why he was hanging around the Mage Guild. He shrugged, saying he just had some random business. Dropping Jonghyun's name got her immediate attention. She warned him dark mages are creepy enough, but that guy, extra weird. Only an absolute lunatic would mess with him. Wrapping up, she warned him to stay alert, though seeing a familiar face again was actually nice. Walking away, she threw a casual invite if he ever got bored. Her lab was up on the 3rd floor, plus let her know if anyone bothered her friend. With a quick wave, he was completely alone again. He stood there, replaying Mush's words, and that crazy unfinished sentence from Jongyun. Know what you're thinking. These people are acting way too nice, right? He felt it too, something big was happening even if he couldn't see the full picture yet. Everything was turning into a tangled mess, but he decided to handle the problems right in front of him. Next up, an S-ranked 2-headed troll worth 60 million arrows. Right on cue, Lude popped up grinning. Bragged they'd crush the trolls together again, determined to prove his worth. Sungmin just smiled, saying he was genuinely looking forward to it. In life number 2, he finally realized going solo was impossible. Lude was a solid bro, and his goofy energy actually softened Sungmin's hardened heart. For 3 solid months, the duo traveled together, racking up massive mission rewards. They split a sweet 50 million arrows on their last gig. Hitting a bar to celebrate, the bartender suddenly mentioned someone was looking for Sungmin. It was Zeon, the legendary mercenary captain. Sungmin and Lude immediately locked eyes in shock. That name carried heavy weight. Zeon led Flare, a massive 100-man squad, and was one of Bahan's 3 elite SS-ranked mercenaries. An absolute master at the martial peak, he had perfected the 100 mystic steps of the Shaolin fists. Sungmin idolized him in his past life. And there was one massive reason why. The man calmly introduced himself as Flare's captain. Zeon was completely classless. Now that Sungmin had hit the martial peak himself, it all made perfect sense. Soon, Zeon would evolve into a supreme master of the martial peak. Zeon pointed out they were both classless, fully knowing how brutally unfair this world was to people like them. Yet this kid became a martial peak master at 18. Getting straight to business, Zeon practically begged him to join Flare. He offered him the vice-captain seat, second only to himself. Seeing Sungmin's stunned face, Zeon handed over a mysterious item and told him to sleep on it. You and I both know this is wild. Inside was a lesser restoration pill, a Shaolin elixir that massively boosts internal energy. If he just said yes, it was his. Let's dive right into this mess, because things are getting wild. Zeon hands him a super shady contract to sign. It looks basic, totally magic-free, but demands absolute obedience. If he breaks it, he pays the ultimate price. Zeon even promised a super rare revitalization pill if he leaked his secret martial arts. Totally confused, our MC asked who would ever accept terms like that. Looking dead serious, the guy said anyone trying to be a behanger mercenary had to take the deal. Curious, Luda asked what his friend actually replied. Our hero flat out rejected it. Absolute slavery. Seeing the massive red flags, Luda told him to leave Behanger immediately. With Zeon running shady underground deals, his life was now in serious, genuine danger. Even if he stayed perfectly quiet, Zeon could easily ruin his career anyway. Luda admitted he once refused a high-level A-rank offer himself. And after that, 0 jobs. Every single one was completely controlled by Flare. He literally had to hit S-rank in another city first. But as expected, Zeon already reached S-rank too. Luda just kept on drinking. He never imagined his idol Zeon was actually this corrupt behind closed doors. Then Luda casually asked if he wanted to escape to Myathor with him. Right then, some guy in the tavern shouted that the Dark Mage dungeon was finally found. Now, pay attention because this gets crazy. It's the exact same Dark Mage who made that Chimera ogre. They're forming a massive raid team with Flare leading the charge. A voice complained it took way too long to finish. Even so, our MC urgently needed a new weapon, so she just handed it over. Forged from pure mithril with a black iron coating, absolute top-tier conductors for mana and ki. The kid just stared at it, completely speechless. He never expected gear this incredibly good. Neville mentioned Lady Vega really liked him. He explained that the raw materials for this weapon were insanely expensive. Vega threw in extra cash for upgrades, something the elf rarely ever did for herself. Still, Neville totally understood exactly why she had done it. The MC just had this weird magnetic pull, making people want to help him out. Seeing his face, Neville quickly apologized for sounding so incredibly weird. Then he walked off, saying to call if he needed absolutely anything. Left alone, the young kid started spiraling into deep thought. It wasn't the weird compliment that shocked him. It was because it completely proved his own crazy suspicion. He first noticed this strange magnetic charm back at Mount Mush, but back then he brushed it off as just pure luck. But if some invisible force was magically making people adore him, were all his friendships and experiences basically totally fake? Mid-existential crisis, Luda strolled right over. He instantly noticed the super weird stressed expression on the face of Sungmin. If that theory was true, even this bromance was a massive lie. Luda hugged him anyway, asking if the upcoming dungeon raid had him totally spooked. Then it hit him. His deep fears started getting confirmed when the future suddenly changed right after he killed that chimera ogre. Because of his wild actions, the guild hunted the dark mage and found the dungeon 3 whole months earlier than his past life. And that wasn't the only change today. Zion. He looked super smug seeing the rookie joining the big raid. You see where this is going, right? Spotting, the kid Zion called it an easy mission. Originally, Flair missed this expedition completely because of another job, but since the timeline bumped up 3 months, they were fully available. Zion smirked, noticing Luda was there too. He told them both to be careful, warning that dungeons are deadly and tragic accidents happen all the time. After orders, they marched in single file. Luda immediately caught the totally hidden death threat in the words of Zion. He could easily murder them during the chaos and call it natural. Our hero seriously debated bailing right there. But honestly, the hidden skills inside this dungeon were just too insanely valuable to skip. So he went. 3 long months had passed since the mountain trip, and his power level was completely hard, stuck with 0 progress. To break that wall, he desperately needed Devnark magical armor that turns a nobody into a literal master. Going back to their chat, Luda swore Zion wouldn't try anything stupid with witnesses around. The entire raid squad was absolutely stacked with 27 members. 1 SS rank, 4 S ranks, 12 A ranks, plus all the mercenaries of Flair. Even Baron, the guild leader, tagged along. Luda swore that with his spiritual sword he would instantly chop down anyone trying something funny. He had 0 reason to join, so he was definitely just protecting his best friend. Lee Sungmin felt incredibly grateful for this, even though it meant Luda was now on the hit list of Zion too. Then he remembered something super crucial. He stopped stressing out and finally took action. The boss announced the Behanger Mercenary Guild was officially entering the dangerous Black Sea dungeon. Nobody knew what nightmares waited inside. But they were Behanger's absolute best fighters, so they had to stand strong and be totally ready for absolutely anything. With that, he ordered them inside. Dead silent at first, the elite squad pushed forward side by side. Leading the charge was Jinchul, an A-rank external arts master, rocking a body literally as hard as solid stone. Trust me, you and I are not ready for this. In a flash, he gets sliced completely in half. The squad just freezes, caught totally off guard and powerless. The guy just got sliced cleanly in half. His buddy was left holding just the top part. Oh, the leader was absolutely furious. He glanced around at the monsters closing in, realizing quickly it was going to be a brutally long night. Stick with me here because things get wild. They realized these monsters were chimeras. Pure panic set in. Xian knew this raid was completely doomed. These freaks were massive. Way more twisted than normal, giving them absolute insane physical strength. Bam. Xian casually split one in half. Our main character watched from behind, totally recognizing Xian's mystic steps and that epic fist technique. Seeing that crazy raw power, he instantly knew he wasn't strong enough to fight Xian yet. Totally spaced out, he missed a chimera charging at him. In his past life, this dungeon was empty, meaning the dungeon boss might actually be here. Exhausted and bleeding, our hero realized something was very wrong. The carnage just kept going. Bodies everywhere. Xian looked at the massive casualties and finally accepted this raid might actually fail completely. Even so, he mocked the leader, bragging his squad was much stronger. Lud caught on. During the chaos, Xian only protected his own guys. Barely an hour in and 2 A-rank mercenaries were already wiped out. Among the battered survivors, the only solo A-rank left outside Flair was Tenga. Lud tried introducing himself to a terrified girl, saying she shouldn't worry, but his face just scared her more, so he awkwardly shuffled back over to Sunmin. Right then, somebody suddenly yelled out to the guild leader. A hunter reported the team was heavily injured. The leader apologized but firmly stated that they absolutely couldn't stop now. Since the main squad of double S and S rank hunters was still alive, pushing forward was definitely still possible. Spotting the girl trembling, he told her she could turn back if she wanted, but if she left 0 protection. Glancing at the bloody corpses, her panic spiked. She quickly figured sticking with the group was her only real chance at surviving. Everyone moved slowly, checking their corners. The whole place felt totally and eerily silent. People began whispering that those monsters were just a distraction for the boss to escape. Using chimeras to buy time totally made sense, but nobody was relaxing over a wild guess. Suddenly, a scout spotted something up ahead. Watch closely now. A massive closed door. Zero traps, just a door. Still, he didn't trust it. Behind it, a room packed with books. Holding a candle, someone mumbled, it was nothing special, literally just a library. Since the room was huge, the boss ordered everyone to spread out and hunt for clues, but Sunman instantly got a weird vibe. He knew this was the exact spot that guy found the legendary magic armor. Hiding in the corner, Sunman overheard the guy talking. After hours in the cave, he finally found a door. Inside was this exact huge library. Now Sunman just had to figure out which specific book triggered the secret path forward. He searched the dusty shelves for a bit until a hidden door suddenly popped open, a dark staircase. The magic armor Devanark was down there. But wait, Xian totally noticed him finding it. Xian praised him, making the kid sweat. Turning around, our hero played dumb, claiming he just bumped into it. With a creepy look, the captain said he liked people like him. That completely shocked Sunman. Bam! A punch to the gut sent him tumbling down the stairs. Xian knew if he wouldn't join, he had to die. His talent was way too dangerous. Baron was in another room with guards, so nobody was stepping in. You thought he was alone? Nope, Lud showed up at the top of the stairs. He just wiped out the entrance guard with a spiritual sword. He knew Xian was just waiting to reveal his true psycho colors, making Lud the very next target after Sunman. 1 second later, his buddy got yeeted straight down those stairs. Xian scoffed amazed. They thought they could win. Our hero knew the odds were absolute trash, especially if the other Flare members joined, but giving up wasn't an option. He grabbed his boy and sprinted. Totally dizzy, he just yelled to rush downstairs. Snagging that power-boosting magic armor, Devanark was literally their only shot at surviving this absolute nightmare. Reaching the bottom fast, he scanned the room. Boom, he spotted the armor right in front of him. Lud guarded the entrance while he dashed for the loot. But suddenly his buddy noticed Xian blitzing straight toward them. A brutal punch smashed into Lud's chest. His arm completely pierced straight through his friend's body. He froze in shock. Xian yanked his arm back, dropping the body like trash. Before dying, Lud managed one desperate strike to his shoulder. Stunned beyond belief, the hero just couldn't process this nightmare. Best friend dead. Grief turning to pure rage. Trust me, you and I are gonna want to see what happens next. Alright, grab your snacks. You and I are diving into a world where power is everything, and even total trash will backstab you. Our boy answers with a swift kick, but Zion, he is completely done talking and wants blood. Taking the hit, the kid crashes into a rock pile. Luckily, his trusty weapon actually blocked most of Zion's deadly attacks. Zion punches him square in the face, demanding that sweet loot. But grabbing the weapon, he realizes it feels weirdly lighter than it actually looks. Looking closer, he realizes it is pure mithril, and then, a seriously creepy vibe hits him. Pieces of armor magically snap onto our MC. As Devanar fully accepts him, all his crazy strength finally returns. Zion panics, it is magic armor. The protagonist looks insanely buff now. Dripping with dark energy, Zion has no clue how screwed he actually is. Sungmin just waits for the perfect opening to strike. By now, that badass magic armor covers him completely. They just stand there intensely glaring until a massive explosion totally ruins the quiet stare down. Zion is completely baffled by that vanishing dark energy. He throws a wild punch, yelling at the kid to step up and fight him again. Our MC is super confused too, 0 inner energy upgrades. Still, Zion casually admits the kid dodged well but promises he is definitely dying next. Staring at his fallen buddy, the boy knows they are completely doomed. A hand reaches out for the kill, bam. A mystic creature blocks it. Turns out equipping Devanar comes with a brutally massive price tag. And the Devanar contract is not even finished yet. Zion attacks the creature only to feel instantly pathetic, weak, and totally helpless against it. The kid's razor-sharp sixth sense loudly screams at him to never fight that thing. Now pay close attention because this is where everything goes absolutely wild. An underground boom scatters the terrified men while a masked guy simply raises his fingers in total silence. The boss finally figures it out. It is a literal lich. Sensing danger, someone instantly screams for everyone to run. Too late. This monster is way too fast for them. One basic spell and Baron is completely toast. Running for the exit, blocked, the creature cruelly laughs, claiming they are only standing there because it graciously allowed them to live. It is having a fantastic day, finding a much better sacrifice than some boring chimera ogre. Gliding closer, the monster starts rambling endlessly about its dark fate. It mocks them, saying salvation for believers is light years away from here. Meet the horrifying, unstoppable Lich Preskin, everyone. The fight is basically a total joke. This dark mage just slaughters dozens of S-rank mercenaries almost instantly. Aaron, an elite mage, gets sliced in half. Even the tough Zion gets wiped out with embarrassing ease. Our protagonist is just standing there questioning his entire tragic existence. He honestly thought his second life would be so different. He dreamed of being a big shot, not some pathetic larva or loud cicada. Staring sadly at his dead friend, reality slaps him hard. He was completely wrong. He is still just a weak little bug. The terrifying monster looms closer while our guy is helplessly chained to the wall. The lich warmly welcomes him to its creepy workshop, politely advising him to stop wasting energy fighting those unbreakable chains. You and I heard that right after a deeply creepy laugh, this skeletal monster makes a bizarre confession. It wants to be a woman. To this lich, women are basically magical, capable of creating life in ways pure alchemy never could achieve. It tried absolutely everything to transition but got totally lost in dark magic, trading its own flesh and soul for eternal spooky life. Finally, it thinks it cracked the code. Even if giving birth is out, there is still another twisted way to manufacture new life. The hero is absolutely speechless. Meanwhile, the lich is thrilled. Finding a monster with twisted karma like him makes this the perfect day. Sacrificing a warped warrior like our boy might just be the ultimate cheat code to finally achieve its bizarre lifelong dream. Grabbing his face, it happily explains the horrific plan. Completely desperate, our chained protagonist has zero idea how to escape this nightmare. He frantically scans the room. As the lich preps, the ritual offering the boy's breathing gets dangerously fast and uneven. Firing up its max power, the lich suddenly pauses. It senses something strange, completely misunderstanding what is happening. The undead genius is super confused. This should be mathematically impossible. Turning away from the boy, it falls into deep, silent thought. Our boy is gasping for air. Then the big plot twist hits. The precious offering has been completely rejected. Choking him by the neck, the lich leans in dangerously close. Curious, it demands to know why the demon king of fear actually rejected him. A soul with such twisted karma should have been a super valuable offering. Losing its mind, the desperate lich dives straight into his memories. Shaken and angry, it aggressively demands to see his real identity. When our boy finally wakes up, the creepy skeleton is already gone. Sungmin is incredibly relieved to survive this mess. But panic quickly sets in. He is totally alone in the dark. Worse, those annoying noises in his head just will not stop echoing. His brain is totally flooded with trauma. He sees Lude's dying face again, and that awful cicada sound from the chimera fight has violently returned. Trust me, you will want more. He moves, ignoring this life's painful experiences. Stick with me, we are about to witness pure willpower. From his past life as a third-rate mercenary, he made a promise to his friends. Dying today, not happening. Blood literally pouring from his eyes, he repeats that promise. Pain, he was used to it. Regret and shame could wait until he actually survived. Suddenly, standing completely still, a telepathic message hits him. It was Lloyd, master of the Golden Mage Tower, begging for help from somewhere deep below. Remembering how Lloyd just mysteriously vanished in his past life, he listens closely as the mage begs the warrior for a massive favor. Lloyd was completely wrecked, unable to move, desperate for an escape. Curious about the lich the boy mentioned, it vanished. But he stayed super suspicious. Was this a trap? Obviously maybe. Swearing on his actual mana, Lloyd promised a massive reward for help. So our boy goes down. Finally, he reaches the exact spot Lloyd called him to. The mage, seeing his hero arrive, breathes a huge sigh. The ruins were completely trashed from an epic battle. Then looking down, he spots Zion. Dead. Giant hole straight through his chest. He asks Lloyd what the heck happened. Lloyd waves it off, saying he will explain later. Help first? Staying back, our guy asks what needs doing. The mage desperately needs out of this creepy dungeon. Here is where it gets absolutely wild, so pay attention. He points left, begging the boy to smash Preskin's dark heart. It was unbelievably dangerous and had to go. He thrusts his spear at the heart, but a heavy magic barrier blocks him. Pushing closer, the heart suddenly mutates into something way worse. It completely vanishes. Totally confused, the boy just stands there frozen until the crazy realization hits. That heart just forced its way into his body. He just absorbed the black heart. Flashback to hours ago, Lee Sunung's men grabbed it. Trying to make an epic exit, the lich suddenly stumbles hard, used a dangerous mind-bending memory spell, and it totally backfired. Even the demon king of fear rejected the boy as a sacrifice. Denied, the lich realizes his mana is completely burned out. Staring at two hearts, his evil brain cooks up a backup plan. He decides to drain a fallen man to recharge. But wait, Zion is still breathing. Grabbing him by the throat, the lich sucks up his energy. Two guys drained later, he is finally feeling energized again. Then he glances at the third guy on the floor. Plot twist, he was totally faking being unconscious. Zion is sweating bullets, terrified of his fate. Breaking a chain spell proves he is way tougher than anyone gave him credit for. Seeing his premium soul quality, the lich decides to use him for something much, much worse. Know exactly what you are thinking right now. Lloyd realizes this twisted lich is still running sick experiments. 10 long years of endless hunting. The mage had finally cornered the monster he chased without ever stopping. Seeing the villain weakened, he plans to smash Preskin's body and rip out his life core completely. Zion spots the legendary Golden Tower Archmage. He totally wants to join the Lich killing squad, but Lloyd flat out tells him to back off. He is just too weak. The Lich is panicking now. Rejected, offering angry Archmage literally everything is falling apart. Then he remembers the 2 incomplete hearts. It was a desperate gamble, but 0 other options existed. He starts chanting a spell. Freaking out, the mage cannot understand this bizarre mana flow. Classic twisted Preskin research in action right here. With an evil smirk, the Lich declares it the ultimate life form. Boom. A creepy foot steps out. Lloyd is completely shocked. The Lich literally built a woman. Incomplete body and heart, sure, but he had spares. His genius plan: use this unfinished monster to survive today, then perfect the real heart tomorrow. Realizing normal attacks are a joke, Lloyd decides to nuke it. He drops a massive spell, risking everyone in the cave. The Lich commands his new girl to destroy that annoying mage, while he preps another curse. She waits patiently. Lloyd's insane magic does literally 0 damage. The spell evaporates instantly, leaving everyone absolutely shaking in terror. The Lich is thrilled. Perfect performance. Calling him daddy, she casually mentions she is starving. Then Zion becomes lunch. 1 single hit. Heart torn straight out. That is exactly how Behind's strongest mercenary captain, the future master of Marshall Peak, tragically died. Heart ripped right out before he could even blink. Total absolute madness followed. Seeing her ridiculous power, Lloyd goes into full panic mode. Meanwhile, the Lich cackles like a maniac. That monster was unstoppable. The absolute chaos continued. Lloyd burned all his mana on the girl. Barely surviving, heavily bleeding, those 2 somehow managed to escape, and that is everything that went down in the cave. Lloyd practically worships the boy for rescuing him, and that is where we leave it. Grateful, the heart shattered. Lloyd calls for help, then passes out cold. Alright, stick with me here, you're about to see the craziest power-up. Our guy is clueless about what entered his body, but Lloyd promises a huge reward. Basically, a literal blank check from a top-tier mage. But he doesn't need cash right now, so he pockets that massive favor for later. Lloyd still has 0 clue about that strange heart. Escan, master of the Black Magic Tower, was literally marked for death for breaking taboos, and the guy sent to execute him, Lloyd, master of the Golden Magic Tower. After a 10-year manhunt, Lloyd finally cornered him during this raid. But here's the wild part: in his past life, Lloyd actually died inside that cave. Because our guy's regression saved, someone fated to die, the timeline completely fractured. Now someone who was supposed to live ended up dead instead. The guilt over Lloyd's death is just crushing him. He realizes he was acting like a frog, and a well-believing Zion was the absolute peak hero. They honestly thought those monsters were easy targets. What they believed was the limitless sky was literally just the tiny opening of their well. There's always a bigger fish under a much wider sky. Now he seriously wonders just how overpowered Ouijihoyan actually was. Back on Mush's mountain, he realized he was basically a worm. But giving up, not his style. He refuses to despair, choosing to grind forward step by step. Suddenly, a super cheerful voice completely interrupts his thoughts. Kim Jong-un points out that almost the entire raid team got wiped, so he's thrilled our guy survived. Then he spots the armor, realizing it's a legendary artifact. Curious, the mage begs to examine it closely. Our boy hands it over, needing some serious answers himself. Now, pay close attention here. This armor's a forced contract item, permanently linking the user directly to a transcendent demon god. It entirely skips standard rules, forcing the wearer straight into absolute slavery. Drawing a quick diagram, the mage explains how it artificially skyrockets a martial artist's raw potential. But the catch: after death, your soul officially belongs to the Demon King forever. Since our guy walked away completely fine, this whole situation makes 0 sense. The mage drops 2 wild theories about what happened. First theory, his potential was already maxed out and useless. Second theory, he somehow already formed a contract with an entity way stronger than the armor's master. The mage fully bets on the second option. Hearing this, our boy immediately wonders why the terrifying Demon King of Fear actually rejected him. Since the dangerous contract never triggered, the armor is perfectly safe to use, just like normal. With a quick snap, he pulls it right off, shifting it into a cool bracelet. Just pump in some mana, and boom, instant armor again. Our guy casually mentions the Lich literally tried sacrificing him to the Demon King. The mage is absolutely stunned he didn't lose his mind facing a being like that. Flashing a smile, the mage asks if he truly grasps the implication. Our boy wonders if his soul outranks the Demon King of Fear, but the mage just shrugs. Suddenly, the missing pieces snap together. Let's pause right here. We both know something's seriously off. He mentions absorbing something weird, and the mage instantly identifies it as a dark heart, even though he feels 0 new energy. Preskin had been secretly researching the ultimate life form. The heart was his masterpiece, completely outclassing the demonic armor. Apologizing for his lack of knowledge, the mage admits only a literal god could probably explain it properly. Hearing that instantly sparks a memory of Mush's warning head, straight to Drymore, and track down Danir, the legendary king of time. If anyone has answers, it's the god of time. He quickly thanks Kim Jong-un, and finally parts ways. Leaving a heavy warning, the mage claims he really likes him and might visit any time. Feeling the intense pressure behind that smile, our guy fully gets the dark hint. Shutting the door behind him, he breathes out. He learned a ton, but honestly now he has way more questions. His next stop is Drymore, but suddenly someone sprints down the hall screaming for Lee Sungmin. Bam! Scarlet drop-kicks his neck furious. He ignored her warnings about that shady mage. Rubbing his sore neck, he genuinely wonders why she attacks him every single time. Scarlet yells that dealing with that guy is pure poison, but he calmly defends himself, saying he just needed some quick answers. Furious, she demands he ask her instead, bragging she knows everything. So his absolute first question, he asks how old she is. Her face turns absolutely murderous. You do not ask a lady her age. Cooling down as they walk, she mentions he survived the brutal raid completely alone. Even after that bloodbath, his body is completely unharmed, but his eyes hide deeply, crushing sadness. He casually drops that he's heading to Drymore for some unfinished business. Without missing a beat, she immediately offers to tag along. She claims she conveniently has important business in Drymore too. Since their paths line up perfectly, traveling together just makes logical sense. Catching his hesitation, she defensively asks if he hates having her around. Honestly, he's just speechless. Deep down, he actually doesn't mind the idea at all. After all, she's a magic genius and the future master of the Crimson Magic Tower. Having a powerhouse friend like her is a massive cheat code. But honestly, he just can't understand why people keep treating him so nicely. In his mind, every single bond he's built was rooted in lies. He's terrified. Lude's tragic death was completely for nothing. So what do you and I make of this? He suspects her motives, and if she travels with him and dies like his friend, he'd never forgive himself. That's exactly why he refuses to travel with her. Stick with me here. After getting the Dark Heart, he loots Xian. A paranoid guy like him definitely kept rare gear on hand. Jackpot. He scored 2 insanely rare revitalization pills, plus a secret Shaolin manual filled with ultimate martial arts techniques, all totally priceless. Since surviving required raw power above everything else right now, he tossed 1 pill straight into his mouth. He sat on the bed meditating and waiting for that epic energy rush. But getting up, zero difference. Usually, popping a lesser revitalization pill gives you instant internal energy. Since nothing moved, he honestly thought he got scammed. Then a weird bright light hit his stomach. Boom. The pill was legit. His internal energy started skyrocketing faster than he could track. Normally, you have to fight that crazy elixir energy and guide it through your whole body just to survive. But our guy, he soaked up all that crazy power without even lifting a finger. Effortless. Every single drop of energy just became his. This insane cheat code had to be from the Dark Heart. Checking the box again, he confidently grabbed the greater revitalization pill next. He fully absorbed both pills flawlessly. His raw internal energy basically shot straight up to Supreme Peak Master Tier. Now watch closely here. Only the Dark Heart made this absolutely insane. Even without solid proof, that crippling lack of energy holding him back his whole life was finally gone. Time to actually put it to use. A crazy plan suddenly formed in his head. Later, Scarlet asked why he was ditching Drymore for Braden. He apologized, saying their little road trip was over. Thanks to scoring that Shaolin manual, his new mission was taking it straight back to Braden. Seeing this rookie, Scarlet laughed, pointing out that local markets were completely flooded with fake martial manuals. He fired back, explaining he wanted to return it to the Shaolin Temple for a fat reward. Since her route was different, they had to split. Her expression totally shifted. Suddenly she claimed she had urgent business out there too. Total lie, obviously. She really just wanted to travel. Claiming crowded cities were boring, she insisted she wanted to train up in the wild mountains. After roaming around, she wanted a nice spot to settle down. Looking annoyed, she went off to bathe before rejoining him. Just like that, they were officially back to traveling together. She grabbed his head and forced a nod, declaring he already agreed. Taking a couple playful hits from her, he finally gave up and accepted his new partner. Planning to bounce a week later, he figured having backup on a dangerous road was a total win. But then, a completely bizarre girl approached, demanding his identity. Okay, I know what you are thinking. A random girl at night. Yeah, they froze, completely confused by this. The girl began mutating right there, mumbling she felt weird after seeing him. Her hands suddenly warped into massive, grotesque shapes. She stared curiously, asking who he was. Meanwhile, back in the woods, Billix was realizing Lloyd was an actual monster-level genius in combat. Without waking up this crazy girl in time, he absolutely would have died. She was his ultimate masterpiece. Yet she completely ignored her creator. Seeing her wild actions, he desperately called out to her. Waking her up too fast completely broke his control. Now she simply refused to obey his commands. His only hope was the obedience seal preventing her from killing him. Sweating, he ordered her to return to her awakening spot and fetch the lich's heart. That mission meant actual life or death. Grab the heart, come straight back. Once he saw her nod, he pointed the way and ordered his ultimate weapon to go. But nope, she sprinted the exact opposite direction. The lich stood there, dumbfounded, wondering if her brain was totally broken. Despite her dad pointing away, she sensed an insanely weird vibe coming from the other side. Heart pounding, she ran until she spotted two figures. Lee Somnium snapped his head around, sensing a truly terrifying aura rapidly closing in. Step by step, she just stared at him with pure curiosity. Sweating, the boy panicked as her face gave him the creeps. Her hands started morphing into absolute nightmare fuel. Somnium saw pure desperation in her eyes right before her body violently swelled. Scarlet stood there, shocked. Why the heck was her travel buddy just totally frozen? Acting fast, she blasted a magic spell right at the girl, completely shattering those freaky hand tentacles, but his chest flared with sudden pain. He desperately needed to recover. Scarlet just stared at the mutating girl, totally bewildered. She had never seen a monster like this. Was this Preskin's Tura, the beast Lloyd mentioned? Had she come for the heart? This exact girl instantly slaughtered Xeon, and even that legendary mage Lloyd barely survived her attacks. No other choice. To save both himself and Scarlet from this monster, he absolutely had to activate his bracelet armor. Pure energy exploded outwards, wrapping him in an epic suit. The girl immediately prepped another strike. Massive dark tentacles lashed out as she violently charged. Gripping his weapon, he met the strike head-on. And trust me, you are not ready for what happens next. Let us jump straight into the madness. He attacks with everything he has, but her fighting style is totally wild, hitting way harder than the giant ogre Troz. Without that crazy elixir boosting his inner energy, he would already be completely dead right now. Scarlet screams at Sungmin to dodge. Getting thrown backward, she blasts a massive wave of fire right at the girl. The kid tries to dodge, but the flames strike hard, making her scream in pure agony. Scarlet yells that this monster has totally insane magic resistance. She blocks basic spells, but Scarlet is just on another level entirely. Normal defenses just fail against Scarlet's secret enchanted magic. But even so, our mage totally didn't expect a counterattack flying straight at her face. Our main character instantly dives in, acting as a human shield, while flames rip through the whole area. In that split second, he analyzes this crazy threat. Flashing back to Xeon, he realizes this is definitely the mystic fists of 100 steps. Lloyd warned him, this girl literally ate Xeon's heart to steal his powers. Now he knows for sure that he is fighting an absolute terrifying monster. The pressure leaves him totally stunned, but she never drops her speed. She strikes again, and he cannot block her overwhelming power at all. Mid-fight, she glares at him and demands an answer. She really wants to know exactly who he is. Sweating and blocking her brutal hits, he just desperately plans an escape route. Meanwhile, Scarlet charges up another spell to grab the monster's attention. Landing a clean hit to her face, Scarlet laughs, mocking the kid for wasting her luck. She totally provokes her, saying she is furious right now. The girl's face instantly drops. She suddenly notices something super weird. Boom, magical hands grab her ankles, locking her completely in place. It is Scarlet's trap, letting our guy sneak in totally unseen. Now watch this carefully. He aims high, but she literally rips her. After literally mutilating herself, she starts falling. Then boom, she uses wild magic to reshape her body. Before they blink, her legs are back. They are absolutely furious. It is obvious this insane fight will not end anytime soon. She just regenerates. Even burned flesh heals. Scarlet is super annoyed, but she knows this crazy regeneration has a mana limit. If they tag team and just keep spamming heavy damage, her mana pool will definitely run dry, and they totally win. Watch closely with me. The girl flexes more power. Seeing that insane mana, Scarlet completely drops the plan. This was way worse than expected. The brutal clash continues. Our guy keeps blocking even though he is totally exhausted. As he falls, Scarlet asks if he is okay. Then she snaps, he cannot die, and leave her alone. Right then it clicks. Something must change. He had already flipped the whole world around him. He evolved into a total beast up in those mountains. But honestly, still not enough for his ultimate dream. A bug just crawls. If one step fails, he needs tens of thousands more. He realizes his mistake. He got too comfortable after just one single step. You and I both know he didn't leave just for that maniac's armor. That wall just felt way too high. Alright, you and I are jumping right back into the madness. Before he took the easy way out, blaming that demonic armor just to run away. The cost, losing his closest friend. He realized he was acting pathetic and weak. That is exactly why he needs to fight back now. Running away was the worst mistake possible. He finally feels the familiar weight of his spear again. Just static humming and buzzing cicadas. He just wanted to stand by her side. To rewrite his terrible fate no matter what. But honestly, he just did not want to die. Way too huge of a dream for a nobody. Yet he refused to die here, even if survival was brutally hard. If he was getting power he did not even deserve, settling was not an option. Looking back at his past, his spear starts glowing with wild energy. The second he embraces that greedy desire, his strike becomes dead accurate. The spear absolutely shreds the girl's arm. He stands tall, ready to protect Scarlet at all costs. Super annoyed, the girl demands his name. With the spear still ripping through her, Scarlet watches closely, his face totally covered in blood. He drops his name, Leung Min. Right then, an arrow violently hits the girl. She calls herself I. Spear raised, he stays completely ready. Coughing up blood from her massive wounds, she quickly turns and bails. After that absolute bloodbath, our guy is completely out of gas. Liang Min wakes up in a bed. Scarlet is just sitting there reading. She casually mentions he is incredibly lucky to be alive. He was knocked out for 3 whole days in some random village. She grabbed a doctor and slapped a potion on his cuts. When he claims he feels fine, Scarlet is mind-blown. The dude had shattered bones. Somehow, those nasty fractures fully healed in 3 days. Now watch closely. Could it be the Black Heart? Confused, Scarlet stares hard, asking what else he is hiding. He also demands to know about that creepy monster kid, since he clearly knows way more. No more secrets. She demands the straight truth. But at first he just stays completely silent. Alright, let's jump straight into the madness. Scarlet finally understands his crazy psychopath stalker situation. Our guy literally went through hell to get that overpowered mana chunk. But she jokes he's super lucky to have a badass partner like her. Catching his look, she totally expects a massive thank you. He just asks why she stayed. Seriously, it was a total death trap. That creepy kid only wanted Sungmin. She could have bailed any time but flat out refused to let him die alone. Getting to her feet, she says abandoning him just isn't her style, stepping slightly away. Staring into space, she casually asks if he's seen real war. Back before she got this, gorgeous, her entire world basically exploded. She doesn't even remember the exact details anymore, just that war brutally steals absolutely everything. Her hometown wiped out. Everyone she loved, gone forever. Sungmin just listens in complete silence. The grief completely broke her, so she stopped making friends entirely. But seeing him get absolutely wrecked, she just couldn't walk away. Looking right at him, she gently asks if he's lost someone too. He says nothing. Flashing a small smile, she tells him to relax. His buddy is alive. She survived literal wars and insane chaos, mostly riding on pure, unadulterated luck. Plus, she complains she didn't even get to use her ultimate secret move. Watch closely here. Scarlet knows he travels completely alone because he's terrified of losing friends. But to protect them, he needs serious power. Pointing right at his face, she orders him to get insanely strong, so this never repeats. Smiling back, he says he already knows. Honestly, this pep talk completely fixes his mood. Scarlet tells him to rest up, dropping the news they're hitting Bremen tomorrow. He seriously thanks her. As she walks off, his brain goes into overdrive. Gripping his weapon tight, he swears to level up. His mind instantly flashes back to that crazy moment his spear erupted with raw power. Yeah, he realizes stressing over tiny details right now is completely pointless. Pure energy flares from his weapon, locking in his fierce resolve. Cut to our fiery redhead declaring they finally reached Bremen City. She is practically vibrating with hype. First time in the Central District, and super relieved nobody ambushed them. She's chattering away, demanding to know his master plan, but Sungmin admits he has absolutely no clue yet. He votes for food and a nap. They step right into a local inn, getting welcomed inside. She's stressing over the menu, but our boy is equally clueless. Central District food is a total mystery to her, so she's completely lost. Out of nowhere, she casually complains about annoying flies buzzing around. Sungmin spots 2 sketchy dudes hard staring at them. He asks Scarlet if she noticed them practically drooling since they walked through the door. She asks why they're staring. Sungmin bluntly says it's his fault, making her even more confused. He drops some lore. When martial artists hit the supreme tier, they get origin reversal, completely hiding their crazy high energy levels. The problem, Sungmin only cleared 1 single requirement for Supreme Master, missing the rest entirely. Scarlet gets it. His monstrous aura is leaking everywhere, attracting these creeps. One guy hears her and angrily demands who she's calling flies. He smirks, asking if that spicy attitude is her main charm. Completely disgusted, she calls out his nonsense. The creep awkwardly chuckles and keeps aggressively flirting, but she just tells him to shut up. She literally begs him to go bother someone else because his voice sparks pure, murderous rage. Sungmin casually watches the dude completely lose it. You and I both saw this coming. He grabs his sword, demanding she take back her words instantly. She absolutely refuses, calling him a total idiot. Seeing red, he charges swinging and she instantly screams for Sungmin to save her life. Sungmin takes one look. First-class martial artist at best. Too easy. The guy attacks while Sungmin calculates his counter. Suddenly, a random dude interrupts, asking how a weak idiot recklessly charges someone clearly out of his league. Mid-sentence, the angry attacker just drops completely unconscious to the floor. Sungmin realizes a flying coin knocked him out cold. The mysterious newcomer apologizes for interrupting, casually introducing himself as Namgung Hwan. Scarlet instantly perks up. Weight from that legendary clan, packed with absolute monster martial artists. Sungmin sighs, saying he totally wasn't going to kill the guy anyway. Hwan smoothly asks to share their table. The duo stares at him, super confused. Sungmin asks why, and the newcomer suddenly demands his exact age. He answers 18. Namgung Hwan's jaw drops, completely stunned that a literal teenager is already a borderline peak supreme martial master. Hwan calls his talent downright terrifying. Then he asks if he's the little celestial demon Weiji Hoyan, making Sungmin literally spit out his coffee. He swears that's the only absolute monster he knows who could hit that godlike tier so young. So what do you and I make of this? Hwan confirms he is famous, since there are only 3 celestial demons in existence. We're talking about Baek Museon, the berserker Buke Aaron, and little demon Weiji Hoyan. Stick with me here because things are about to get wild. He mentions a rumor that the celestial demon is actually a woman, then asks our MC's real identity. Lee introduces himself, but Namgung has literally never heard of him. Curious, Lee presses him for more info about the little celestial demon. But Hwan shrugs, that's literally all the guy knows. If our boy wants details, he'll have to dig around himself. Out of nowhere, Hwan demands a fight. Lee is completely caught off guard. Hwan quickly backpedals, saying he doesn't mean any harm, his competitive side just acts up around strong martial artists. Lee agrees, but only if it's just a friendly spar. Hwan is absolutely thrilled. A normal spar, too boring. Hwan suggests a bet. Lee cautiously asks what kind of wager, and Hwan grins. Nothing crazy, the loser just has to become the winner's little brother classic. With the bet locked in, they head straight to a battle center and gear up. Sungmin humbly admits he might not meet this guy's high expectations. Hwan just bursts out laughing, telling our MC he's being way too modest. But as Lee watches him closely, he realizes Hwan's aura has completely shifted. This guy is strong, easily at the peak supreme martial artist level. They both take their stances, and Namgung kicks things off with some weirdly unpredictable footwork. Lee sees the trap and refuses to lose his rhythm. He goes aggressively on the offensive, unleashing the shadowless Soulflight Strike first form. Now pay close attention here. Hwan absolutely shreds right through those feints with insane speed. The clash continues, and Hwan pushes forward with another heavy strike, laughing that he's having fun. Suddenly, he triggers an energy-absorbing technique, putting Lee on high alert. To block it, our MC fires off the Spear of the 9 Supreme Heavens first form combined with a deadly soul-chasing strike. Even mid-clash, his opponent smoothly shifts his sword angle, a move that seriously impresses Lee. Namgung casually mentions that if Lee were holding an actual spear, that attack would have been deadly. He admits he can't hold back anymore. Plus, there is 0 chance he's calling a younger guy his older brother. Sungmin just smiles. The bet was rigged against him anyway, so losing isn't a big deal. With Scarlet watching from the sidelines, Hwan asks if Lee is finally getting serious. After all, martial artists absolutely despise losing. The battle just keeps escalating. After a massive impact, Lee thinks he finally has him cornered. But nope, the guy escapes. Lee hates to admit it, but Hwan's energy control is just better. So our boy forcefully blasts his internal aura outward to create some distance. The explosive power of the Spear of the 9 Supreme Heavens erupts. Countless blurring after-images flood the arena. Lee knows that out of all these flashing illusions, only one strike is real, and he has to block it. You saw that coming, right? Namgung completely overwhelms him. With a blade resting against his neck, Sungmin finally taps out. It's a harsh reminder that he still has a long way to go. Laughing, Hwan praises Lee's skills, saying the power gap isn't actually that massive. He compliments Lee's spear style, but casually points out that those advanced techniques were pretty sloppy. Reason Lee just hasn't had enough live combat experience against actual peak-level masters. Plus, Lee's inner energy control is still messy, meaning even tiny grazes are dealing heavy damage. Speaking from experience, Hwan promises the young guy can fix these bad habits just by fighting more often. And since they're officially sworn brothers now, Namgung insists Lee has to tag along with him somewhere. Next stop, the legendary Shaolin Temple. Surprised Lee admits that was actually his destination anyway. Standing nearby, Scarlet complains about the noise and asks if their little brawl is finally done. Seeing these two dudes laughing together, she rolls her eyes, muttering that they're both crazy. Meanwhile, miles away, a meditating elder senses a massive shift approaching. The omnipotent god of chaos is getting closer. And this exact threat is why Namgung Hwan is rushing to Shaolin. Lee mentions he visits around this time every single year to meet Master Abbot Buliang. His new bro explains that the heirs of the other 3 great clans are doing the exact same thing because of some ancient promise. With that settled, the trio hits the road to Shaolin. During the trip, they chat about the four great clans, Namgung, Jagal, Moyong, and Tang. They explain how all the current heirs are roughly the same age, and how their clan leaders once tried uniting everyone into a single massive powerhouse. But when push came to shove, everyone argued over who gets to be the boss. Eventually, they just dumped that problem onto the next generation. Master Buliang, the Shaolin abbot himself, was picked as the neutral judge to pick the supreme leader. Upon arriving, He-Won casually waves to the crowd, claiming some personal business made him late. Lee glances around, instantly recognizing legendary faces from his past life. Suddenly, a Tang clan girl snarks, asking if Lee is the reason Namgung is tardy. He-Won immediately snaps back, demanding to know who she thinks she is disrespecting his friend. He proudly introduces Lee as his sworn little brother, a prodigy nearly hitting the supreme martial peak before age 20. She realizes he is just using this genius to boost his own status. And that is where we leave it. Trust me, the clan politics here are about to get insane. Let us jump right in. Lee realizes the real reason He-Won wanted a brother. He-Won admits it, but Lee shrugs it off as absolutely no big deal. Jagu finally cuts in, asking how long these two plan to drag this out. He-Won tells the group he is off to see Master Buliang, letting Lee rest. As they head out, Scarlet mutters she wishes she were the friend instead. Our guy lost his fight, but still somehow came out winning. Then a monk calls them over, saying some fresh food is fully prepared. They hope temple food still hits the spot. Scarlet immediately complains about the zero meat, but Lee rolls his eyes. Of course not. Do not eat meat here. Lee reminds himself. His mission is simple. Get the secret scroll and return it to Drammer. Suddenly a monk walks in, saying the head abbot wants a word. Following him out, Lee feels totally confused. Why would the master want him? Even in his past life, he knew almost absolutely nothing about Master Buliang. Just one crazy detail, his nickname was the eccentric Buddha. When Lee finally arrives, this guy asks if he is loved by the omnipotent god of chaos. Lee is totally baffled. He asks if this is Master Buliang and what the heck that wild title even means. He begs for an explanation, but the old man refuses, explaining it would either kill him or literally erase him from the mortal world to become a god in heaven. Insanely curious now, Lee asks exactly where he can find these answers. Watch closely, this gets wild. Something weird happens that Lee cannot understand. Then he is ordered north. Within 5 years, he must reach the place where eternal snow never melts. Up there, he will meet someone crucial. When the old man finally snaps back to normal, Lee demands to know what happened, but the master totally dodges it. He claims it was not actually him speaking. It was the spirit living inside his body. Serving Buddha while hosting a spirit, Lee is stunned, but the old man just laughs hard. That is exactly why they call him the eccentric Buddha. Still, he honestly admits he has no clue why the spirit used his voice to talk to Lee. He only knows that some major answers were given. He then casually asks if Lee came to return a secret scroll. Lee confirms it. Laughing out loud, the master figures Lee wants a reward for his trouble, so he tosses him a ridiculously rare superior circulation elixir. Lee is hyped, absolutely mind-blown. The Buddha tells him to chill out, saying he acts exactly like Ouija Hoyan described. Wait, what? Lee freezes and asks what name he just dropped, but the old man smirks. You heard me perfectly. Lee aggressively asks if Ouija was here. The old man dodges the question again while Lee desperately begs for answers. Seeing the kid freak out, the Buddha finally speaks up. Suddenly, a menacing shadow appears right behind Lee. It is the legendary future of Shaolin Jihak. Master demands they fight first, then he will talk. Boom, soon Lee is flat on the ground, admitting total defeat. He recalls people saying, no matter how hard he trains, he still loses miserably. He cannot even fight back the crushing voices in his head. Getting beaten by Namgung was one thing. At least that felt like an actual real duel. You saw that too, right? Against Jihak, he was completely toyed with. And worst part, he never even heard this guy's name in his past life. The Buddha asks Jihak for his review, and Jihak brutally says Lee has far to go. His spear skills are solid, but he desperately needs way more combat experience. Plus, Lee cannot control his internal energy smoothly at all, making it impossible to handle massive amounts of raw power. The Buddha pokes him, pointing out that this is exactly why his internal energy is completely off balance. Highly annoyed, Lee asks what the heck he is doing. The old man tells the brat to freeze. He ties wood to Lee's foot and says walk, but Lee completely stumbles. The master smirks. That clumsy struggle. That is exactly how messed up Lee's body is right now. They break down the gap between his intellect, energy, and physique. Even though Lee's martial mind is advanced, his raw energy is just totally jammed up inside him. It clicks. His energy spiked from chugging elixirs, and his intellect leveled up from pumping aura into his weapon. It is totally uneven. The Buddha keeps lecturing him, using that awkward piece of wood as the perfect physical example. Desperate to grow, Lee asks how to fix this terrible imbalance. He realizes he is probably going to need a full-body restructuring, the classic quick fix. The old man then announces that Jihak will personally train him in pure martial arts. The master figures leaving the boy broken like this will only cause him suffering, and hey, that totally goes against the Buddha's peaceful ways. Plus a kid he likes asked for a favor? Yep, Ouija Hoyan. Later, Sungmin walks with Jihak, who asks what he thought about after their clash. Lee quietly admits he honestly thought he had gotten much stronger. He hit the martial peak after years of brutal training. He even learned some incredible new skills, but man, he still lost to both Jihak and Namgung Heewon. Jihak tells him to chill out. Rushing is bad, and reaching that insane level at 18, that is already a super rare achievement. In his eyes, Lee just had rotten luck facing monsters like them. Even Jihak, the literal future of Shaolin, admits he still has plenty to learn. Lee realizes they definitely did not start from the same starting line. But then Jihak drops a bomb, even he could never beat the little celestial demon. What do you and I make of this? Sungmin is shocked. He asks if Jihak actually fought her, and Jihak confirms they clashed right at the temple. Let's jump right in. Lee asks why Ouija Hoyan visited. Jihak admits her demand sounded like pure arrogance from a 17-year-old girl, but her aura was so overwhelmingly massive that everyone just nodded and accepted it. The duel's result absolutely shocking. Jihak couldn't do a single thing, getting crushed even worse than Lee just did. Confused, Lee asks how insanely strong Ouija Hoyan is now. Jihak isn't totally sure, but he casually bets she has already smashed past the supreme martial peak. Jihak wonders about Sungmin's relationship with her. Lee insists they are just friends, and his one goal is to match her crazy level. Nodding, Jihak finally understands the boy's desperate rush. He figures Lee just lacks real combat experience, which time will naturally fix. He warns Lee will taste brutal defeat and heavy despair trying to reach her, but he'll survive. Lee laughs bitterly, saying he knows despair perfectly. He gets completely crushed constantly, and standing back up is pure agony. He thought he was finally closing the gap, but nope. While he was barely crawling, Ouija Hoyan was basically flying miles ahead. Fired up, he demands another spar with Jihak. Cut to later, Lee shows up looking absolutely battered, deciding to stay at the Shaolin Temple longer. Scarlet and Heewon literally don't recognize his bruised face at first. Hearing he fought Jihak, Namgung completely loses his mind in shock. He yells that Master Buliang must be going totally senile for blocking him from fighting that guy. Now pay attention here. Sungmin knows Jihak is an absolute beast but has zero clue who this guy actually is. Heewon drops some lore, the famous 4 great clans of area. They are actually way weaker than the 10 great sects. The 3 absolute biggest rising stars of the orthodox factions are Jegel Chongyang and Jihak. He explains sect leaders hide their top-tier students. They are basically secret weapons who literally never leave their home bases. Namgung asks if Lee is officially staying at the temple, whining he wanted to recruit him. Lee says he'll talk to his brother later. Scarlet sighs, saying if he stays, she is packing up. Lee asks where she is headed, and she honestly has no clue at all. Just aimless traveling. She totally liked hanging here, but staying wouldn't boost her power one bit. Then she aggressively pokes fun at him, asking if he'll cry without his awesome friend. But then she drops the jokes. Why push so insanely hard, training endlessly just to keep getting destroyed? She softly asks if he will survive without her. Then she casually slaps a magic bracelet right onto his wrist, basically a magical tracker. If she wants to meet up, it pings him. Apparently Baek Sogo got a matching one. Before leaving, Scarlet tells him to grind hard, so next time he can be her epic hero. We all felt that Namgung is super jealous. Anyway, the next day Scarlet and Heewon say their goodbyes. Wait up, Lee calls Scarlet back, asking why she is so darn nice to him. She visibly cringes, totally exhausted by this exact question. She rolls her eyes, saying they literally discussed this already, but fine, she will spell it out for him one last time. Basically, he grabbed her interest from day one, which is wild because she never usually gets attached to random people. But traveling together proved he is genuinely a solid dude. Seeing him grind so intensely honestly just makes her want to hardcore cheer for him. Plus, teasing him is fun and he is painfully sincere and pretty handsome. Lee cracks up, asking if she swallowed something weird, leaving her totally dumbfounded. Recovering, she orders Sungmin to stop acting like a loser and keep his head up. He smiles, agreeing. Later on, Lee gets into the zone. While grinding at the temple, he bans himself from using his spear or demonic armor. He is ditching his trash mindset, his overpowered gear, and even benches that top-tier circulation potion Master Buliang handed him. Buddha's weird prophecy echoes in his head. In the land of eternal snow, he will meet a super important person, which casually reminds him he swore to meet Ouija Hoyan again in exactly 6 years. Sungmin is pretty sure the prophecy means Baek Sogo, but with only 5 years left, he honestly wonders if he can level up. Jihak strolls over, utterly confused why he is throwing away his epic spear and armor. The boy replies that using cheat items during training feels wrong. Jihak nods, explaining martial arts use the body, but the heart drives it. That heart fills the physical body, generating the pure energy it needs. Then he tells Lee to truly absorb the Shaolin experience directly. Lee feels like loud cicadas are literally ringing inside his head, swearing he will fix that mental noise before ever leaving this place. Watching him sweat, Jihak praises the boy's basics, seeing exactly how brutally hard he is trained. That advanced spear art, honestly, it looks completely messy. The boy sheepishly admits he ran away. No matter how insanely hard he grinded, zero progress happened, so he gave up and spammed easier skills instead. Here is where we leave it. Jihak laughs. If basic triple attacks made you a god, nobody would learn higher arts. They literally argue while throwing punches. Sungmin yells that this is why he stopped running. Jihak fires back that martial arts have zero limits. His whole job is finding ways to level up. He basically calls Sungmin painfully average. Real geniuses are soaring while he is barely crawling, so he cannot afford to just give up. Jihak admits he used to think he was flying too, until he met the minor celestial demon and realized he was absolute trash. Sungmin frustratedly asks what a total nobody crawling in the dirt is even supposed to do. He realizes Weiji Hoyan and Baek Sogo were terrible mentors. Why? Because geniuses only know how to teach from a ridiculous god-tier perspective. Jihak flexes as the better master raised by countless monks and mastering over 72 different insane martial arts styles. When Sungmin charges in, boom, he gets punched right in the mouth. Jihak casually notes his senses are still a total mess. Plus his energy circulation is completely out of whack. He seriously needs a major upgrade. His overall understanding sucks too, so the grind continues. Sungmin admits he realized his own weakness that day, but he refused to retreat. He practiced the supreme spear of the 9 heavens like a man possessed. Training his internal energy was brutal, and progress felt agonizingly slow. But he sharpened his 5 senses, finally reaching perfect balance. Whenever doubt crept in, he just grinded harder. Seasons passed, time flew, and he still could not land a single hit on Jihak. So he decided to study Shaolin directly and absorb everything from Jihak. You and I both know the odds. The world is massive, he is tiny, but he still desperately wants to fly up and conquer the sky. Suddenly, a voice asks if he will ever leave the well. It is Master Bullyoung, and he shocks the boy by saying he changed. The old Buddha explains that martial arts could give him a peaceful life inside that well. But what is his true endgame here? Sungmin claims he wants to see the whole world. The old man scoffs, anyone can do that. So Sungmin clarifies he wants to fly above it. Bullyoung smirks, calling that a massive dream for a kid who is still tiny. Sungmin fires back. He definitely wants to dream, but reaching the sky is no joke to him. When asked what he learned these past 6 months, Sungmin simply says he finally learned how to crawl properly. The master smiles. Time to learn how to walk. Fast forward a bit. Over a year passes at the temple. Now 20 Sungmin hits Jihak with a serious question. He asks why babysitting him is not annoying. Sungmin admits his biggest flaw is still his own weakness, despite grinding so hard. He figures fighting him gives Jihak absolutely zero benefits. But the monk shakes his head. He is completely wrong. Those sparring sessions actually helped the master. Fighting Sungmin let him completely review his own foundation. There is no ceiling to his growth as he chases a higher realm. Then he smiles, asking if Sungmin shares that exact same dream, and that is where we leave it. Hearing that Sungmin finally understands the deeper meaning behind his question, let's dive right in, because our guy is still completely trapped by his past life trauma, terrified of actually moving forward. He seriously thought everyone's kindness was just some magical charm effect. But Jihak asking about his real dream completely messes with his head. His real goal is not just leveling up his martial arts or getting Weiji Hoyan to notice him, it is finally stopping running from himself. So he marches right up to the master, demanding the full truth about this blessing. The old man smirks, glad the kid finally grew a backbone. Sungmin flashes back to meeting Master Bullyoung. He suddenly realizes his biggest fear was never the helper but the actual side effects of this blessing. The monk just sighs. It has been 2 whole years at the temple, so why is he only bringing this up right now? Sungmin comes clean. He was terrified of the haunting truth, but he is totally done running away like a coward. Bullyoung loves that fiery look in his eyes. He drops the bomb. The blessing literally forces people to feel deep compassion for him. Here is the catch. It only alters first impressions. Sungmin looks confused, so the master breaks it down simply. If they actually hated him, they would have walked away. Boom, Sungmin realizes his friendships are real. He genuinely thanks the old man. The master offers to totally erase that effect. From now on, 0 free passes on first impressions. Hard mode engaged. That way he can make real friends without the crushing guilt. Taking a deep breath, our boy instantly accepts. Later on, he bumps into Namgung, who jokes about him becoming a monk, except he still has a full head of hair. It has been forever, so Namgung suggests grabbing drinks. Suddenly, he whips an object at his bro, yelling to think fast. He snatches it midair, groaning that the prank was absolutely cruel. Namgung laughs, seeing his friend leveled up hard, and congratulates him on reaching the supreme peak. Oh, and drama alert, Lady Moyong married Jegal Aryan, apparently because she absolutely hated how loud and arrogant Namgung is. Alright, stick with me here. Namgung trained like an absolute maniac to hit the supreme peak, but honestly, he is still not satisfied. He checks in on his buddy asking if he actually survived the crazy temple training. Lee just nods. Looking him up and down, Namgung admits he leveled up big time. That weird vibe from their first meeting, totally gone now. But let's be real, something felt off from the start. Even jokes he might swing that way because his bro love was just too strong. Anyway, they brush it off and keep chatting. 1 year drops by. At 22, Lee finally leaves the temple. But before bouncing, an old guy hands him a super important letter for the Mount Hua sect leader in Dormer. Talk about insane luck. He gets a mission right where the temple of the martial god is located anyway. Sungmin starts thinking maybe destiny is playing games. So he summons Neville. Boom, the agent drops in asking what the boss needs. Our guy says he is buying premium info today. He asks about the Phantom Sword, Dako Jun, and Bake Sogo the Lightning. Plus, he needs updates on Weiji Hoyan, the little celestial demon. Neville explains Bek Sogo is basically playing hero, taking missions to help out the poor. Because of that Robin Hood energy, she is famous now. Last spotted in the massive city of Rubes just a week ago. As for the Phantom Sword, Dako Jun is out here hunting for clout through duels. He is roaming around fighting top martial artists, even swinging by Mount Hua. Hearing that our boy stares into the crystal ball processing the wild update. Since he is already heading to Dormer, they might literally bump into each other. But honestly, he just wants the tea on the little celestial demon. While he waits for Neville to spill, a massive grin hits his face. Neville says Weiji Hoyan is building an army using pure strength and charisma. 20 loyal members total, and every single one is at least martial peak tier. Now watch closely, everyone is staying on guard. He drops a bomb, the blood celestial demon rules the frozen north, and Weiji Hoyan is marching straight up there for an all-out war. Neville bets Baek Museon will wipe her out since he owns that territory. Our hero, hard, disagree. He knows Weiji Hoyan is going to completely crush him. Still sitting there, he is completely glued to the crystal ball. 8 whole years since he last laid eyes on her. Then he realizes just how stunning she got. He blinks, shaking his head as his thoughts start getting way too distracted. Before the time rewind, he never crossed paths with either of these absolute monsters. Thus, in his past life, Weiji Hoyan disguised herself as a guy. Now she openly lives as a woman, meaning her personality might be totally different. And that makes him seriously sweat about her fighting the blood celestial demon. He desperately wants to rush north and help out. But their reunion is locked for 2 years from now, and he remembers her telling him to catch up. Because of that one promise, she remains his ultimate target, so he refuses to stop grinding. He trusts she will survive the bloodbath and wait for him at the absolute peak. Knowing that he locks back in on leveling up his own power, walking through the trees, a dark thought hits him hard. He feels like he already messed up one promise. Meanwhile, Weiji Hoyan checks herself out. I know what you're thinking, but yeah, she is actually mad her chest didn't get bigger. Just then, someone shouts out to see if she is awake. A guy respectfully tells her to sleep more. She shoots him a look and says, drop the formal titles. They aren't her minions. They can tag along if they want, but shouldn't expect a single favor from her. After that, they walk side by side. She instantly notices everyone staring at her like some rare prize, whose eyes throw her straight back to when she was the feared young master of the demonic cult. Thinking about some annoying guys, she mutters how easy it would be to crush those worms. Suddenly, someone asks if she is the little celestial demon. Baek Museon blocks her path, smirking that she looks thirsty for blood. She casually replies she just wanted to test her fellow celestial demon's actual power level. And on her chin, she roasts him for being unlucky enough to get caught. Annoyed by her insane ego, Baek Museon straight up asks if she can even win. Right before the clash, she randomly asks which hand he uses for his fork. Classic anime trash talk. She smirks, saying that is the only hand he gets to keep. Meanwhile, at Mount Hua, a guard questions our protagonist's sudden arrival. Holding out the item, he says, Master Bullyeong sent a letter. The guard instantly panics, apologizes, and rushes him straight to the sect leader. Once that chore is cleared out, he plans to hunt down Denir, god of time. But out of nowhere, a voice asks if he is the kid from Mush's mountain. It is Dako Jun, and our guy recognizes him instantly. Thrilled someone actually remembered him, they catch up. The guy swears he will never forget that mountain trauma. He calls it pure hell. And trust me, you are going to want to see what happens next. Alright, let's jump back in. He wonders how he got recognized so fast, despite using vision blocking magic earlier. The old guy just remembered his raw internal energy. They keep chatting until Dako Jun cuts it short. He tells the boy to finish his sect business first and then they can talk more later. The nearby guards are waiting impatiently, clearly annoyed. The boy heads out, leaving the old man behind just leaning heavily on his sword. But something is completely off. His hands are shaking non-stop on the hilt. Drops to his knees, feeling something terribly wrong inside his body. Suddenly, the monster created by the Lich Preskin appears right behind him. Meanwhile, at Mount Hua, a sage warmly welcomes our visitor. He then formally introduces himself as the sect leader. Lee Sungmin introduces himself too. He explains he is here just to repay a massive favor for Master Bulyung. Handing over the letter, he mentions the Murim Alliance leader stepped down. Because of that, Master Bulyung was actually being considered for the job. Opening it, the sect leader sees the elder completely refuse the offer. Tossing the paper aside, he sighs, saying he fully expected that answer. Then he switches gears. He says his disciples reported that the boy actually knows the famous ghost sword. Sungmin explains they just met outside the sect entrance. He casually mentions the ghost sword wanted a duel, but he totally refused to accept it. The leader asks why. Sungmin admits he loves fighting strong guys, but that specific old man, the ghost sword, is just way too dangerous. Later, Sungmin meets back up with Dako Jun and flat out asks if he is actually using dark magic. Now watch closely. The old man laughs and admits it, leaving the boy super curious about this insane dark power. Doko Jun asks if he ever hit his limit, which Sungmin confirms. The old man just replies that the boy is too young to understand that absolute wall. Even with internal energy slowing his aging, he is getting older. He says you can literally feel your raw strength slipping away over time. He can tell the boy clearly does not understand that feeling. It is the despair of choosing dark magic over martial pride. Ashamed, the old man goes dead quiet, then tells the boy to get out. He hates showing that weak side. Sungmin leaves without a word, knowing he has nothing to say and choosing not to pry. Next he goes looking for Denir's temple exactly like Mush mentioned, and stops right at a tiny shack. Inside he meets Denir, the god of time. He is absolutely shocked finding out Denir looks like an ordinary child. Puzzled, Sungmin asks if Mush sent him here for being annoying. He figures a god like Denir already knows he traveled back through time. Denir sensed that immediately. Introducing himself properly, he declares he is the god of time, so that stuff is obvious to him. Naturally, he feels uneasy around our hero since breaking time rules completely messed up the world's natural flow. Not completely understanding this, the warrior listens closely as Denir explains. He is not treating this life like it is his last. He is changing events, meeting the same people, and basically repeating life completely differently. Denir warns that even the smallest little change snowballs into something way bigger. Think about this with me. Ouija stopped dressing as a guy and is now fighting the blood heavenly demon, which literally never happened before. Denir gets angry, saying the hero's mere existence is twisting their entire world. Huge differences are already piling up endlessly. Just by breathing and existing here, he is completely warping the world's natural order. Sungmin replies he chose to return after awakening a hidden power. Plus, even if he asked nicely, a god of time would never tell him the full truth anyway. Gods are not all-knowing or invincible. They are actually just living beings who can definitely die. That is exactly why they lie. Telling the truth paints a massive target on their backs. Hearing this, our protagonist's expression instantly darkens. Suddenly, Denir senses an apostle lurking nearby. Because of that, he strictly declares this conversation is officially over. The apostle apologizes and vanishes instantly. Confused, our hero desperately wants to know what just happened. But Denir dodges the question unless Sungmin is willing to visit Judas. Neither mortal nor god can answer that safely. Lost, the boy asks if learning the real truth is impossible. Denir says no, telling him to seek out Envirus. He escaped the mansion of the dead. He is a special case, though totally different from our protagonist. Giving that one clue, Denir tells him to leave. But Sungmin boldly demands a trial first. Instantly, the god's friendly gaze turns chilling. Catching on to his real motive, Denir guesses he already crushed Mush's trials. But he warns the boy will not get what he wants here. This trial is no basic training. Anyone who survived Denir's trial could one-shot our hero, yet every single one of them still went mad and died. Getting forcefully thrown out by Denir, our protagonist leaves the shack. The god told him to clear his head first. He went back to rest like ordered, but the whole village just felt horribly depressing. Doko Jun ambushed Tower Master Sunga at Sangmong, brutally killing him. In his past life memories, the ghost, sword, and Sunga literally never crossed paths. So what do you and I expect? Next year, Dako Jun faces Weiji Hoyun in a dungeon and dies. Stick with me, we're about to see a totally wrecked timeline. He wandered into Mount Hua only to get blocked by some guy. Guards were everywhere hunting Ghost Sword. Why? Because after getting rejected for a duel, he used dark sorcery to assassinate the sect leader. So our MC was stuck. Then one panicking guard shouted that somebody was spotted talking to the Ghost Sword yesterday. Thinking our guy was an accomplice, the whole squad pulled their weapons. Talk about butterfly effects. Thanks to his regression, the leader was dead and Ghost Sword was a wanted man. He didn't even know if he should blame himself. Still, he needed to protect himself and track down Ghost Sword immediately. Right as things got heated, someone called his name. Shocking, right? Kim Jong-un stepped up, calling this run-in total fate. The mage actually shut down the fight, claiming he knew our boy perfectly. The whole zone was on lockdown. Since the MC kept pushing forward, they assumed he was backing Ghost Sword. Jong-un asked him straight up, but our hero dodged the question completely. They just stared each other down. Then the mage decided to tag along with Liang Min. Shocking everyone, he ordered the guards to let them through. He told them to trust him. If the kid acted up, he'd slice his head off. Our MC gave him a quick thanks. He asked about Doc Beijun, but the mage deflected, pointing out something weird. Yep, a nearby corpse had dark sorcery written all over it. They called this nasty skill Vital Drain. It literally sucks away human energy. No wonder this guy earned the title of Demonic Sword. Now watch closely because things escalate here. Doc Beijun did this. Soon it won't just be Mount Hua, the entire world will want him totally dead. Not even the heavens could save him now. While they talked, a black crow dropped onto the mage's shoulder, his trusty familiar coming back from scouting. With his pet back, Jong-un got some fresh intel. His face instantly dropped into a totally grim stare. He warned that the Mount Hua Taoists were delayed. Why he actually blocked their messages just so he could talk to the MC alone. Seriously, sending martial masters was pointless. Vital Drain would just suck them dry and buff the enemy. Turns out the mage was helping him purely for fun. He just wanted a front row seat to see how this altered the timeline. Our hero got instantly suspicious. Then, some kid holding an instrument randomly asked if they were finished. Meanwhile, Du Pil had just brawled with some guys. Completely exhausted, yeah, but he refused to quit. He stood up and unleashed the fifth stance, Supreme Spear of the Heavens. His opponent waited calmly. But then his expression completely changed when he sensed something totally wrong. The attack weak. It totally missed the mark. Without even trying, the guy just smacked the kid right on the head with his sword. That insane technique was way too heavy for his young body. Sporting a massive lump, he just lay there completely out of gas. Back in the dark forest, our MC finally confronted Doc Beijun. The old man sensed him instantly. Breaking the heavy silence, our boy demanded some answers. You and I both know the butterfly effect is real here, he asked the old man. What if they met at the gate? What if he never exposed why the leader rejected him? A heavy silence followed. Finally, Doc Beijun answered. He would have just surrendered. Back then, he genuinely believed he was way too weak to challenge the greatest sex boss. Later, he figured out it wasn't about power. It was his dark sorcery. Denied a fair match, he basically broke into the sect at midnight and forced the fight anyway. Face dripping with blood, eyes looking completely cursed, the old man admitted the truth. That leader, the absolute strongest opponent he had ever faced in this massive world, for him it was an epic clash with a perfect ending. Our hero was totally stunned. He remembered his mountain friend and all his training. Closing his eyes, he focused on the terrifying twisted aura standing right in front of him. He realized Taemin's death was on him, and it turned Doc Beijun into this total monster. But the old man brushed it off. He said his choices were his own. In a world this big, nobody can predict every single butterfly effect. Basically, he shouldn't carry all the guilt. But our guy, he felt responsible anyway, absolutely refusing to accept that kind of excuse. Seeing his stubborn glare, the old man just scoffed at his arrogance. But our hero knew the harsh reality. Doc Beijun completely outclassed him. Across multiple past lives, way too many people suffered just for crossing paths with Lee Sungmin. Even with all that guilt, he gripped his spear tightly. He knew every single death linked to him was a permanent weight on his shoulders, an impossible burden. But even so, he was ready to fight the demonic sword to the death. Knowing this battle would be brutal, he told Kim Jong-un to finally summon the Mount Hua Taoists. Doc Beijun was an absolute beast, now completely leveled up after draining energy from over 10 people. Gripping his blade, the old man dared the mountain boy to show his growth. But our hero could see it. He had evolved into pure terror. Trust me, you'll want to see what's next. In the dark, the old man called him young, completely, ready to fight. Alright, stick with me here. Seeing that terrifying face, our MC realized Doc Beijun was a literal vampire. Tied to the demonic sword, this guy was either insanely overpowered or just completely holding back. Classic vampire logic, drinking the blood of stronger fighters literally reverses his aging, but mentally, still a grumpy grandpa. Then the battle popped off, showing exactly what both these monsters could do. Doc Beijun had crazy skills, effortlessly blocking heavy hits. Sure, he might technically be a lesser vampire, but the guy was anything but weak. He packed the raw strength of a transcendent vampire master. Dropping your guard against him, basically a death wish. The bloodsucker charged in, but our boy countered with a brutal soul-chasing assassin thrust. Attempting a new combo, the old man lost his footing, his sword visibly shaking. Then out of nowhere, he slammed the blade straight into the dirt. Right on cue, the MC launched himself in one massive leap. He thrust his spear at Beijun, but the old man dodged with absolutely ridiculous speed. Reading the attack perfectly, Beijun lunged right back. Our hero totally panicked. The vampire's speed was just unfair. Gripping his spear tight, he spun it around himself. The grandpa attacked again, but our boy smoothly slipped away. Then, in a flash, he pierced the vampire's chest, totally wrecking his balance. Confused, the old guy completely lost track of the boy's movements. Our MC had mastered those new techniques from Ouija Hawk and Beksogo. With fierce eyes, he locked his spear on the target. Not skipping a beat, the old vampire one-handed his sword and took a massive swing right at Lee Sungmin. Using fast footwork, the boy readied his ultimate move, the supreme spear of the 9 heavens with the hidden serpent strike. Now watch this carefully. Unable to read the footwork, the old warrior braced himself. His vampire vision caught things normal, humans absolutely never could. But even he didn't see this savage attack coming. Raw energy literally exploded straight up from the ground. Grandpa just laughed, admitting he never expected a spear attack from under his own boots. If he had reacted even a split second slower, his head would be completely skewered right now. Our hero's fury skyrocketed, burning in his savage glare. Doc Bajun finally realized this clueless mountain kid had seriously leveled up. Flashing under an epic red moon, the old warrior dropped a weird plot twist, claiming he had actually invited the boy here. Obviously, the kid was confused. Stepping closer, Beijun clarified he was actually inviting the boy's raw talent. Sensing him advance, the boy readied his spear, but still took a nasty slash to the arm. As he collapsed, Beijun loomed over him like a shadow. Our MC swung back through the dark, only to realize his trusty spear was literally snapped in half. Utterly stunned, he demanded answers. The vampire paused the fight and dropped his whole tragic backstory. After leaving the mountain, he panicked over his aging body. He hated getting older. He desperately wanted to push his limits, but his physical body simply couldn't keep up anymore. He swung a sword for 50 straight years, holding on to this crazy dream of becoming the absolute strongest fighter in the world. Aging betrayed him, so he searched for a cheat code to beat time. That's exactly why he became a vampire. Laughing like a total supervillain, Beijun revealed he knew backup was coming. He actually wanted them to hurry so he could drain their blood and finally get his youth back. Hearing that psycho plan, our hero hit max rage. Using his ring, he unleashed every drop of his power. He used to genuinely respect that old friend. The vampire got hyped, realizing they still hadn't reached the absolute peak of this fight. Suddenly, he realized crushing this kid was going to be way more entertaining than he originally thought. I know what you're thinking, how do they fight now? Well, top-tier martial artists create an energy sword. It massively buffs their attack, letting masters effortlessly slice right through solid steel. Pushing past even that level makes the energy solidify. They call that an enhanced energy sword. It's infinitely deadlier than the normal version and guarantees a one-hit kill. But get this, there is a way to block it. Enhanced protection energy. It covers your entire body in an aura shield to tank insane hits. The problem, Lee Sungmin literally can't use it yet. His energy is totally incomplete, pieced together just from pure insight. But even facing impossible odds, Lee Sungmin flat out refused to throw in the towel. He threw every attack he had. Gasping for air, completely exhausted, he never stopped moving. Knocked down again and again, he kept standing up. But the vampire was way too fast and completely vanished from sight. Boom, he spawned right behind him. Sungmin felt the presence, but he was just too weak to counter. The spear's energy violently ripped through the air. Catching a split-second gap in the shield, he struck hard. But nope, that enhanced protection instantly blocked his spear. With that aura shield, Beijun could basically tank infinite hits. Though, honestly, one clean shot straight to the dome could still kill him, vampire powers or not. But their skill gap was seriously massive. Just as he thanked fate for surviving, his spear sliced empty air, creating a fatal gap. In a master fight, that spells instant death. In less than a heartbeat, Sungmin felt it deep in his bones. It was game over. And yet, somehow, he was still breathing. Instead of finishing him, Beijun stepped back. Seeing that psycho smile, Sungmin realized he was literally just being toyed with, making his absolute blood boil. You and I know those 4 years of daily Shaolin training won't just go to waste. Alright, you and I are jumping right back in. His martial arts hit peak level, totally unheard of for his age. He wasn't weak. He just had the awful luck of running into absolute monsters. Fighting geniuses way out of his league, plus wild past life memories. Yeah, that gave our guy a massive inferiority complex. Living a normal average life would have been so much easier. But his harsh training with the Shaolin monks finally helped him crush that mental block forever. Meanwhile, the battle was pure chaos. Lee Sungmin got stronger, but he still felt totally useless. Honestly, it was true. His real problem wasn't weakness. It was the crushing guilt of innocent people dying for his pride. Worse yet, the demonic sword was completely toying with him. Right then, our boy realized just how screwed he was. That's exactly why he pushed so hard. He refused to stay a punching bag, refused to live in shame, and wanted to smash that nagging inferiority complex to pieces. Running on absolute fumes, our hero launched one final strike. Now, pay attention here. Watch how he tackles this untouchable enemy. His opponent's defense kept leveling up, but Sungmin refused to back down. Gripping his spear, he unleashed everything, stabbing right into his enemy's chest and leaving him completely paralyzed. Honestly, even Sungmin had zero clue how he just pulled that off. The phantom definitely felt that brutal impact. He stumbled back, totally losing his balance as he stared at the spear buried inside him. He was totally mind-blown. How on earth did that hit connect? Sungmin felt the heavy tension and honestly asked himself the exact same question as Doc Baejun. He seriously had no idea. A brief flash of an answer appeared, then disappeared completely. That accidental super thrust was somehow faster than the demonic sword breaking straight through his shield. But Sungmin was still confused. Was it another random power awakening, like his first time using enhanced energy? Meanwhile, his enemy was literally writhing in agony. The guy desperately thrashed around, trying every single trick to yank the spear out. Sungmin panicked, completely frozen. The crazy old warrior just muttered that it felt like tripping over a random pebble. A rookie at Sungmin's tier shouldn't have ever landed a hit like that. Ripping the spear free, the madman blindly charged our boy again. That lucky spear thrust was literally stronger, faster, and stealthier than the legendary demonic sword itself. He knew full well that his insane healing wouldn't save him from death this time, so he just gripped his sword tighter. His blade suddenly erupted in bright blue energy, begging the kid to show him more. That massive blue aura completely lit up the sky. Doc Baejun desperately wanted Sungmin to showcase the ultimate power he couldn't achieve. Using your innate energy core basically drains your life force until you drop dead. The old man was on borrowed time, dying fast, so our MC could have totally just run away and waited him out. You saw that too, right? His eyes burned with passion. Seeing that intense look, our hero just couldn't retreat. Doc Baejun wasn't just some mindless demon puppet. He was a true martial seeker, chasing absolute truth to break his limits. Sungmin suddenly realized the old man lied about envying his talent. The guy was just running from his own deep inferiority while pretending he conquered it. Out of absolute respect, Sungmin gripped his spear with everything left. If he could just trigger that miracle strike again, he'd give this epic martial artist a proper send-off. By then, the crazy old man was completely out of gas, coughing up heavy blood. Right before the end, he actually called our boy a disappointment. Fading fast, he complained that the ultimate blow that finally killed him should have been way flashier and far more epic. Staring at the spear planted in his chest, again the legendary warrior still had absolutely zero clue how he actually lost. Sungmin stood quietly listening to the old man's final ramble. Before he could even finish, his hand dropped. Doc Baejun was gone. Our MC felt the massive weight of the burden he still carried. And just like that, the demonic sword died smiling. Kneeling beside the body, the poor kid asked for forgiveness. Traumatized by constant death, he blamed himself for every single loss. While crying for the fallen, a soft light suddenly approached. It was Sogo. He ran straight into her arms and she whispered that he had grown up so much. The protagonist was absolutely stunned to see his old friend standing right there in the woods. Suddenly suspicious, he stepped back and asked what she was doing here. She stayed quiet, gathering wildflowers, mentioning she'd heard dark rumors about the demonic path. The hero listened in pure silence. She carefully placed those flowers onto Doc Baejun's body, then gently closed his eyes. Mourning the loss, she didn't say another word. Sungmin and Sogo hadn't seen each other in 5 long years, and now they reunite in a bloodbath. Sogo could already feel that the mountain boy had leveled up his power significantly. He admitted sensing the intense demonic energy, watching his crazy fight, and clearly seeing him lose. But even if he died, she refused to interfere. Giving a bitter little smile, the boy said he totally understood she was a true martial artist too. So what do you and I make of this? He survived, sure, but retreating all match for one lucky strike, he felt he should have died. Let's dive in. Despite the massive power gap, the demonic sword let ambition take over, pushing way past human limits. But Sogo completely disagreed. Confused, our boy looked at her and asked what she meant. He fired back that hurting innocent people was a sin, and absolutely nothing excused that. His hidden pain, his tragic reasons, to her, none of that mattered at all. Because of the unforgivable deaths he caused, the two just stood there in total silence. Sogo's absolute justice clashed hard with our hero's views. Sungmin explained he only hunted the demonic sword out of pure responsibility, and with a sad expression she finally understood. She revealed she was from the Muram Alliance, a place to test her strict justice and where she managed to gather some seriously useful intel. Knowing what he was capable of, she wanted to stop him, completely unaware our main character was already there. Wiping a little blood from his mouth, he called out to Sogo. Actually curious, he asked what she thought of him now. He told Sungmin he looked totally different. A huge step above the kid she met before. Honestly, she was genuinely happy to see him grow. But then reality hit. She remembered her active mission, and she had to leave right away. The second she dropped that hint, Lee Sungmin locked in. Sogo was actually hunting the little celestial demon Ouija Hoyon. Hearing that specific name, his eyes blew wide open. Walking away, she admitted she couldn't share anything else without breaking her oath. She promised they would meet again soon. Before Sungmin could reply, she vanished. Left all alone, he thought hard about Sogo's mission. Watch closely here. This exact mission, it is what got her brutally killed in his past life. Joining the Muram Alliance to chase her absolute justice wasn't a path she would just drop. Instantly, our boy realized he could never actually change her mind. Once the demonic sword and his dark magic were wiped out, rumors of a new young hero exploded. Slaying a vampire at the Supreme Martial Peak under a full moon earned him a new title. The demonic spear returning to his shack, a sudden voice rang out, totally shocked. Bursting with raw resolve, Lee Sungmin demanded the God of Time give him the ultimate trial even if it ended up costing his very life. Seeing that insane determination, Daenerys was totally speechless. This crazy warrior only wanted one thing to clear that trial. Staring him down, Daenerys knew he showed up ready to die, acting exactly like a madman. Agony waiting inside that specific trial was worse than any pain imaginable. But honestly, our main character did not care at all. He ordered Daenerys to fire up the trial immediately. Feeling the kid's deep suffering, the God of Time flashed a small smirk and kicked things off instantly. Boom! In a flash, they teleported to a completely different dimension. They were standing inside the world of the protagonist's own consciousness. Physical training here wouldn't hurt his actual brain. He could only train his mind with absolutely zero access to his status window or system skills. To break out, he had to rely solely on pure talent and raw memory. Are you and I catching this? He was stuck there until the hourglass emptied. One single trial lasted a full century. Meaning with zero way out, he was locked in this total void for at least 100 years. The God of Time believed this kid completely deserved such brutal punishment. Honestly, he could be trapped way past a century. Daenerys stated he could stay in that hellscape for as long as he wanted. Once the sand empties, two choices drop. Wake up in the real world or flip the glass. Every single flip tacks on another 100 years, but flip it once and backing out is impossible. He stays until the last grain falls. Historically, only 3 out of 10 challengers ever survived. The rest completely lost their minds, or died trying. Many beat the first century, get super cocky, and flip it again. That's when the second century completely shatters their sanity. So the God of Time just wanted to see how long our hero could survive. Leaving those chilling words, Daenerys vanished, kicking off the first century. Initially, he felt okay. Infinite time to level up sounded like a huge blessing. But no matter how hard he trained, he never felt tired, hungry, or sleepy. And very quickly, that emptiness became pure mental torture. He actually missed hunger, extreme thirst, exhaustion, and especially pain. No matter what he did, he felt absolutely nothing. He never imagined a complete lack of pain could sting this badly. Realizing how hopeless his reality was, a heavy despair crushed him. This was psychological warfare. He couldn't even tell if his training worked with literally zero feedback. Weiji Hoyon, Baek Sogo, and Weiji Huk all totally gone. If a basic spear thrust felt wrong, he could never be certain. The terrifying thought that his suffering was completely pointless nearly broke his mind. Lee Sungmin desperately needed proof of progress. Instead, he felt hollow and utterly lost. Zero answers anywhere. And just when he assumed decades had to have passed, he checked the hourglass. Not one single grain of sand had fallen. Meanwhile, in the real world, his frozen body stood perfectly still. Daenerys was already calculating what to do with his inevitable corpse. Failure was a given. But then Daenerys sensed something bizarre. Looking closer, his eyes totally widened. Cold sweat literally dropped down the god's back. He realized he was watching a genuine madman. Only 10 legends ever faced this test, clearing the first century with total ease. Inside, our main character fully knew his talent and willpower were way below theirs. So what do you and I take from this? Those memories became his fuel, reminding him why he never quits. Knowing he was still just a larva, he refused to complain about crawling. Stick with me here. Back on the Mountain of Mercy, he fully accepted crawling until he surpassed every single genius. If a massive wall stood in his way, he would just smash it and forge his own path. Next to that, his Shaolin training felt like a joke. Just recover, get up, and keep moving forward. Even a giant boulder turns to sand eventually. Yet no matter how hard he trained, that Supreme Nine Heaven spirit refused to improve. He finally realized people do not really change. That is exactly why everyone hides behind masks. Thrusting endlessly, he gained absolutely nothing and never felt tired. A spear is meant to pierce and suppress. It was a strong monk art, but just not his path. He sank way deeper into complete confusion. Less than half his time left, and he still questioned if he did it right. But quitting, not an option. Leaving now changes absolutely nothing. He knew he had to destroy the pathetic weak side of himself. Falling to his knees, he begged forgiveness for killing the Lord, knowing someone this utterly weak had no right. Change is brutal, but he craved to crush his inner weakness, even if that flaw was literally all he had. Time was ticking. He swallowed his grief and focused. 200 years of brutal training, zero progress. Still totally classless. How many times did despair beg him to quit over those 2 centuries? Countless. But he was done running. He had to change his future. Looking exhausted, he flipped the hourglass once more. That heavy sand represented his own hesitation. Now watch this closely. Another 2 centuries started and pure agony ripped through his entire body. Snapping back to reality, way more sand had dropped. He literally went insane for a bit before taking control back. He felt that disgust for his own weakness so many times. But as long as he did not stay permanently broken, time meant nothing. The next 100 years, actually way better. For once, it finally felt like he was inching forward slowly but surely. This round, he grinded the mystical Violet Dawn art and the shadowless soul flight technique. Having a clear goal kept him sane briefly. But 2 whole centuries later, still zero real improvement, just as expected. So he just tacked on 3 more centuries. The first 100 felt like hell, but now, almost easy. He was absolutely convinced he had lost his mind. Still feeling slight progress, he aimed higher, trying to copy that demonic sword-killing strike. Obviously, a perfect copy was impossible. So what does he do? Adds another 400 years. Soon enough, a literal millennium passed by. By then, his dead eyes hid absolutely every single emotion. Staring at that supreme peak wall, he suddenly burst out laughing. 1,000 years just to find it. Throw on another 500. Finding that wall took forever, so crossing it would obviously take even longer. So he trained relentlessly. After almost 1,500 years, he recreated the epic strike that killed the demonic sword, but it remained a weak copy. He failed to match that raw power and speed in other moves. When would he finally reach supreme peak master level? Staring at the hourglass, he just added even more time. I know what you are thinking. Even the god of time believes Sungmin went totally insane. Sungmin only cared about finishing this brutal trial. His fierce eyes simply refused to fail. Meanwhile, Denier kept one huge secret. This consciousness realm nerfed growth so hard that even absolute geniuses struggled, making pure despair hit way faster. Previous challengers were leagues stronger than our guy. Yet not a single one lasted past 1,000 years. Yet this kid endured way longer. He trained for a staggering 2,100 years straight. Back in reality, Denier demanded to know how he survived. Realizing his own weakness, blood suddenly dripped from his nose. Total brain overload. Absorbing 2,100 years of memories all at once is no joke. Denier was absolutely stunned. The guy went totally crazy multiple times and still bounced back. A talentless fool should have quit. Then it clicked. That stubborn simplicity is exactly how he survived 2,100 years. Geniuses fly like eagles, but eagles cannot crawl. Lee Sungmin. He had been crawling through mud with heavy weights since day one. He was totally used to getting knocked out, hitting rock-bottom despair, and just standing right back up. Thousands of years of suffering just made him numb. The time god was completely mind-blown by this absolute madman. But that was not the whole story. After 2,000 years without a physical form, his real body felt incredibly heavy. The last 1,000-year survivor forgot how to even talk, so Denier quickly restored his present-day memories to bridge that gap. What do you and I make of this? Memories flooded back, and his expression completely shifted. Remembering his pathetic old self, he still felt truly thankful for it all. Let's jump right into this. The God of Time's trial only leveled up Sungmin's mind, leaving his body weak. But with 2,000 years of combat memory packed into his brain, getting stronger is going to be a total breeze. He straight up asked Denier for free rent. Having nowhere else to crash, he needed a place to stay while his physical body caught up to his insanely overpowered mind. After 2,100 years stuck in total isolation, he needed some serious recovery time. Amused, the God of Time literally just told him to do whatever. 1 year later, over at the Shaolin Temple, the entire courtyard was completely overgrown. There, a monk was training his heart out. Suddenly, Jihak totally froze, stunned by a voice he had not heard in ages. Beside him, Sungmin just stared curiously. But Jihak's face turned to absolute shock the second he actually recognized the boy standing there. Our MC already had his perfect master plan ready. Completely confused, the warrior admitted he had no idea what had happened to the kid. Clearly, a lot had changed over the year. Jihak had actually heard the crazy rumors that Lee Sungmin defeated the legendary demonic sword, and he refused to believe that taking down a top-tier martial artist, the exact guy who killed the Manhwa sect leader, was just pure luck. Turns out our hero had already hit supreme peak halfway through the year. The Shaolin fighter was itching to know how strong Sungmin actually was. Even trying to play it cool, he finally admitted he wanted a piece of the action. Looking into Sungmin's eyes, he saw the heavy gaze of someone who had lived way too long. The two just stood there in total silence. Now watch closely. The warrior tightened his grip, making his challenge painfully obvious. Jihak wanted a fight, but our boy was already locked in and ready. Sungmin smirked, saying that is exactly why he showed up. But right as they squared up, a loud voice ordered them to freeze. An old man stepped in, warning that an all-out brawl between them could literally destroy the future of the Shaolin. Hearing Master Bulsen, both fighters backed down. The old man was completely blown away by how insanely far the kid's martial arts had leveled up. Sungmin only came back for one specific reason. He needed to test his limits, dead set on getting as close to Weiji Ho Yun's insane power level as physically possible. Bulsan sighed, dropping the harsh truth that her monstrous talent had probably taken her way further by now. Jihak just listened quietly. The old master added that even a 17-year-old Ho Yun would still easily wipe the floor with Sungmin. Honestly, Sungmin fully expected that. He never once thought his current stats were actually high enough to match her crazy power. Still, that mental training gave him a massive boost. With his body catching up, he planned to skyrocket his power. Plus, he only had 2 months before the dungeon opened. Jihak invited him to crash for the night, but Sungmin just grabbed his demonic armor, snatched up his spear, and dipped. His to-do list was packed. Figure out the Black Heart, stop Baek Sogo from literally dying track down in virus, and fully restore his martial arts. With so much on his plate, every second counted. Step 1 was locating in virus, a guy dealing with a twisted timeline completely different from his own. This guy dodged death itself, so Sungmin hoped he could actually help. He set off to find the only guy with a clue. According to Arabrisa's intel, this mysterious merchant named Envirus was last spotted chilling in the Forest of Sleepers. That creepy forest was famous for ghostly screams that drove normal people completely insane. I know what you are thinking. Who goes there? Everyone avoids those monster-filled woods. Sungmin himself could not believe a regular merchant would voluntarily camp here. Normal folks would totally lose their minds from the screaming, but to him, just annoying background noise. Nothing in this forest could actually shake him. Then something weird crept up behind him. Startled, he spun and swung with absolute full force. In just a few casual strikes, he completely flattened every monster jumping at him. Meanwhile, a group of sketchy figures was spying on him from the bushes. They were totally baffled by how easily he was shredding the beasts. They guessed he was a supreme peak master, but definitely not demonic since he lacked the dark aura. Knowing they could never win alone, they tried sneaking away to call for backup, but Sungmin was way ahead of them, popping up to ask if they knew a guy named Envirus. Absolutely terrified, the guys immediately drew their weapons in panic. A dart shot right at his head. He casually dodged it, totally confused by the sudden attack. Even still, the dudes kept attacking with everything they had. One of them actually launched a massive blast of fire right at him. Sungmin literally did not care. He knew his body could tank it. The attacker's jaw dropped when Sungmin just casually waved his hand and copied the exact same fire move. Strolling closer, our MC tried acting friendly. There was absolutely no reason to panic, but one cold stare from him was enough to freeze the man in pure terror. The guy then frantically gestured that they were deaf, meaning if Sungmin wanted info, he had to actually write it in the dirt. Oh, that explains the massive overreaction. Feeling bad, Sungmin sighed and started having a full-on conversation by sketching words into the ground. Then, out of nowhere, a warrior literally dropped from the sky. Slamming into the dirt, he started screaming at the two men, calling them massive idiots for chatting. He yelled that they had no right sharing tribal info with an uninvited outsider. Turns out this angry dude was a powerful tribe elder. And yeah, hearing him yell made Sungmin realize those two scammers were not actually deaf. Still, Sungmin only cared about finding Envirus. But the angry elder loudly declared he would never tell an outsider anything. So what happens next? Well, after effortlessly dropping the elder face first into the dirt, Sungmin just smiled and tried asking the terrified men again, "Stick with me here." They were absolutely shocked he crushed their elder. Figuring Envirus was connected to this tribe, he ordered them to show the way. Their tribe called the Forest of Sleepers home. To survive those endless mind-bending screams, they relied on a special drug. They soon hit the village completely packed with wooden cabins. Naturally, a few guys looked incredibly salty about dragging an outsider inside. Stepping right up, one guy introduced himself, Chief Kazuya. They locked eyes, trading heavy threats while planning their next move. Make no mistake, this chief was an absolute beast, a supreme peak master who actually survived origin reversal. Visibly annoyed, the old man demanded answers. What could Sungmin possibly want that justified killing an elder and bullying two young kids? Sungmin just kept insisting he came in total peace. Zero murder intended. But obviously, he wasn't about to just stand still and get assassinated. Hearing that honest logic left the chief completely speechless for a second. Swallowing his rage, the chief did the math. Trying to stop this monster meant way too many of his own people dying, so he officially made Sungmin a guest. Sungmin nodded, keeping his guard completely up. Truce locked in. Then he finally asked if the chief actually knew Envirus. The chief dropped the bad news. Envirus packed up and left 2 months ago. He had zero clue about his current location. But before dipping out, Envirus literally predicted someone would come looking for him. His final bizarre request: guide that exact person to a very specific hidden location. Following a short hike, they reached a completely different section of the forest. Kazuya revealed that thousands of trees grew together here, forming a massive barricade. Gripping his spear, Sungmin channeled every single ounce of raw aura and willpower into the blade. Now watch this closely. He launched himself forward. The explosive impact was so blindly intense the chief had to literally shield his face. Yet after that epic smash, Sungmin frowned. Pure physical muscle just wasn't enough to shatter this magic wall. Turns out not even Enverus could bypass this. Only the tribe chief held the key. Giving in, the old man decided to unlock the path himself. Gathering every drop of his energy, he ripped open a pitch-black tunnel. Hilariously, even the chief had zero idea what lurked inside. He only knew some insane, terrifying entity lived down there, deadly, even to a supreme peak master. But before he could finish warning him, Sungmin just casually walked in. Kazuya just stared blankly as the kid disappeared. Those endless echoing screams down there could easily break anyone's sanity. This was a ruthless psychological attack. Just like Kazuya warned, even a top-tier master would mentally collapse under this pressure. But over 2,100 years, our boy had survived way worse nightmares. Inside his own consciousness, his brain had been shattered and glued back together countless times. Honestly, he was already teetering between completely sane and totally unhinged. Wandering forward, a creepy voice started whispering while a shadowy figure twitched in the fog. Turns out this bizarre energy pulled him inside because of a total mistaken identity. Curious, the shadow bluntly asked if he was the legendary guy who reversed time itself. Having absolutely no clue what this thing was, Sungmin kept his mouth shut. Suddenly, a second voice scolded the monarch of the void for acting so dramatic. A little girl suddenly shape-shifted into view, sighing that he was terrifying their guest. Sungmin was just standing there utterly confused. Finding his voice, he finally demanded to know who these two freaks behind the magical tree wall actually were. Before he could finish, the girl politely bowed. Name's Ruby, the loyal familiar of Enverus. She casually dropped that she had been waiting in this creepy place for ages, following her master's strict orders. I know what you're thinking. A weird master. Yep, she admitted he had bizarre tastes. Pointing past her, Sungmin finally asked about the creepy floating shadow blob. Ruby casually replied it was the monarch of the void, basically leftover trash from the great demons. 4 centuries ago, this guy was a terrifying demon boss ruling over a massive army. Today, he was literally just a homeless ghost floating without a physical body. Sungmin questioned why she'd waste so much time camping in this dump. She shrugged, claiming only Enverus knew since the dude literally messed with the rules of twisted causality. Even sharing a spiritual bond, she couldn't track his current coordinates. That answer made Sungmin visibly annoyed. But since Enverus could always ping her location, she basically said his best bet was to just tag along with her. This entire side quest was getting way too complicated for his liking. Plus, he still didn't understand why this shadowy demon orb was just awkwardly hovering there. As for the Void Monarch, he only knew one absolute truth. The fabled regressor would eventually show up seeking his power. His master plan was escaping this forest with the time traveler. The locals constantly praised some benevolent god, but that naive garbage just made this ancient demon cackle, because as long as that specific tribe's bloodline stayed alive out there, the ultimate magic seal wasn't going anywhere. Honestly, the demon didn't even know if this cursed maze had an exit. Naturally, Sungmin's brain was still totally overflowing with unanswered questions. Ruby promised that sticking with her meant meeting Enverus eventually. The main problem, how do you physically carry a bodiless demon ghost? Even her genius master skipped explaining that. Without warning, the Void Monarch began violently mutating. Sungmin immediately went on high alert. Suddenly, the dark spirit torpedoed right at him, surging with dark energy. Even Ruby gasped, completely clueless about the demon's crazy attack plan. His Grand Master plan hijacked Sungmin's flesh after suffering 400 years without legs. Sure, it was total garbage compared to his original form, but beggars can't be choosers. Ruby just stood there watching. The demon cackled like a maniac until he realized he flew right into the kid's ceiling bracelet. So yeah, you and I just witnessed the ultimate fail. Stick with me here. He was completely confused. The great monarch of the void got absolutely rejected and sealed inside the bracelet. Sungmin's mind was a fortress after 2,100 years of pure mental training. Plus, he probably had some crazy hidden blessing from a secret VIP pulling the strings. The only way to get answers, find in virus. Plus, this bracelet brought back heavy memories of his late friend Lloyd. They had shared so much history with that item, and now it was completely useless. He seriously wanted to kick the monarch out, but the evil spirit started panicking hard. Before Sungmin could ditch him, the monarch desperately tried bribery. He bragged that back in his great demon days, he hoarded massive piles of legendary loot over the centuries. Rubia actually backed the guy up. She confirmed he used to be filthy rich, owning vaults packed with insane treasures. Sungmin weighed his options. Ultimately, Rubia and the monarch of the void joined his party, and the new trio pushed deeper into the thick forest. The classic plan of waiting quietly for Master Envirus actually sounded like a solid idea. But first, Sungmin had a side quest. The girl nervously asked if it was dangerous. His smirk said it all. They were hitting a dungeon. These places are absolutely wild, packed with overwhelming magical energy. Classic game logic here, each has its own rules. Kill a monster, the body vanishes and epic loot drops. Stronger monsters mean way better drops. Beat the final boss, you score the ultimate jackpot and the whole dungeon shuts down. Rubia asked if he was seriously doing this. He nodded calmly. Soon he stood facing a massive stone. 2 whole months had passed since teaming up with those two, and Envirus had actually helped him track this place down. In his past life, he grabbed the Stone of Regression. Now the Crimson Stone waited right at the entrance. One touch equals instant teleportation somewhere inside. Now, pay close attention. He briefly doubted if this mission was even possible, but honestly, giving up now made 0 sense. He slammed his hand on the stone and vanished instantly. Just like that, he and Rubia were officially inside the dungeon. Suddenly, Sungmin heard a suspicious noise. He whipped around to find an absolutely massive guy standing there. A total ambush. The giant stayed completely silent before asking who he was. Then it clicked, this was the demon spear, the guy who destroyed the demon sword. Grismo quickly apologized, admitting he totally mistook him for some elite master from the demonic faction. In his past life, Grismo reached the absolute peak before Ouija Hoyan killed him. Now our guy was here to stop the little heavenly demon. Grismo warned him that she was incredibly dangerous and backed up by heavy hitters. The loot here was insane. If she claimed it, an unstoppable monster would be born. They had to crush her to save literally everyone. The demon sword Dako, the lonely grandmother, and the Iron Fist demon entered as her loyal followers too. Muram Alliance brought heat too. Bake Sogo, the drunken expedient, the ace of expedients, and the supreme celestial swordsman were inside. They were all lurking inside. Grismo begged for his help, insisting Ouija Hoyan must be stopped immediately. After a pause, he agreed to fight for justice. Grismo slapped his back, hyping him up as the legendary hero who crushed the cursed demon sword. This was Lee Sungmin's very first dungeon run. Every dungeon is a different beast packed with lethal monsters, so they crept forward. Grismo suddenly sensed something approaching. They froze instantly. A crazy, intense light flashed right through our protagonist's eyes. Someone was here. Ouija Hoyan also felt the familiar aura of a boy she hadn't seen forever. Meeting face to face, nobody talked, just heavy, intense, glaring. Standing there was the little heavenly demon. But Grismo immediately felt something was completely wrong. Suddenly, Bake Sogo stepped out of the shadows. The giant lit up seeing her, but they really needed to look closer. Her vibe was completely off. We all see this trap coming, right? Her face looked weird, and Grismo instantly panicked. She blitzed him, delivering a full power kick. Blood sprayed everywhere. Rubia instantly realized it was a doppelganger, a nasty monster, stealing looks and moves. Even crazier, it somehow used a soul attack without actually having a soul. Then the monster shifted its deadly focus. Glowing red eyes locked onto our guy. He triggered his bracelet and heavy armor instantly wrapped his body. He was absolutely furious seeing his friend copied like cheap trash. Rubia panicked, feeling his rage. The fake moved, unleashing an absolute storm of brutal attacks right at him. But remember, this guy took down the legendary old demon sword. That day, the real Bake Sogo praised his incredible growth. He could literally never forget those exact words. That's exactly why he trained his mind for 2,100 years, just to make her proud. Not to hear it from some fake monster, so he fought with zero restraint. He yelled to Grismo that it was just a cheap copy mimicking martial arts. So, what do we learn? It's way weaker than the real Sogo, since doppelgangers normally just copy looks. Rubia told him to relax, she was on navigation duty now. But another voice immediately mocked the bossy little puppet. Fed up with the noise, our guy told them both to shut up and stop fighting. Stick with me here. If Bake Sogo's clone was roaming around, they could bump into anyone's worst nightmare next. Lee Sungmin instantly pictured Ouija Hoyan, pure panic flashing across his face. Meanwhile, in another area, Muram Alliance member Jegelchundo met a brutal end. His ally fought desperately for his life. The Alliance warrior unleashed pure rage on the cursed freak standing right in front of him. The monster, a spitting image of the little celestial demon. She just stood there fully prepped for round 2. Seeing her stance, he figured she picked up some new tricks. Fueled by vengeance, he charged in to avenge everyone she had slaughtered. He screamed that Ouija Hoyan had to drop dead. The clash kicked off, but the little demon was just completely on another level. Barely moving a muscle, she launched one strike. That single hit instantly flatlined him. No words spoken. Total dead eyes. Cold as ice. Then a memory hit her. It had been 9 whole years since she saw a certain someone. Sprawled out on the dirt was a copy of Lee Sungmin. She muttered she was relieved it wasn't the real deal. Then catching her reflection, she realized she probably should have washed up a bit before this. Scanning his copy, she could clearly see just how insanely strong he had actually gotten. She openly admitted she'd be devastated if he died in this place. Turning away, she left the corpse, really hoping the real Lee Sungmin makes it out. Crazy laughter bounced off the dungeon walls. Even after a brutal brawl, Bake Sogo barely looked tired at all. She already figured out these were just clones. The guy she just folded was Jegelchundo's doppelganger, literally the weakest one. She yanked out a pure elixir, realizing it formed inside the fake body. Lost on direction, she knew she had to regroup with the other Muram Alliance fighters. Watch closely here. She knew she couldn't handle Ouija Hoyan or her crew right now. And suddenly 2 figures walked out of the shadows. They were top followers of the little celestial demon, the notorious Lonely Phantom, and the heavy-hitting Iron Fist. Both instantly noticed she was totally solo. The magic core dropped by Bek Sogo's clone was a shiny crystal, absolutely loaded with raw energy. Some voice flat out called him an idiot for wondering why the main character didn't just eat the thing. Eating that would backfire big time since his core was super unstable and out of whack. But get this, his heart was flawless, purer than any legendary demon. Our hero was completely lost trying to process this info. Just ahead, the mountain yokai just kept strolling along like normal, then he suddenly stopped. Right there in the dirt was a guy missing a whole arm. It was the beggar sect guy, totally famous as the begging one. Sungmin instantly realized this was one of their top 3 disciples. He lost the arm fighting a fake Lonely Phantom, tanking dozens of sword slashes instantly. Knowing he was bleeding out, the dude just desperately begged for healing potions. Chugging the stash, he practically cried, thanking them for the save. With that high-tier elixir, they might even reattach the severed arm. Grismo introduced the kid as Demon Spear Lee Sungmin, the absolute beast who broke the demon's blade. The drunk hobbled over saying he knew the name. Apparently, Bek Sogo talked about him non-stop, and the beggar confidently claimed they were practically besties. Our hero shot back that real friends actually help out during crises. He honestly started wondering what kind of relationship this drunk actually had with her. Then they literally started bickering, both arguing about who was tighter with Bek Sogo. Grismo just stood there dead silent. Sungmin's face suddenly flushed completely red. We both saw that coming. A voice teased his massive crush, laughing at 2 grown men bickering over a girl. Drunk suddenly realized he was flaming the guy who just gave him life-saving potions. Meanwhile, that voice kept giggling at their ridiculous little love triangle comedy. This silly romantic drama completely distracted them. Out of nowhere, one of the demon's crazy followers stepped right up, calling herself the evil old lady. Grismo locked eyes with her and instantly recognized the threat. Totally annoyed, she bragged she could one-shot him. Sungmin immediately clocked that she was just another one of Weiji Hoyan's crazy zealots. Right then, Rubia announced the dungeon scan was done. The real fight was officially starting. She brought up a massive holographic display of the layout. Blue dot, our guy. Yellow dots meant other players and red meant monsters. With this crazy radar cheat, they actually had a fighting chance. 3 yellow blips were moving insanely fast, definitely a massive fight. Sungmin locked his eyes on Rubia's glowing screen. The action was literally right behind the wall. That meant one of those dots had to be Bek Sogo clashing with Weiji Hoyan or worse. Barely thinking twice, he decided to just smash the wall down. Meanwhile, the other 2 were still busy brawling with the crazy old lady. Suddenly, an insane wave of energy hit them. Grismo yelled at the old lady to brace herself. A normal punch wasn't bringing that thick wall down, so our hero pushed his spear to the absolute max. Raw aura visibly swirled around the blade. His power level had skyrocketed beyond belief, and he fully remembered using this exact broken move before. The spear glowed brighter, stacking insane amounts of energy. Grismo signaled the attack. The old woman completely panicked, feeling the apocalyptic force about to drop. He poured out every drop of stamina until he turned pale. The enemy just screaming, "Trust me, you will want to see what happens next. Now pay close attention." Boom, the wall absolutely explodes into smoke and everyone just freezes in pure, utter panic. Bek Sogo stared in complete shock. Our hero instantly dashed in, stepping right in front of her as a human shield. Totally shaken, she only registers how long they have been apart. Suddenly, system status updates start popping up for everyone. Lee Sungmin refuses to let anyone touch Bek Sogo. Those 2 random enemies instantly grow super cautious. Not recognizing him, they figure he is Muram Alliance backup. Even battered, the girl is absolutely stunned her friend smashed through that wall. Gripping an item tight, he promises he is here to save her. It is that exact special gift from the monk, kept completely sealed, so the magic would not drain away. Enough playing around, he bites down on the sphere with everything he has. The second he swallows it, total physical transformation. Those enemies watch closely, completely on edge. Even absorbing just half of it, his raw inner energy comes rushing back. Hio was totally right. The strongest guy targets the girl, while the other charges our cursed boy blade drawn. Off to the side, the fighters prep for war. They leap straight in. Lee Sungmin snaps his spear up for a block. The enemy sword is ridiculously heavy, backed by absolute deadly control. Gripping her own weapon tight, Bek Sogo is honestly mind-blown, seeing his insane new power level. We both know this fight is barely starting. Even the venomous demon realizes this lower-level kid is an absolute nightmare to fight against. The guy does not look like a returnee, but his movements scream decades of relentless, brutal training. Sungmin launches himself forward as his opponent meets him head-on. They are clashing so violently there is zero room to breathe, neither landing a clean shot. Sungmin violently twists away from a lethal strike. Suddenly, the enemy's eye flares up with incredibly dense magic. The guy unleashes a wild storm of slashes. Our protagonist just grips that spear tight, completely focused. He forces his way through, sprinting at max speed without hesitation. The bearded enemy just laughs openly, taunting the reckless charge. Triggering the 9,000 martyrs move in 3 flat seconds, he aims for blood. But that crazy sword keeps shifting unpredictably. The enemy panics. He has zero clue about this strange spear rhythm. Bam! A massive, brutal strike absolutely shatters his shoulder. Stumbling back hard, the injured guy desperately fights to stay upright. That lightning-fast upward swing caught him completely by surprise. But this psycho, he thinks this whole life-or-death battle is hilarious, bursting into crazy laughter. Just looking at his martial arts alone, the kid fights exactly like a seasoned grandmaster. Meanwhile, Sogo is locked in a desperate, deadly showdown with the little celestial demon's other fierce follower. Desperate to end Sungmin quickly, the enemy takes off all the limiters. There were 3 massive secrets this venomous demon completely missed. 1. This boy is friends with his master. 2. Those exact skills he admires were refined by that same master. And 3. That beloved master is the one who will eventually execute him, so that is where we leave it. The bearded guy suffers a fatal strike, dying completely clueless. Alright, stick with me, we are jumping right into pure chaos. The second Ouija Hoyan appears. Boom, instant kill. The other guy is absolutely horrified, seeing the little celestial demon just casually slaughter the venomous demon, her most loyal follower. I mean, even if she literally did not care, they still worshipped her as their master. Their only dream was seeing her conquer the entire world while everyone watched her reign. So he just cannot wrap his head around why she would execute her own loyal follower. And Ouija Hoyan Zero regrets. Completely cold. Furious, he sees talking is totally useless. Murong Taikang snaps and screams that the little celestial demon has to die. Watch closely, here, he dies instead. Why? Because this Ouija Hoyan is actually a fake. They had never even seen a dungeon clone before. So yeah, every single demon following Ouija Hoyan gets completely wiped out. Meanwhile, that creepy copy starts walking toward our duo. Sogo immediately yells at someone to run. She points straight at a massive hole in the wall, shouting that the drunk and the mountain warrior are past it. Sungmin needs to drag them back for the next fight if they want any chance to survive. But our main character argues Sogo is way faster, meaning she really should go instead. He flashes a weak smile, practically begging her to do it. She cannot say no to a comrade, and finally agrees, tossing him a healing elixir on her way out. Right before bolting, she pleads with him to stay alive. Our hero thinks he will survive, or at least hopes so. Now let that sink in for a second. The 2 guys are screaming face to face. In his past life, only Ouija Hoyan survived this dungeon. Whenever anyone asked what happened to the rest, she coldly said they died. So naturally, everyone figured the little celestial demon killed them all herself. But now Sungmin finally gets the real truth. That armband Ouija Hoyan wears, it is an artifact that rapidly buffs or nerfs her raw firepower. This time, our main character might actually change history. He braces himself, completely ready for the absolute worst. Still, backing down is not an option. He faces his massive fear, grabs his weapon tight, and charges straight in. But that impact force is totally insane. It honestly feels like his arm might rip clean off. Then boom, the enemy just blasts him away with 1 hit. Let's jump in. While Sogo, the drunk, and the mountain yaksha fight the old woman, he has no clue if they'll actually help. Bam! Another massive strike sends our guy flying. But his will to live is absolutely insane. He has to survive this. He made too many promises to just give up now. He has to endure and keep fighting. He needs a way to bring this crazy woman down. His body is totally wrecked, but his mind is sharp. Digging into his 2,100 years of spiritual training, he recalls every trick. He needs to rush the front and exploit her weakest side. The little celestial demon barely reacts. Still, she notices him gearing up for another attack. High up in the air, he tries to close the gap. Gripping his spear tightly, he realizes this nightmare could literally last forever. Even so, he refuses to quit. Suddenly, a strange voice calls him a brat and asks if he noticed something. This boss monster isn't even fighting seriously. She is just playing around, flexing all that crazy power and experience. Since these copies perfectly mimic the original, he remembers Ouija Hoyan rarely ever uses martial arts. Thinking hard, it hits him. She only busts out the real martial arts for worthy opponents. So even if she is just messing around, our boy officially earned her attention. He thinks of Sogo and prays she stays far away. He finally gets it. He is fighting a literal monster. Meanwhile, the others are clashing with the evil old woman. Back there, Sogo is screaming that they need to help him. Time is running out and she wants to join the main fight. If the guys refuse, she is going back completely alone. A wild look fills her eyes. Drunk grabs her with his only working arm, warning that her crazy plan is pure suicide. They severely underestimated the enemy. Taking down Ouija Hoyan takes 5 times more strength. The drunk insists they must retreat immediately. The yaksha argues their only escape is killing the boss. But the drunk reveals a magic scroll taken from the grandma. It is a brutal choice, meaning they have to leave a friend behind. While they argue, Sogo suddenly drops completely unconscious. Bam! A blinding light explodes from the hole. A super regretful voice begs for forgiveness while our hero keeps fighting the little celestial demon. Blood completely pours from his mouth, his eyes wide with shock. Watch closely because things get wild. She rushes him at blinding speed, forcing our guy to frantically track attacks from every single direction. The mysterious voice actually helps, shouting exactly where her next strike is coming from. But he just can't keep up with every instruction. Totally fed up, he yells at the voice to shut up. He knows dying here means rotting forever. And Beck Sogo still hasn't returned. The voice whispers that she totally betrayed him. If he hadn't played the hero, he wouldn't be in this massive mess. But honestly, he doesn't care if he dies taking Sogo's place. He is absolutely certain something bad stopped her. Besides, without her help earlier, he would have totally died on that mountain anyway. Voice just chuckles darkly. Even after that epic speech, the kid really can't die here. So Heoju steps in and an insane transformation kicks off. Clueless but desperate Sungmin just accepts the power. I know what you're thinking. True crushing power. Weiji Hoyan just quietly watches the epic upgrade happening. This power is surprisingly easy to use if your purpose is clear. Suddenly, a blinding light bursts right out of his armor. It is the voice's raw, spiritual energy, and our boy's heart eagerly soaks up every single drop of it. His brutal wounds start instantly closing, even healing his arm. The mood shifts entirely. He is copying the original's pure pride. Right then, the copy sees him as a true rival. Meanwhile, this insane power might literally burst his veins. The voice screams at him to hold on. Across the room, Weiji Hoyan furiously prepares her own attack. It is his very first time feeling strength like this, but somehow it is still not enough. He totally refuses to back down. He demands even more energy from the voice, even if he has zero clue how to control it. A weak body shouldn't survive this much juice, but he recognizes the feeling. He actually reached this peak once before. If he can just hit the level he mastered in the spiritual world, he can crush this doppelganger. Going all in, he demands more power. His glowing spear powers up, blasting wild spells in every single direction. Weiji Hoyan rushes him in a blind fury, but her eyes widen in pure shock. Bam! Our hero completely blasts her away. She slams hard into a wall. Debris goes flying as she gets stuck. The 9 heavenly spear arts are now being fully unleashed for the sacrifice. He only needs to hold on a few more seconds. Massive energy ripples out, setting off more crazy explosions. Absolutely furious, the little celestial demon jumps right back into the fight. You and I are not ready for this. Raw power gathers in her hand, launching her absolute strongest attack straight at our hero. Stick with me here. Sacrificing his eyes with 6 seconds left, raw power violently exploded from his entire body. Using that insane strength, our guy stepped up to deliver absolute justice. Weiji Hoyan took the hit and went flying back. Her red eyes instantly darkened. Right then, a blinding white light erupted across the entire dungeon. Even our hero looked completely stunned by his victory. The copy just stood there. Suddenly, pure agony hit him, sweat pouring, veins bulging. He started this crazy journey 9 years ago. For thousands of perceived years, he kept running, fueled by the little celestial demon. Lacking total confidence, he honestly just wanted to know if he had leveled up even a tiny bit. Voice totally roasted him, saying he only won using borrowed strength. Basically, having massive power and actually mastering it are two different things. Then came the terrifying warning. The borrowed power was about to be ripped away, and the backlash could literally kill him, claiming he was used to suffering the energy drained out. Immediately, an absolutely horrifying expression twisted his face. Watch closely now. His eyes bulged in unbearable agony, and suddenly his entire body started glowing with intense light. He screamed as the energy vanished. A girl appeared beside him. Touching his stomach, Rubia desperately asked if he was okay. His shattered body fought that nightmare pain for a whole hour. Not even the woman's special healing elixir was enough to fix him. Without it, instant game over. Once again, he completely owed his survival to Sogo after nearly crossing death's door. Limbs, joints, and his torn cape were totally wrecked and bleeding. Barely able to twitch, he still fought to stand up. Mumbling he had a place to be, he stumbled forward. Glancing back, he watched heavy stones crushing that evil old woman. Right beside him, Rubia sensed massive mana resonance and teleportation magic activating. An escape scroll warped 3 people away. Knowing Sogo successfully fled the dungeon, his mission was complete. But he just kept walking forward, never looking back. Checking the map, he pushed straight toward the boss room. His ultimate target, Weiji Hoyan. Staggering, he refused to stop or rest. Rubia kept shouting at him, but he stayed totally silent. Suddenly, our hero lost his footing and collapsed. Enduring 2,100 years of struggle had finally left him entirely drained. For 9 solid years, he pushed himself this hard, risking absolutely everything just because of a 13-year-old kid's passing words. He desperately wanted to show Weiji Hoyan his wild progress and scream that she made him stronger. Time was running out until his eyes locked onto something. There she was, Weiji Hoyan. His entire expression shifted and that childish urge to show off completely evaporated in an instant. He watched her move. A single step more flawless than he could have ever imagined. No cheap clone could mimic that perfection. After all this time, the person standing right there was the real Ouija Hoyan. Radiating unmatched power and flawless form, the girl figured he was probably the dungeon boss. Walking forward, she admitted he was annoyingly powerful. Honestly, in her past life, she definitely would have lost to him. She mentioned fighting a monster that looked just like him using ancient martial arts. To her, just a really fun warm-up opponent. You feel the hype too, right? She knew Lee Sungmin leveled up, and now he could finally answer properly. Hiding behind a wall, he was totally confused. Smiling weakly, he claimed he was just too filthy to face Ouija Hoyan like this. Intrigued, she asked who beat him up so badly, giving him major props for surviving this long while leaning back against the wall. Congratulating him, she said. Sungmin finally achieved his dream. They kept chatting, separated by that massive thick wall. Those 9 long years were huge for our warrior. For Sungmin, they represented endless blood sweat and insane hard work. Going quiet, she suddenly asked if he was backing out. Like she always said, she absolutely hated people projecting their expectations onto her. Whether in her old world or this one, she was constantly judged by those annoying, awful stares. But with Sungmin, she actually would not have minded. He quickly apologized. She thought he was rejecting her, but he swore that wasn't true. Sungmin realized if he joined her right now, he would be stuck in her shadow, constantly struggling just to feel worthy of standing beside her. Even if his strength surprised Ouija Hoyan, it still was not nearly enough to satisfy his own pride. Smiling, she realized just how greedy he was. 9 years down and only 1 single year remained before their promise expired. He needed 1 more year to catch up to her god-tier level. He boldly declared that after exactly 10 years he would finally join her. A massive grin lit up her face, totally respecting his greedy ambition. She decided waiting just a bit longer was worth it, but she warned him it wouldn't be easy. In 1 year, she promised to be even more insanely powerful than him. Hearing his answer, Ouija Hoyan saw his epic character development. Standing up, both their faces locked onto their own ultimate goals. Honestly, she wanted to drag him away right then, even by force. She was dying to turn around and see his face, but she held back. Trust me, the wait is worth it. Next year they will reunite, drink, and finally say everything openly. All right, you and I are diving right back into the drama. Light hits her face stepping through the portal, suddenly realizing she never even told him she missed him. Outside that dungeon, someone screams in pure despair. Byogo demands to know why the man pulled her out of Somian just to stay behind instead. The drunk guy swears he had zero choice, but she is not buying it. To her, that move was straight up cowardly, not heroic. Turning her back, she casually drops that she is quitting the Maram Alliance. She refuses to stay in a pathetic place like this, and that guy better never look for her again. Honestly, the whole thing absolutely disgusted her. The drunk just stands there crying silently. She asks Li Mei for forgiveness, knowing deep down that she desperately needs to get a whole lot stronger. Normal humans walking this earth have morals to keep society from crumbling. But some completely trash those rules and just cross the line. Monsters that literally drink blood to survive. Freaks who reject death entirely, living in the most twisted ways. Creatures tossing honor out the window. Basically nature's absolute barbarians, the ones whose power even reaches the moon. You can barely call them human anymore. They are literally known as non-humans. Our guy's face completely frozen in shock. Completely lost, he wakes up somewhere that feels instantly familiar. But honestly, he has zero clue where he is or what is happening. Pay attention here, because this is huge. A voice asks why he looks so pale. It is the monarch of the void. He asks where the heck they are. The monarch smirks, it is a dream. Borrowing that epic power forcefully linked their spiritual minds. So, when our hero fell asleep, he got pulled inside. His physical body is getting wrecked by side effects, but he will survive. Breathing a sigh of relief, he is still super paranoid. Everything since that insane trial feels like one massive, crazy fever dream anyway. The Void Monarch casually mentions he took this friendly shape just to keep him totally relaxed. Then he decides to drop the disguise. Dark energy explodes everywhere, and a second later, a terrifyingly weird figure just materializes right there. Behold, the great demon, the Void Monarch himself. In their original state, these legendary demons actually look surprisingly human. Even though it is not his real flesh, the guy is just thrilled to rock this form again after forever. The boss demon has questions. He seriously wants to know what our main character actually is. Surviving that borrowed power should have been completely impossible for a normal kid. Yet somehow our guy handled that massive energy, perfectly flexing it like his own skills. Honestly, without the monarch stepping in, our boy would be totally dead. His base stats were trash. While sharing that power, the demon actually felt the kid's raw emotions, something this ancient boss had never ever experienced before. Plus, the kid had a mental shield so thick it blocked the demon from stealing his body. So the hero finally decides to confess everything. He drops the bomb, he is a regressor. He explains all that grueling training from the gods, mercy and dare. Suddenly, the monarch finally gets why his mental defense is god tier, even if his actual physical level is completely garbage. 2,100 years, stuck grinding in a mind world. The demon literally laughs, calling that whole method ridiculously stupid. Mentally, our hero is older than this weird demon, but to an ancient being he is still just a total baby. The kid's physical body just cannot handle 2 millennia of brain training. Even after 2,100 years, the monarch still roasts him for being pathetically weak. I know what you are thinking. Demon time, right? The monarch actually offers to turn him into one. Hearing this, our guy freezes up, totally speechless. He already felt the nasty side effects of that dark power, his heart practically becoming a monster's. If he transformed, he would easily become one terrifyingly interesting demon. He might even outscale that woman he is so obsessively chasing. The kid breaks into a cold sweat. Eyes wide with panic, he finds the guts to reject the deal. Still, ignoring that massive inhuman power inside him is basically impossible. Flashback time. He remembers the old man telling him to travel north. Destination: the land of 1,000-year snow, to meet a mystery contact in exactly 5 years. So the squad hits the road to the northern city, Travia, though the girl is totally confused why. Why endure this freezing icebox for 3 whole months anyway? Chomping his food, the hero points out there are barely any rest stops here. A voice suggests transforming to save rations, and the girl just screams at it to shut up. Our guy just keeps chewing like normal. It has already been 3 brutal months since then. Since breaking out of that dungeon, the horrible side effects of the Void Monarch's power really wrecked him. Without even healing up properly, they marched north, just like Master Bullion ordered. Now, 90 days later, Travia is finally in sight. According to Neville's intel, this frozen wasteland was once ruled by the savage celestial demon. After that, Guy lost an arm to a lesser rival. Wild monsters and demons started spawning literally everywhere. Honestly, Travia was always a hub for shady, non-human factions. It is literally famous for being the absolute kingdom of non-humans. So what do you and I expect here? Void demons, liches, vampires, werewolves, total nightmare, fuel, trust me. After thinking about it, our guy finally got it. He had been smelling wet dog for miles. Creepy, glowing eyes suddenly peeked out from the dark forest. Yep, they had definitely reached their destination. Several werewolves burst from the trees. Stick with me here because our guy just smiles, ready for some exercise. The furious beasts charged right at them. The girl screamed that night-buffed lycanthropes immune to normal weapons would kill them, but he honestly just tuned her out. Because right then he remembered the crazy elf who forged his spear. He had scored this insanely pure piece of orichalcum, dropped right after he smashed that dungeon doppelganger into dust. He needed a legendary spear, and literally tipped the blacksmith with the leftover god-tier scraps. She was crying, tears of joy just touching the metal, totally baffled he'd use it for a simple spear. Seeing her literally shaking, he casually asked her to upgrade his armor with the leftovers instead. So flashing back to the fight, yeah, his weapon was completely overpowered. Moving like an absolute blur, he blitzed the pack one by one. His spear just brutally smashed right into their snouts. His insane speed left the wolves completely dizzy. He gave the spear a smooth spin and impaled them straight through the chest. Pausing, he realized he casually wiped out half the pack. Tilting his head, he honestly asked why they even attacked. One angry wolf snarled that he was dead meat. They screamed that he had just trespassed right into the ghost wolf sex turf. Let's pause here. He casually claps back that he didn't even know they had a turf. The furious wolves blamed him for completely ruining their village income. That finally made him remember thrashing those guys selling the girl as a slave. The beast just stood there unfazed. Slicing another wolf down, our hero laughed, calling them the actual villains of this story. He offered them a deal, stop biting, and he walks away. But these guys were way too stubborn to just give up. Before the wolf could even bark an answer, bam, a flawless strike. In a single flash, that werewolf lost its head completely. A mysterious voice from his bracelet sighed, asking what his plan was. His answer: you do not need plans for killing garbage. The voice groaned that with his power he could have one-shotted all 10 instantly. Our guy just blinked, totally lost. Apparently his flashy spear spins made him look like an arrogant gamer, just showing off his combo moves. The voice then dropped a bomb. The crying girl right beside him was weirdly similar to those savage wolves. She cried, explaining that night creatures serve a master, spawning weaker kids far away. Since werewolves were low-tier trash, they just built sad little copycat villages. If their boss was the guy, the bracelet suspected they were about to get wrecked. Right now, our hero lacked the stats to beat that boss. He really needed to stop treating this like a tutorial zone. Sungmin rolled his eyes. Was this monarch seriously saying he should have just let Rubia become slave cargo? Rubia started bawling and blaming herself, but the bracelet bluntly said this aggro was unavoidable anyway. Cutting the chatter, it gave one chilling warning. You and I know how this goes. The monarch of the void's grim warning. Yeah, it came true almost instantly. Footsteps approached. A smooth voice suddenly announced it was a true pleasure to meet them. The bracelet practically vibrated with the monarch's pure rage. Then a white-haired dude rocking a bizarre coat casually stepped right out of the shadows. Enter Juwon, the legendary Mad Wolf himself and boss of this sect. Our hero's tense muscles showed he was sweating bullets now. The boss coldly scanned the area, staring at his slaughtered pack. Seeing his followers wiped out, he glared, demanding the kid's name. Swallowing hard, our hero actually introduced himself. Hearing the name Lee Sungmin, Juwon immediately recognized him as the infamous Phantom Spear. He figured this kid was an unorthodox sect punk. He definitely had that crazy look. But honestly, none of that mattered right now. An insane, suffocating aura exploded out of Juwon's body. He was fully ready to execute this boy and avenge his fallen pack. Choked by that killing intent, Sungmin froze solid. Suddenly, a booming voice ordered the Mad Wolf to stop right there. The Void Monarch totally roasted him, asking if he wasn't too old to be bullying children. Feeling that signature aura, Juwon instantly recognized his old rival. 4 long centuries had passed, and Juwon fully believed this guy was dead. The shocked wolf demanded to know why he was currently freeloading inside a teenager's bracelet, but the monarch stayed silent. Honestly, he did not even know if his original body was truly gone. Triggered by an ancient grudge, Juwon remembered a super humiliating defeat. The monarch just laughed, noting that Juwon used to be way more unhinged back in the day. Flexing his authority, he ordered Juwon to pack up and get lost immediately. Our boy just watched this insane family reunion, quietly ready to fight if needed. Surprisingly, Juwon shrugged, claiming he was just passing through and didn't really care about the grunts. For today, he'd actually let it slide. He then casually asked if our hero was traveling straight toward Travia. Turning his back, he dropped a dark warning. Watch your step, because the others in this world won't be nearly as forgiving, and that's where we leave it. The Mad Wolf vanishes, and trust me, if they actually fought, our boy was toast. Stick with me here. Juwon was a 100-year-old monster, and easily one of the strongest non-humans to ever exist. The monarch bragged that the kid would be totally dead without his help, basically weak as a bug. But our warrior ignored him completely. Crazy part, Juwon only ran a small sect. Even up at the top, wilder power levels were waiting. Still, Lee Sungmin actually smiled, finally getting how massive this world was. The fear faded, and seeing a clear path forward just pumped him up. But Juwon's warning kept echoing in his head: other monsters would show zero mercy. He had no clue who Juwon meant. Meanwhile, the Mad Wolf stood in absolute darkness. Meeting the Monarch of the Void again had him stunned. How did that soul survive without a body? He dug deep into his memories. No doubt about it, that was the real monarch surviving for 400 years. He was hiding inside that famous human, the Phantom Spear. That kid was probably the guy who smashed Janella's favorite little toys. The woman admitted she didn't care at first, but now, this boy was a serious headache. Taking a closer look, she noticed his new aura. Completely human, yet the kid felt exactly like one of them. And thanks to the monarch's presence, the wolf let him walk away free. Either way, she made her choice. She would track his every move toward Travia. He couldn't just rush in blindly, not with that insane energy hiding inside a human vessel. Right now, that was all the intel they had. If things went south, the predators would tip off Juwon. Heoju was finally found. Neville pulled out a file packed with Travia's secrets, exposing enemy patterns and faction details, then tossed the heavy intel to Lee Sungmin. Pay attention here. Predators, non-humans, and 5 massive bosses, the Black Stars. The danger level was completely off the charts. Those others Juwon warned about? Definitely the predators. And Mad Wolf was sitting right at the top as a black star. Realizing 4 more absolute beasts were waiting out there made our hero sweat. Centuries-old monsters, yeah, fighting them was going to be pure nightmare fuel. If he actually wanted to survive the next round, letting the monarch take control seemed logical. Even so, the kid flat-out refused to become a monster or give that bracelet spirit a free pass. His master walked that exact dark road before. To honor him, he would push forward, using only his own hands, keeping his humanity intact. The monarch thought rejecting free power was a joke. But our guy clapped back. He didn't want any strength. He hadn't bled and sweated for himself. Honestly, the MC got lucky. Juwon spared him. A voice suddenly muttered. A crazy lady in that place really liked guys just like him. Staring at the absolute wreckage everywhere, the red-haired girl was totally speechless. She scoffed. Everyone sucked up to him when he was on top. But the second he fell, backstabbed. Yet his broken body still wiped them all out. Standing right there, he only looked more intense as a massive wave of energy exploded from him. She gently touched his face, calling him pathetic. Then bam, straight up punched him right in the jaw, without blinking. Looking desperate, he yelled at the vampire to back off. No way was he falling for a trap from a sketchy woman like her. This was Baek Museon, the celestial demon and Travia's old king. You saw that too, right? The vampire was totally obsessed and even she didn't know why. But a crazy, intense guy like him just made her heart absolutely pound. Licking her fresh wounds, Janella, the vampire queen, and a literal black star decided right then she was taking Baek Museon for herself. Accept her deal, and she would regenerate his arm and grant enough power for total revenge. Right on cue, brutal agony ripped through Bekmusian's entire body. Gritting his teeth in pure pain, he flatly refused. Nella fully expected a yes, so that rejection pissed her off. Even beaten by some young rookie, his willpower was iron. Honestly, that just made him hotter. But with every single rejection, that fierce inner fire would slowly burn out. It was only a matter of time before he broke. But Janella wouldn't even be satisfied. Classic villain behavior. Once she finally got her shiny new toy, she would just get bored. She had been playing this toxic game for centuries. Walking away in dead silence, a guy suddenly yelled for his master. She spun around fast. His report, a seriously weird kid just walked into town. Human face, sure, but his aura was completely alien. Instantly, Janella realized this was the exact rookie Juwon had complained about. She laughed, thinking Mad Wolf was a complete idiot for letting this kid walk away. Playing it cool like she didn't care, she went to check him out anyway. Slumped by a wall, some guy with a massive chest wound looked half dead. The background crowd just kept walking like mindless zombies. But the real fighters, they felt that suffocating tension everywhere. Travia was finally here. But thanks to that crazy attack on the celestial demon, the streets were pure chaos. Zooming in, there were literally mountains of dead bodies. The monarch warned him fast, these were not normal humans. Vampires, lycanthropes, non-humans basically took over Travia. Trust me, you'll want to see what's next. Fast forward. These guys usually stay hidden, so seeing them walking around openly proves this city is super messed up. Rubia complains, asking if they seriously had to come here based on that old guy's sketchy intel. Suddenly, Lee Sungmin freezes in his tracks when an unfamiliar voice speaks to him. Trust me, we pause here. Startled, he notices Janella beside him with bright yellow eyes claiming she's super important.